face to the Clash Royale tournament scene, defeated Isopa in the top 8, and then took down Skills in the first North American bracket play finals. His well-designed Lavaloon deck used a follow-up Baby Dragon to destroy Skills in a 2-0 sweep. C. McHugh, one of the most hyped players of this tournament, didn't lose a single game as he steamrolled his way to the finals, where he faced off against B-Rad. C. McHugh used a Splash Yard deck that was custom tailored to take down B-Rad's infamous Minor Poison deck. The North American bracket was stacked with veteran tournament players. In Day 3, Rice took down the tournament favorite Wings in a thrilling 3-game match. Rice used his custom Lavaloon deck to secure his victory. Day 4 saw a new star rise, Godslayer, a relatively unknown player who defeated Skills in the finals by using a unique Lavaloon deck. This deck featured a rocket as both a defensive utility and a guaranteed endgame option. As both towers' health dwindled, Godslayer's balloon dropped a final bomb to win the series against Skills. Day 5 saw Batman, a tried and true veteran of the Clash Royale tournament scene, take the finals against Wings, using a minor to deliver the finishing blow. Batman used a throwback giant beatdown deck, punishing log players by withholding viable targets and keeping down swarm troops with triple spells. Unstoppable lived up to his name on Day 6, sweeping 8 straight games. Going up against Kennen in the finals, both players used Lavaloon decks. Unstoppable's decision to use Elixir Collector allowed him to build up the bigger push and seal his victory right as time ran out. Day 7 saw the release of Night Witch, and both NA finalists leaned heavily on this new card. Tin 2 played Giant and Night Witch at the river, 3-crowning Isopa only 63 seconds later. The final qualifier tournament saw Oxalate taking the win against that one guy while both using nearly identical Night Witch graveyard decks with Executioner in support. In the deciding game, that one guy missed a lethal lightning opportunity, giving Oxalate his final win.
Today on Tournament Talk, we have analysis of key matchups, Coach Woody breaks down some gameplay, and we meet from North America, Oxalate. Tournament Talk starts now.
The Crown Championship Series is going to crown the best player in Clash Royale.
This is our first ever global tournament.
There are a million people
Asia, Europe, Russia,
The
Oceania.
highest level of competition.
playing this tournament for $1 million.
Rarely get to find the true champion.
These players crave respect. They want the achievement. They want the accomplishment. Come
The
November,
best
I cannot wait to see who's going to be wearing that golden crown.
Welcome back, Clash Royale fans from around the globe, to this week's episode of Tournament Talk. They're clapping like madmen out there because they are as excited as I am for the very first kickoff weekend of the spring season. I'm the Rumham, and here on Tournament Talk, we are going to be your one-stop shop for everything Crown Championship related. We're going to have deck analysis, gameplay reviews, voices from around the community, and even a pep talk from Coach Woody this week. Every week we'll have 8 stories for you, which you can see beep along the little sidebar here. But our top story this week is, of course, the kickoff weekend of the spring season. Yeah! All right. The North American play begins right after Tournament Talk, so stick around because the best players in the world are about to settle it with a duel. That's right. The top 8 from every single region are going to have to battle each other in round-robin play. None of these superior examples of Clash Royaling are going to get away without battling every other member of their region over the next 3 weeks. This first week, we have some amazing matchups that I cannot wait to cover. Tournament play begins today on Saturday. Right after Tournament Talk, enjoy the North American Top 8. The spring season for Europe and Latin America begins Sunday, 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time for Europe and 5 p.m. Brasilia time for Latin America. For more details, make sure to check out the official Crown Championship website. We are just moments away from the spring season kickoff, but first, I'd like to introduce you to a segment we're calling Coach Woody. Woody, one of the European broadcasters and a good friend of mine, has been obsessed with these week 1 matchups. He has been checking out the gameplay, analyzing the decks, and he's got a few things you should be keeping an eye on in this first week of competition.
Thanks very much, Rumham. Now, I've been looking at all these top players who have made it to the Crown Championship because I really believe that studying the best is the best way for you to improve as a player as well. So, why don't we take a look at our first player, Adam from Sweden. He's really known for being a great mechanical player. He has perfectly timed drops. The defensive troops don't take any more damage than absolutely necessary. Spells hit every single troop in their intended target, and he never reaches 10 elixir. He has always got the next card ready to go, hovering it over his opponent's area of the battlefield here and ready to get the killer drop in there to get as much damage as he can out of every single drop of elixir while avoiding as much of an attack as possible from his opponent. There is not going to be a single second that you're going to want to turn away when Adam is in the arena. Now, a player from another region in Latin America, Adrian Piedra, let's take a quick look at his game. Adrian Piedra makes a great move by a deck disguise. He was playing really slow, careful, pumping up with an elixir collector and just playing chippy attacks out the left side, but with about a minute left, he finally reveals the big attack in this deck. It's the 3 Musketeers, the most expensive card in all of Clash Royale. The 3 Musketeers present a massive threat. The fact that they can split down both lanes really gave him the opportunity to punch hard at that right tower. The slow pump up and big push on his counterattack gave Adrian Piedra his entry into the Crown Championship. Another player that I'm really looking forward to seeing here in the arena is Godslayer. He's willing to play with your mind a little bit. If you think you've got the upper edge, you have got something else coming to you. Godslayer in this game throws away a log, gives out the oops, and makes his opponent think that he's got the right edge to deliver the killing blow onto this right side tower. But just as his opponent is starting to build up the elixir to fire that last final rocket, Godslayer sends in the balloon right at the bridge, backs it up with a little bit of minion support to sneak into that right side tower, finally gets the last drop in and takes the game. A very clever move by Godslayer. Not something that you'd read about in strategy forums, but if you are a master of psychology, you might still get an edge up on your opponent by playing the correct taunt at the right time.
No!
So thank you very much for joining me here in the coach's office. I'm Coach Woody, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the battles kicking off this weekend in the arena. All these amazing players that we've been taking a look at here today are going to be duking it out in a round-robin format. I am going to be continuing to study these epic games and the slick plays that these guys are able to bring out, and we'll be back again next week to take another look at some of the top plays in the Crown Championship.
Thank you, Woody, for that insight. It's always fun to take a walk around that big old brain of yours. I know as a fan, I'll be watching Adam from the European region, but as a caster, I'm going to keep my 4 eyes trained on Godslayer from North America. This is his debut on the major tournament stage, and I want to see how he's going to perform against all these gods he's been slaying. Next up, another player making their debut on the tournament scene is Oxalate from North America. A member of Hammers Esports, he managed to qualify on the very last day of the CCGS tournament. Let's get to know Oxalate a little better.
Hi, my name is Ian. My in-game name is Oxalate. So I grew up in Pennsylvania. It's very peaceful here. There's not really too much going on, but it's what I know. Haven't really been outside this region at all. I've actually never been on a plane before, so I'm really excited to go to California and experience something different. I was not 666. I actually have a big family, 4 sisters and 2 brothers. We play badminton outside, sometimes we play baseball, just a lot of different sports and fun little things we do. My family is very important to me. They're very supportive in everything I do. I show the game to them all the time, what I've achieved, and they're very proud of me. All right, Lane, I'm attacking you. Gotta take this once and for all. I was actually homeschooled my whole life up until high school with my brothers and sisters. So this is the homeschool room. Some of the benefits of homeschooling, you can sleep in, you can go down to the park with some friends, do some work there. Sometimes we just go outside and do some work. It's very chill and relaxed. Right now, I'm actually going to community college. I'm still undecided what I'm going to college for, but I'm probably going to pursue graphic design. I do graphic design whenever I feel like doing something besides Clash Royale, besides a sport. So I'm actually making my own logo just for YouTube, social media. I'm considering pursuing this as a career possibly in the future. So I'm just practicing and seeing what I'm capable of. All right, so this is my room. This is where I play Clash Royale most of the time. Sometimes I'll play in the chair, sometimes on my bed. Sometimes I'll just sit down here and play. I've been playing this game for a very long time, so I have a lot of experience with it. I'm always practicing. I can't wait to go to this championship. I've never even been on a plane before, so just that is an experience in itself. And just everything around it, all the hours I've spent on this game, it's just great to see it coming to something. If I were to win this whole tournament, it would be absolutely insane. It would feel so surreal. All those thousands of hours spent on this game would amount to something, and it would just be the craziest thing.
That was a great video on Oxalate's background. Hey buddy, enjoy your first airline ride. I'm sure no one's ever had a problem with airlines before. As an unbiased caster, all of the North American top 8 are equal to me, but I'll be rooting for Oxalate in today's battles. Hey, speaking of battles, I've brought to the couch an expert from Latin America and North America to talk about the key matchups you should be watching in this first weekend of spring play. I know them pretty well already, but let's make sure that you know Lo5 and Felix.
Hi there, my name is Felix Peralta Jr. My name on Clash Royale is Rocket F. I'm one of the hosts for the Latin American Clash Royale Crown Championship. I have been practicing parkour and freerunning for around 6 or 7 years. My friends think that I'm crazy. Maybe I am, but I like it. When I was a kid, I was always mad, always angry and grumpy. But one day I was playing with my cousins and they pushed me into the pool. The only problem was that the pool didn't have water. I hit my head really hard. It could be that something broke inside my brain or something got fixed. But since that day, it's really hard for me to get sad or angry. I'm always happy and trying to make people laugh around me. If I could be one of the Clash Royale cards, I'll pick the Hog Rider. Hog Rider! I love that one, it's my favorite.
I'm William Copeland. I also go by Lo5 in game. I used to be really into working out. I used to be a really big dude and started going the CrossFit route. I was growing out a man bun, had a beard, and when I quit working out, you don't look as intimidating, so it's a little bit harder to rock the beard, so I ended up shaving all the nasty neck stuff, but as a joke, I left the mustache. I noticed that I got a lot of fun reactions out of people, like, hey, nice mustache. Hooray! And it just sort of became part of me. I mean, I grew up playing way too many video games. My parents hated it, and then I went off to college, ended up being a professional gamer, and dropped out of college, and I'm doing this now. And it just came from playing too many video games, and it's awesome.
Lo-Fi, Felix, great to have you.
Great to be here, man.
We saw a ton of awesome deck innovation in the Crown Championship Series. Was there any decks that jumped out to you right away as sort of the ones that you personally liked watching and casting and what you hope to see today?
The Night Witch changed the game for me. Like, just a couple of days before the tournament, getting the Night Witch, and then some players surprising the other players, saving the Night Witch for the end. That was awesome for me. I think that was pretty amazing. I'm not sure how this will change the actual challenge here, the tournament, because you have to change the entire deck around the Night Witch, because you have the aerial fight for the bats and also the kind of melee attack of the witch. So it's a pretty complete card.
And there's always that flow with new cards. They come out, they're used right away at first, and people go, this is a really powerful card. And then as people learn to counter it, you see a drop off. And the question is, how far does that card drop?
One thing I'm excited to see is how the players will change their decks around this. I want to see how they're going to fight the Night Witch, because I'm thinking that they are assuming that the Night Witch will be there. And I'm assuming that the Night Witch will be there.
Oh, of course.
So I'm so excited to see how they are going to go around it.
The one deck type that I'm excited to see adapt as we move into the round robin stage is actually Three Musketeers, because Three Musketeers going up against Night Witch is a real tough matchup. A lot of those Three Musketeer decks only run like Zap or Log, but that's it. No big spells, no lightnings, rockets, fireballs, poisons, nothing like that. The problem is that those Night Witches behind tanks become really hard to get to, and the Bat Swarm can really overtake your tower. So finding a way to adapt that Three Musketeers deck, which is already such a tight 8-card list without a lot of variety, how that deck is going to adapt to being able to fit in a big spell or maybe like an Executioner to actually kill those Night Witches is going to be probably the next big evolution in the Three Musketeers deck archetype.
It's really cool to see a deck like that that has so many threats. In the past, you had all these games go to draws because you really only had 1 or 2 win condition. It's really nice to see something like this, the 3M build with Minion Horde, for example.
That deck never draws. Like win, lose, doesn't draw.
It's going to the end one way or another.
That's what's awesome about these events is we really get to see what decks are truly that good, really on another level in terms of construction and having answers to all the problems and all that stuff, because you're going up against other excellent mechanical players also playing well-rounded decks that don't have like fatal flaws in them.
Yeah, that's true.
In just a few short minutes, we're going to see the very first matches from the spring season. Today alone, we have some A-plus matchups that I want to take a closer look at. Colin McHugh is going up against Lucifer in the North American region, a pretty intense matchup of the Day 1 winner and the Day 2 winner. Who do you think is going to come out on top of that?
It's going to be really awesome to find out who wins. I mean, we have C. McHugh, who won on Day 2, and we have Lucifer, who won on Day 1. Both of these players are obviously phenomenal, but C. McHugh did it without dropping a single game. Lucifer lost 2. C. McHugh played 3 decks, and that's opposed to Lucifer's 5 decks, and I think that lands Lucifer a little bit of a favorable position. Lucifer is an older guy and has the experience from the North American Open and from the arena battles, whereas McHugh coming into this is a younger guy and might be intimidated by all the lights around him, having all these people watching him play, not being home and comfortable in his bedroom. That might actually put him at a pretty significant disadvantage.
Yeah. That matchup is really going to show whether or not McHugh can hang on the big stage, because if he can just beat Lucifer 2-0 right away, then I'm convinced.
Yeah. I'm a little bit worried for C. McHugh, but he has a solid, super strong reputation, so I imagine he'll be able to handle himself. Lucifer, my favorite, I'm hoping comes out on top with some like really cool deck that we just haven't seen before, because again, he's demonstrated that he's capable of playing pretty much anything.
I'm really excited to see how it shakes out today. Lo-Fi, Felix, thanks for joining me on the couch.
A pleasure to be here.
Always great talking to you, Rumham.
Next up is my favorite segment of the week, the only one where I get to talk uninterrupted. It's Gem of the Week. Gem. Gem of the Week is where we try to focus on the most important issue facing the Clash Royale community. And just a few days ago, we heard the biggest news in Clash Royale. That's right, balance changes. That's right, Clash Royale is a game that is constantly evolving. Every month, there are new balance changes introduced to the game that add, a little bit of a buff to weak troops and a little bit of a haircut to cards. They're just a bit too powerful. and the next balance update is coming Monday, June 12th. It will not affect this week's games, but it will be so important for the next 2 weeks, and of course, the spring finals will use this balance update. A bunch of cards are getting changed, too many to list in this gem, but I want to focus on 2 sets of cards that are going to make the biggest impact to tournament play. First off, swarm cards. Cards that involve lots of bodies within a single card cast have been dominating the metagame, and Supercell is taking a look and trimming some of those cards down. The most important of which is Night Witch. We talked about Night Witch in last week's Gem of the Week, and she is so powerful. I don't think anyone's surprised that she's getting addressed this early. 3 changes are happening to Night Witch to make her a little less powerful while still making her the super fun legendary that she is. Her death spawn is going from 4 bats down to 3 bats. The spawn rate of her bats normally when she's alive is going from 5 seconds to 6 seconds, and the first 2 bats that come out after casting a Night Witch are going to come out just a few seconds slower. This will make her not so overwhelming while making her a great swarm card for all of the decks that have developed around the Night Witch. 2 other swarm cards, Goblin Gang and Skeletons, are each losing 1 member of their crew. Skeletons is going down to only 3 skeletons for 1 elixir, and Goblin Gang is losing 1 spear goblin in the crew. The second set includes 3 cards that have seen a little bit of fringe tournament play but haven't been quite good enough to make it over the hump, and I hope that these buffs make them strong enough so we can cast them every Saturday and Sunday here in the Crown Championship. Those 3 cards are Bandit, Inferno Dragon, and Witch, the original Witch. Bandit is getting a 4% health buff, and she's going to charge a little bit faster. So if you're a fan of that little rascal, she's going to be that much harder to defend and defeat. Inferno Dragon is also receiving a pretty significant health buff, and more importantly, will change targets a little bit faster. What that means is when the Inferno Dragon is surrounded by minions, skeletons, or spear goblins, we'll be able to kill them a little quicker and move on to the next member. The third change will be to the Witch card, which is a classic. She's been around since the very first days of Clash Royale, but has always struggled to get over that tournament hump and become a real threat on the tournament scene. In this next balance change, she is getting a 5% health buff and a larger splash radius for her damage. We may see Witch as soon as next week in our play with this increase, because she has always been a pretty strong card, and maybe these 2 changes are just enough to get her over that hump. Now, those aren't the only changes. In addition to every card we've just talked about, 5 spells and 2 troops are also being changed. That is a sweeping set of changes for these players to adapt to in just a short few days. But it's important for them to do so, because if you want to win, you've got to be on the cutting edge of tournament play. And that's why you come to Tournament Talk, to learn about the breaking news here in the Clash Royale community. That's going to do it for this Gem of the Week. And next up for you, we've got something very special. This is Community Corner. Community Corner is the place each week here on Tournament Talk where we feature 1 video from the Clash Royale community. We're looking for anything related to the Crown Championship, so if you've got interviews with pro players, gameplay analysis, or just funny memes, make sure to send them in to this link below, and you have a chance to be featured to millions of Clash Royale players around the globe. Let's see who made the cut this week.
What's up, guys? Colton W83 here to talk about the Night Witch. The Night Witch is a card that has taken the competitive scene by storm. She's used in almost every deck for good reason, and she has the unique ability to constantly spawn bats, creating pressure and positive elixir trades on both defense and offense. And she can kill almost any building targeting troop or tank, because the bats target air, and she also has a melee attack that does a very significant amount of damage to ground units as well. And to top it off, she has very good HP, and she almost functions as an Inferno Tower, being one of the best defensive units in the game, but she also has the unprecedented ability to survive that defense for only 4 elixir and counter push, either by herself doing a significant amount of damage with her death bats, or by a tank being placed in front of her, tanking for those bats, keeping them alive, enabling the bats to finish off any defensive unit, while also then giving her more time to build up these bats so that she's a bigger threat on offense. And this just constantly creates positive elixir trades because she finishes off these units, and then she creates a situation to where your opponent has to defend her. And due to this fact, due to that she is always creating positive elixir trades, just the normal decks within the meta are unable to defend her, and she's so good behind tanks, she has to be countered in multiple ways in every single deck. So if a deck doesn't have Night Witch, it's going to have multiple counters to her. So the main spells that counter her are Poison and Tornado, and this is because they're dots. They're damage over time. They can either displace her or kill her quickly and then kill the bats that spawn, and this takes away value from her. And then the two troops that are the most viable and used in competitive play right now are the Dire Goblin, because it shoots fastly, killing her and her bats, and then the Executioner, of course, because it can kill her with its AoE splash. These are the reasons why the Night Witch has drastically affected the overall Clash Royale meta, and especially the competitive meta, and that's why she has to be in every single deck, or these counters to her must be in every single deck.
Wow, that video was amazing. Who'd have thunk if you took thousands of still images, played them quickly in sequential order, it'd create motion? Remember, the Community Corner is your place to be heard, so if you'd like to see your video featured here next week to millions of Clash Royale players around the globe, send it to this link below. We are looking for anything that is related to the Crown Championship and good, so mush them together and your video could be seen here next week. Hey, speaking of the community, whatever happened to Backstab? Since winning $15,000 at last year's Crown Duel to become the reigning defending North American champion, I was surprised to find out that Backstab did not make the cut for the spring season top 8. So I sent a camera out to find out, what's Backstab up to?
Hello, my name is Eric Torres, also known as Backstab X, and I'm the current Clash Royale North American champion.
And the crowd's getting hot. They understand that Backstab is very close to winning this game.
This is
15 seconds until the end.
5, 4, the crowd is going wild.
And that's it. Backstab
$15,000.
the first North American champion of Clash Royale, the ruler of the dueler.
I always see like professional athletes hold up trophies and stuff like that, and always admire it. And this time it was me, so that was a great experience, and I still can't believe that happened. I'm pretty disappointed. I didn't qualify for a top 8 of Crown Championship Global Series. There was a lot of pressure for me to perform in this event. I thrived with being able to use a deck better than anyone else. It was Lava Hound what ended up taking me out. It's really hard to play against. You can play perfectly, but if they get one good push, there goes your whole tower. Oh, it's pretty cool. Skateboarding. This tournament's gonna be really interesting. Even though I didn't make it, I'm really looking forward to seeing my teammate Oxalate. I think he's gonna take the whole entire thing. He always says that he looked up to me, but now I'm looking up to him because he beat 1,000 people on the bracket, and he was always the underdog, and now he's on the top, so I'm really proud of him. Someone just recognized me, and they were like, "Who are you again?" So that was pretty cool. I won the Crown Duel back in December, and I really want to perform like that again for the future. So I think I gotta be smarter on my deck choices, study more of my opponents to see what they play. It's not gonna be easy, but hopefully I can catch up in the next tournament.
So that's what Backstab's been up to, and who can blame him for taking the spring season off to enjoy all the fame and fortune of being a Clash Royale tournament champion. But for today's players, the road to glory is just beginning. Battles are starting not in days, not in weeks, not in hours, but minutes from now. And as we prepare for these first games of the Crown Championship spring season, there's only one question on my mind, and something I want you, the viewer, to keep in mind as you watch these games. Will we see the return of Expo today? Check this out. Expo, the least played major archetype in the qualifier tournaments, yet it had the highest win percentage. Winning nearly 2/3 of the games that it was piloted in, Expo was a threatening force on the tournament scene, but not very dominant. Didn't win in any of the finals. None of the 24 players in the Europe, North American, or Latin American regions qualified from using an Expo deck. That said, it matches up pretty well against some of the dreaded rivals on the tournament scene. Lava Loon, the deck that uses Lava Hound, Balloon, Mega Minion, Baby Dragon, and all sorts of flying troops to put together a nearly all-air attack, has become one of the most dominant tournament decks this qualifier season. It put more people in the finals than any other deck. But one deck that matches up very well against Lava Loon, Expo. These players are some of the most versatile and skilled Clash Royale players in the world, and it would not shock me today if we saw Expo returning to the tournament scene to shoot all these lava hounds out of the air. It is so hard to block an Expo when all of your troops are up in the sky behind their tower. It is so easy to put an Expo at the river and shoot that tower down. I suspect some of these players will match up very well if they can pull out their favorite siege weapon. So that's the big question on my lips. Will people bring back this rarely played but highly effective deck, Expo, to shoot down all of those Lava Hound decks that have been terrorizing the tournament scene? That's going to do it for me. Remember to tune in next week to Tournament Talk starting 30 minutes before the North American Games, your one-stop shop for everything Crown Championship related. We are just minutes away from the first North American Games, so take it away, BBXH, Findable Carpet, and Low 5. Coming up next week on Tournament Talk, we're going to go over all of the results from Week 1, analyze key matchups from Week 2, and get to know our top 8 players a little better. We'll see you next week on Tournament Talk, starting just before the North American Tournament Games.
Welcome to the Clash Royale Crown Championship Global Series, where we had over 1 million players participate. And in North America, over a series of tournaments, we were able to whittle it down to just our final 8. These 8 players right here are going to be competing in what's called a round robin. So over the next few weeks, they're all going to be playing each other one by one and earning points throughout the series. So here's how a match works. They're going to play a best of 3, and when you win a match, you earn a point. Now, the board's clean, so I don't want to explain too much because it might get a little difficult. But what I will give a hint at is if you're in the bottom 2 by the end of the few weeks, you are eliminated and you will not make it to the finals. Now, my name is Finable Carpet, and I'll be carrying you through the action, but I couldn't do it alone. I have with me the beautiful and knowledgeable BBXH and the slightly less, but also beautiful, knowledgeable,
arguable,
Lo-Fi here.
I'll take it.
This is huge for Clash Royale. This is a really big deal. And BB, I know you've been in the scene a little bit longer than Will and I have. What does this mean for everybody?
This is such a big deal. We've had a lot of tournaments in the past, but they've all been regional. So this is our first that is global, bringing players together from all over the world to compete against each other. So this is going to be a true test to see who's the best player worldwide.
Which region do you think is going to be that best person?
North America for sure.
Definitely.
Don't tell Europe and Latin America.
Yeah.
They're
definitely not watching.
So we have a lot of action for you guys. There's so many games scheduled today, but we have a special match we wanted to highlight, get you guys stoked for it. It's going to be Lucifer and C. McHugh. They're our featured match for the day. They're match number 8, so it's a lot of time to go through it. But these players have been around for quite some time.
Oh yeah, I think, let's jump into predictions. So I'm gonna say mine. I think C. McHugh is gonna take it today. I know C. McHugh is a player. He's competed a lot. He won season 2 of Super Magical Cup, so he definitely has a strong resume. He competes a lot. So I think C. McHugh is gonna take it.
It helps that he's not here and playing from the comfort of his home right now. Probably helps him focus a little bit more, but I think Lucifer's gonna take it. He showed himself capable of playing a lot of different decks in the top 8. He played 5 different decks in the last 8 matches and lost with only one of those. I think it was Giant Bandit.
Yeah,
it's the only
Giant Bandit.
It's the only one that he lost with. Yeah. Other than that, he crushed it, and I think he's going to take the energy of being here, use it, and win.
I might have to agree with you. I think just the versatility proved itself a lot, especially in the qualifiers. The players that brought out the most decks tend to win. We saw a player like B-Rad fall because he didn't have a lot of decks to his disposal, and he fell to a lot of players that knew how to counter what he'd bring to offer. So I might have to give it to Lucifer. I do think C. McHugh's undefeated route through the qualifiers meant a lot, but Lucifer won day 1, which is when the competition probably should have been the tightest.
Yeah, well, to be fair, C. McHugh didn't lose at all. Well, I mean, well, he lost day 1, obviously, and had to take it to day 2, but didn't lose at all in day 2. So they're both stellar players. It's going to be an exciting match. Either way it goes.
I mean, C. McHugh, he's good on ladder and he's good in tournaments. So I think that definitely he has proved himself, and I think he's going to do very well today.
So that's not until match 8. So we have quite a lot of time until we have that one. But in the meantime, guess what? That means there's matches 1 through 7.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, we have a lot to look forward to. I'm going to point one out. I'm going to talk about match 3. That's one that I'm really excited about because Oxalate, he is definitely a competitive player, as is Rice. And I can tell just from what I've been seeing on different tournaments online that these players are getting ready for today. I saw Rice competing in an online tournament the other day, and I know Oxalate, he's a competitive player as well, and he's going to bring it today. He's been preparing for sure.
I'm looking forward to match number 5. Oxalate versus Godslayer. Oxalate qualified on day 8, right after the Night Witch came out, so really all you saw that day was Night Witch decks, whereas Godslayer pretty much just played Lavaloon all his way through. With a twist, he put Rocket in, which he's very proud of, that little twist. But I'm excited to see what they bring to the table today, because I mean, if they keep playing the same decks, they're just going to lose. So I imagine both of them are going to switch it up the most out of the rest of the players here.
And you guys can see match number 9 is blank. I promise it's not a mistake, it is on purpose. Match number 9 will be decided by you guys. So if you go to our Twitter, @Clash Royale, these are scheduled matches, so they are part of the tournament, which means they'll still get a point for it, but we didn't put them on the days because we figured you guys would want to decide which days you guys see these matches. So if you go vote now, by the end of the broadcast, we'll be able to see what our final match of the day is going to be. 9 matches, that's a lot of Clash Royale.
Yeah, we've got a full day ahead of us.
I'm
it's going to be
excited.
exciting.
I'm ready
definitely.
for it.
This is huge, and a lot of players haven't been able, we have players here live as well, so they're going to have to make sure that they're a little careful for it. But our first match, Rice and Lucifer. How do you guys feel about it?
Good, I'm ready.
Feeling good. Rice played a lot of Splash Yard. Lucifer played pretty much everything. I'm excited to see what shows up.
I do think so. So we might know a little bit, but we have 2 people on standby that know way more than we do. That might not be as beautiful as these guys, but they're still pretty in their own sake. We have Rum, Ham, and Full Frontage on standby. Take us through the action, boys.
I'm beautiful on the inside, findable carpet. Welcome to the top of Royal Arena. We are about to look down on the field for our first games of the Crown Championship Global Series. I'm Rumham here with Full Frontage. How you feeling at this opening?
Oh man, this is going to be a fantastic day of Clash Royale matches. We have 9 matches ahead, but match number 1 is going to be Lucifer versus Rice. These guys have been veterans in the community for quite some time now. Lucifer has had some live tournament experience. Rice has tournament experience in his own. So what do you think about Lucifer?
Well, we've got the walkouts coming right now on the first debut of our stage. Lucifer coming out of the left side. He is a player who has been around forever. I mean, we're talking, he was a Reddit Alpha for a very long time prior to becoming Alpha Esports. He won a Clash Royale North American Open tournament last fall and competed in the arena battles against Odyssey, who ended up finishing second at the Crown Duel. So he is a very skilled player, a veteran player, not going to be surprised by the lights or the stage. What about Rice?
So Rice, he has had a notorious track record for being able to switch up his decks. Recently, Splash Yard has been his go-to. That's what he won the, what was it, day 3, I believe? He won day 3 with that deck. He is not here today, but that's not going to stop him from
Lucifer gets to dance on him.
Yes.
He gets to do real life BM with no chance of a reply. That's pretty good.
He can throw up the thumbs up and laugh all he wants.
Right.
There's no retort.
You know, school's still going on. A lot of these players are still very involved in their school sessions. We've got a lot of people who are not here this first week, but will be here on future weeks. And of course, all of these players will be here for the finals.
Of course. Academics are important. Kids, stay in school.
Stay in school unless you're going to win $1 million playing Clash Royale. Then reconsider it. So,
all right. So, game number 1 of match number 1 of the day. This is going to be intense right here. We can see the decks on the left-hand side.
These players do not know what decks each other are running, but of course you and me, the viewer, we get to share that knowledge. Lucifer is in blue along the bottom, Rice and red along the top. Both are letting the elixir leak a little bit. They don't want to make the first move because they know how deadly it is to overcommit your elixir on one side and then lose a tower in the other lane.
Yes, and I'd like to point out something interesting. Lucifer has a knight in his deck, and Rice has an ice golem in his deck, and that's the only card that's different.
Yeah, they're both playing what's called the Splash Yard deck, which uses 2 or more splash troops. In this case, we've got Executioner and Baby Dragon. He's going to use the Tornado on defense to pull any sort of attack all together and let the splash damage clean it up. And on offense, you can use the Tornado to pull everything onto the defensive tower so that the Baby Dragon is hitting both the defending unit and the tower. Neither of them wanted to wait till double elixir time, so we've got a Knight coming down the left lane against a Night Witch, and then the Night Witch in the right lane is coming against Rice's Executioner.
Yeah, and the Baby Dragon will clean up the bats. It looks like the Graveyard's going to come down here for Lucifer, but the Baby Dragon is going to defend that Graveyard pretty well, and the Ice Golem will come down to distract Lucifer's Baby Dragon. A well-played defense right there from Rice.
Lucifer did get a little over 500 damage on the tower, so I think he's got to be somewhat happy with that. It wasn't a total waste of elixir, but you're right. Great defensive Ice Golem there by Rice. That's one of the best ways to stop this. We might see a Knight come down. The Knight is going to both tank the Graveyard Skeletons and distract the Baby Dragon. Multifaceted card there.
Yeah, and an offensive poison coming here from Rice, but the Executioner just swept up a ton of those skeletons. But like you said, Rice still got some good damage on that left-hand tower.
You can see the elixir bars between their cameras here on the right side of the screen, and Lucifer has a slight elixir advantage now, but he's got to convert that into damage on the tower because all the elixir in the world doesn't matter if those towers don't go down.
Yep, and minute is about to strike on the clock. We will head into double elixir. Let's see if Lucifer is going to build up a solid push here.
Both players have been very smart about the double elixir timing. They made sure to get a unit out just before it hit so they weren't accidentally leaking a half elixir or so. That's the kind of tornado we were talking about, pulling everything together. If that Baby Dragon can connect, he's going to hit 3 troops. No, the Ice Golem blocks it, but the poison lands on both of them.
And the Baby Dragon is going to do some splash damage, and the poison will take the Executioner and Baby Dragon just a couple ticks from the tower within death, but the Executioner will come down and finish them off in a reset right here for Lucifer and Rice.
These players have a challenging situation. They're both playing the most powerful card in the game right now, Night Witch. Night Witch is so strong that she is getting nerfed on Monday, but until then, these players have to figure out, do you want to play with the Night Witch or against it? It seems both have made the choice to run Night Witch and Executioner, which is probably the strongest card against the Night Witch.
Yeah, and the graveyard placed far in the back allowed the skeletons to come up from behind, while Lucifer was defending from the front of the tower with the tornado pulling all the troops to the front.
Great Ice Golem play there. That's a defensive play you see against graveyard decks. The idea there is to keep those defenders from actually hitting the tower. Oh no! Look at that! The Executioner is hitting along with the poison. That is a ton of damage onto that tower.
And he takes out the Executioner and the Baby Dragon and stops Rice's counter push. But here comes the Night Witch graveyard push. Let's see if Lucifer can defend this.
He only has 500 health to give, and less than that because, of course, the poison's coming in. The bats are starting to swarm. Is this tower going to go down? Oh, it might. It might. There's one skeleton.
One skeleton in the back.
Oh, it's down to 7.
Oh my gosh, if Lucifer can get this graveyard push successfully, he will take game number 1. The Night Witch is going to come down to
He's pulling together.
The tornado comes in.
Oh, it hits.
The King Tower is now activated, 157.
The poison's coming down.
Come down.
7 health, the full frontage, 7 health.
Oh my God,
Rice pulls it off.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievably close game.
Rice was making some beautiful defensive plays right there. He was making sure the tanks wouldn't take the aggro of the Crown Tower, which allowed the tower to focus onto the graveyard and didn't allow the skeletons from the graveyard to build up as much on Rice's tower.
Unbelievable. I mean, you've seen the big winning Rice banner there. 7 health was on Lucifer's tower, and he was only 67 damage away from winning that first game. Now, it's a best-of-3 series.
Yep.
Lucifer is not out yet. He gets to remain on the stage, but he's got to win the next 2 games in order to get that match point win over Rice. If Rice wins games 2 and sweeps the set 2-0, then that means he's going to get a point on the big board, and he doesn't have to play Lucifer anymore for the rest of the spring season round-robin phase.
Now, the question is, do you think the King Tower being activated on that last play affected whether Lucifer won or lost that match?
It's hard to say because, you know, when a King Tower gets activated, it takes a couple seconds to activate. I mean, the King's got to dig in, get his cannon, pull it out, set it on the little red. Yeah, it takes a while. Sometimes if like a Prince charge hits the Crown Tower, it will still hit the King Tower before the King Tower starts shooting. So it's possible that even though it was activated, there wasn't that much time for it to really affect the match. But of course, when there's only a 7 damage difference, there is myriad reasons that could have flipped that game, right? 1 extra skeleton hitting, game's already over.
Yep.
If on the other side, Lucifer could have gotten a few more graveyards, or if, for example, Rice had played a Baby Dragon a second slower, that could have been the game for Lucifer.
Yeah, and I love Rice's defensive plays. Against Graveyard, you need to pull the tanks away to take that aggro from the tower so the tower can focus onto the Graveyard, because that's your main DPS in that push. You just kind of have a glass tank being a Knight or a Baby Dragon or sometimes even an Executioner in that kind of deck. And I think Rice played that perfectly.
There was only one difference between the 2 decks. We had a Knight in Lucifer's deck and Ice Golem in Rice's deck. Which one do you feel like was more effective there in the mirror match?
I think the Ice Golem allowed Rice to cycle a bit faster so he could get pushes off more frequently, where Lucifer in turn he can use the Knight as a defensive card as well, so he has to think, okay, do I want to use it as an attacker, as a tank for my push, or do I want to defend with the Knight and be able to take down some of the graveyards?
We are getting this game started in 5 seconds. I wonder if Lucifer's going to switch his deck, or actually if either of these players are going to switch their deck. I would expect that, we have both still running Night Witch decks, and actually Rice kind of looks like he's still running a Splash Yard deck, but there's a big questionable card in there, 3 Musketeers.
He has 3 Musketeers instead of the Ice Golem. The deck list looks to be the exact same. It is the exact... the 3 Musketeers in there, and Lucifer is now playing
Looks like that might be a deck list error because the Ice Golem comes out for Rice. So it looks like Rice might be playing the exact same deck as last time. Okay. Lucifer has switched to a giant deck, but not giant graveyard, and not even really the giant double minion list. This looks like a custom-built giant Night Witch list that runs cards. Oh, there is 3 Musketeers in there.
3 Musketeers.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
So this is going to be really tough to deal with because if you look at Lucifer's deck, he only has Fireball, but not a Zap to follow it up with, and not a Lightning or a Rocket to take out the double Musketeer side. It's going to have a little bit of a challenge for him.
Yeah, so the Baby Dragon's going to take care of the Night Witch, no problem, but that 1 Musketeer is now going to be coming down that right-hand lane with full health. Let's see what Lucifer does to defend this.
I'm interested to find out what Rice is not playing in place of that. Like, so skeletons are clearly in the deck. So what card is missing from his list to fill that Ice Golem? Because we know he's got Ice Golem and 3 Musketeers. Anyways, Lucifer, there's an Elixir Collector in that list as well. Okay, check it out. Lucifer's got a good opportunity here because he knows Rice is low on Elixir, so he immediately drops the Giant with some support. The Night Witch, though, does so much damage to non-attacking targets, to defenseless targets, that Giant is not even going to make it to the tower. And the Skeletons come down to defend for Rice. Rice is in an incredibly strong position here in Game 2.
Yeah, Rice has been defending Lucifer's push these past 2 games perfectly. The Baby Dragon was focused onto the Night Witch and the bats, but then Rice played the Ice Golem to distract the Baby Dragon and let the Night Witch take down the Giant, which was crucial for Rice's defense, and now he has the ability to throw that pump down and have a huge elixir advantage.
I mean, you can see Lucifer, the body language on Lucifer, he's wiping sweat from his brow. He knows he's in trouble. They have a similar elixir count, but there are 2 elixir collectors on the board for Rice, meaning that he's going to start generating a lot more elixir. Even if he was behind an elixir, he will get ahead from all of the elixir hiding in those pumps.
Yeah, and the 3 Musketeers come down the Fireball Zap! Perfectly timed coming from Lucifer. Finish off all 3 Musketeers. That Giant is going to get to the tower and lock on for a few hits.
Well, let's not count out this Night Witch here on the left side. The Goblin Gang is on it, but those bats are swarming all over the tower. It looks like it might take it here. Good game comes out of Lucifer. That's the downside of being having a negative elixir advantage, right? Is that even if you're answering cards 1 for 1, if they have more elixir than you, they can just present more threats than you have answers in a short period of time.
Yep, and due to the Fireball Zap play, Lucifer was down a little bit of elixir when that Ice Golem Night Witch was coming down that right-hand lane.
I mean, Rice is just playing out of his mind right now. His defense has been great. In this first match, we knew it was going to be a lot of Night Witch against each other, and but this... Whew, Rice's deck looks like it's on another level. He was able to generate so much elixir. Lucifer did not have answers to the elixir collector, at least not in his opening hand. He wasn't able to get a miner down, wasn't able to fireball it very safely without getting punished by the 3 Musketeers, and eventually the elixir just got away from him as Rice just built up a huge advantage and pushed both lanes at the same time to the tower.
Yeah, so Rice's defense, I think defense won him that match.
Yeah. I mean, if you can defend your elixir collectors, the game almost plays itself beyond that point.
Yeah, and not having a punish spell like a rocket to take care of those pumps, and then when you have a rocket in the deck, you can kind of defend the 3 Musketeers with your own troops, and a rocket is typically used for a pump, but having Fireball Zap, that's the same cost as the rocket, but it has the chance to not really allow you to get that defensive play that you need, versus when you can just rocket a pump, you're up elixir now, you're tied in elixir, so...
And that's the challenge of those 3 Musketeer decks. They put out other targets, and you got to choose which one to hit, and if you can't hit them all, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So Rice takes the match 2-0 over Lucifer, our first player to go on the big board. Let's take you back to the locker room and see what they're thinking about that amazing Game 1.
A 2-0 sweep in Game 1. I guess it's not terribly expected. It seemed that Lucifer really struggled. That Night Witch is proving to be so strong. I'm sure Lucifer could not be more excited for her change in the next few days.
Yeah, he's probably really excited for her to get a little bit of a nerf.
No, he did use
he had
her.
it too,
Yeah.
to be fair.
That's true.
Yeah. But I mean, Rice took the first game of the series. I'm sure he's pretty pumped about that.
That was an epic end to that. I mean, that was down to like double and single digits on their towers there with those poisons. That was a shocking first game.
Yeah, I mean, you can see there in the replay that there was just so much on the board. Lucifer is making efficient trades, but there was just so much elixir on Rice's half that Lucifer just couldn't do anything about it. I mean, making efficient trades, but just too much to handle.
Yeah, once he got 2 pumps out, I mean, that's hard to come back from.
And the change to put the pump out, knowing that he really didn't probably have a quick answer for it. Lightning isn't run a lot right now, so I think it's pretty good. It's pretty easy to get a pump out right now, since usually they want the huge pushes with 10 elixir. You see Graveyard Poison, and maybe you can get a little on the pump as well. But yeah, as you guys noticed, I'm sure, Rice wasn't here. He had a previous engagement, so they may have played a little bit. You know, Lucifer has to stand there. I'm sure it's a little bit stressful.
Yeah, I imagine he's sweating up there. Rumham called him out on sweating, wiping the brow. But
I would be too, though, right?
Yeah, I can imagine he's a little bit shaky.
Can you guys play standing up?
No, I've never
I like to
I've never
sit.
tried. I don't know.
That's true. Some people say that's how they play. For me, I'm like, I gotta sit.
Yeah, no, if I was up there, I'd like lock my knees and just crumple in the middle
You
of the
fall
match.
down.
I don't think I've ever actually played standing up.
I don't think I have either.
I
mean, maybe like if
challenge?
somebody like calls me while I'm, or not
yeah.
calls me, but like gets me away from my desk or something while I'm playing a game, I'll probably like stand up and walk away while I play, but that's probably about it.
Yeah, I can only play laying down on my stomach, but I can't do my back. I mostly sit up.
Oh yeah, that's
Definitely
hard.
mostly sit up. All right, so the first match is down. We've got a scoreboard for you guys to keep you up to date on how things are going on. I know it looks a little plain right now, but we'll get plenty. Lucifer now with his first defeat. He's in danger, but he's got plenty of games. Remember, everyone plays everyone else once. Rice now his first one on the board. I'm sure he's feeling good.
Oh yeah.
It's a little unfair to put down arrows next to everybody else. It's
I
really
know.
only Lucifer. Everybody else is probably
Yeah,
feeling a
that's
little
true.
bit bad.
Yeah, they all technically are losing right now to Rice. They all moved down a little bit.
Good job,
and Rice
Rice.
took a move up. Good
2-0
job, Rice.
sweep by Rice. It's pretty good. He's got to feel good.
Definitely feeling pretty good. I mean, hopefully he can carry that momentum throughout the rest of the next 2 weekends. imagine he's feeling pretty confident after taking the first match.
Yeah.
We have lots of Clash Royale for you guys. We have another match coming up, Unstoppable versus Batman. Unstoppable, a player we really hadn't seen in the pro scene. I know you knew a lot of these players for quite some time, and when he came out to take that win, everyone was like, what's happening right now?
He's kind of new, yeah, and Batman, he's been in the game as a competitive player, and actually now they're both on the same esports team now, so this is going to be interesting to see who takes away the crown for this one.
I'm pretty excited for this match. These are a couple of my favorite guys just because their stories of how they got here and what's going on in the home life. Batman wants to be a doctor, I think it is.
Yeah.
And if he wins this tournament, all of that is going towards college, and I'm super excited for that.
These players clearly have a lot going for them, and they work hard no matter what they're going for or what they're doing. But Rumham, I know you're beautiful on the inside. I'm with you, don't worry, guys. But we're gonna get right into the next match. Rumham and Full Frontage, take it away.
Batman versus Unstoppable. This is a lot of storylines in this matchup that I'm excited to talk about. We've got tournament veteran Batman, who's been around and really on the top of the ladder for seasons. I mean, months and months and months we've seen this guy finishing top 10, top 20, top 5 on the ladder multiple times. Unstoppable, new to the tournament scene. Both of them signed to Nova Esports. Batman's been one of their veteran players for a very long time. Unstoppable just joined after qualifying for this.
Yeah, so Batman has had multiple runs in community tournaments. He's been up to the top. He's done this dance, and Unstoppable is his partner today.
Yeah, it takes two to tango down here in the arena. I'm actually really excited to see how they perform because Unstoppable we haven't seen too much of in the past. He's somebody who I think is got a lot of potential. When you watch him, he actually beat, I believe, our Rebel in the finals or in the semifinals of his qualifier tournament. That's someone who I think a lot of people expected to make the top 8. So he's defeated players of Batman's caliber to make it here, but everything can change when you're actually on stage.
Yeah, Unstoppable took down our Rebel in the semis, and then Kennen in the finals.
Right, Kennen's no slouch either.
No, and then Batman, who played dominantly with his giant double minion minor deck, which is being able to double lane pressure, and I feel like that's Batman's gameplay. He wants to keep the pressure up. He's always right in the opponent's face. He wants them to make the mistakes. He's forcing them to play cards that they don't want to, but he wants them to play.
Absolutely. And that's the best thing. You have to be adaptable, and you're going to have to psych your opponent out. Here we are. We've got Batman in red along the top and Unstoppable in blue along the bottom. Both players are not here for this week. They'll be here in future weeks. So, Lightning comes out right away to hit that Elixir Collector. Now, we know from seeing the deck list on the side that Unstoppable's running a 3 Musketeers deck. So that Lightning may come back to bite Batman, but I'm sure he's assuming you see an Elixir Collector, might be a 3 Musketeers deck.
Yeah, that's typically what the deck list is with 3 Musketeers, so we'll just have to see how Batman reacts to this. They're the 3 Musketeers on the field now.
Hog Rider comes in on the weak side Musketeer, only one Musketeer in the very far back. Even though the Musketeer survives and the Hog Rider dies, Batman has to be thrilled with getting almost 700, more than 700 damage on that tower for only 4 Elixir. That's a great trade.
Yeah, the Executioner is going to come down to defend against Miner, but the Musketeer is going to get some good damage on the left-hand side over there.
One of the strongest uses of Miner that I think a lot of new players don't think of is that if you can use the Miner to quickly get to the side or behind an Executioner, you can turn it around and have that line attack not actually hit anything relevant.
Yeah, and that Hog Rider is going to do a ton of damage. Batman was keen to play that Hog Rider as soon as the Elixir Collector came down on Unstoppable's side.
Oh, good defense by Unstoppable, else that tower was going to go down. Unstoppable did get away with an Elixir Collector here. We might be seeing a 3 Musketeers come out really soon because he's going to have that Elixir advantage in order to do it.
Yeah, now the question is you usually play the 2 Musketeers when you split in the back on the tower with more health, but that would allow Batman to get some lightning value hitting the pump and 2 Musketeers.
You're right, and you'd definitely be afraid of putting a second Elixir Collector anywhere near that other tower. He's actually in kind of trouble because if he puts it there, it's going to get lightninged. If he puts it on the other side, both pumps get lightning. So he's sort of in a tough position. I'm kind of surprised Unstoppable even went for an Elixir Collector as opposed to start cycling the 3 Musketeers, but truthfully, he knows this better than I do, so let's see how he does.
The Night Witch is going to come down to defend against the Hog Rider. The Hog Rider still gets 2 shots off on the tower with the Night Witch and Skeletons to defend it, and that Executioner is going to clean up the Night Witch, no problem.
Great Miner placements, gets avoids the Skeleton, avoids the Knight, gets in that back corner, gets some damage in there. This tower, though, is within lightning range, so we have 45 seconds to go. Lightning comes down. All the pressure is now on Unstoppable to actually got to finish that tower off. You know?
Yeah, and his only spell is Zap.
Yeah, he's going to do it with a Miner Zap, and it's sort of weird because he's going for the other lane here, using a Precious Miner kind of in the wrong side, but what do I know? Yeah,
Oh, great tornado right there from Batman to pull everything away, and the bats don't have enough health, same with the skeletons, and they just died of the tornado immediately.
The log tornado 1-2 punch cleaned out nearly all of the swarm troops that we're seeing there, and now Unstoppable's in a really bad position. Like you mentioned, Batman's really set him up into a bad spot here. He needs to go on the lower side tower to try to kill it and win the game, but Batman has put it so the only real place he can go is the high health right side tower. And Batman, despite taking a lot of damage on his towers, hey, the only hit point that counts is the last one. Both of his towers are standing. One tower's down for Unstoppable. Batman takes game 1.
Yes, and this is what we were saying. Batman loves to control this tempo of the battle. He wants the opponent to play something that they don't want to play, but he just keeps the pressure up so much that he makes them play what they don't want to play.
We call that skill game vision. It's like you know, it's more than just being like, oh, this card counters that. I have this much elixir, but rather seeing the flow of how my deck's gonna play out against your deck's gonna play out, how much time's left on the clock, and seeing like, I know that I can create a situation where with 15 seconds left, you're gonna make some hard choices and none of them are gonna be good for you.
Yeah, and I'm blown away by Batman's ability to be able to do that. He's counting the opponent's elixir. He knows exactly what they have, and he's like, okay, if I do this, then they're going to do this, or they're going to do this. So how am I going to be able to answer this? And that, as a player, is so key to have, and that's exactly why he's here in the top 8.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to be a doctor, and that was a surgical deconstruction of his opponent, but Unstoppable's not out of it yet.
No.
Right? We know Batman had the sort of deck that matched up really well. You've got Lightning against 3 Musketeers. Like, pretty good, right?
Yep.
But they both have the option to switch their decks. There's no deck building rules or restrictions in this. They could switch all 8 cards for game 2 if they want. Let's check out this replay. So we've got, we saw this was one of the key moments in the game where we saw the Knight and the Executioner on the weak side tower, so it's just not an easy target. You just can't really go for that tower when there's already 8 elixir defending it.
Yeah, and the tornado play right there was perfectly timed.
Amazing.
If Batman didn't have that tornado in rotation, I feel like that would have been the tower gone, and we would have been going into overtime.
And of course, that would have been actually worse for Batman. He had a weaker tower on the other side, and 3 Musketeers are amazing when there's a 1 tower down situation, because you can plop them right in the middle, and all 3 start gunning that remaining
and if
tower.
you don't have the answer for them right away, they attack fast, and they're just so powerful, they can just take it down instantly.
I think you're right. Tornado might have won them that game, and I think there's a very real situation that if that tower had gone down, Unstoppable takes that game. But do what you got to do.
Yep, and we've seen Unstoppable down. He was down to our Rebel 1-0, came back and won. He was down to Cannon 1-0, and he came back and won. So let's see if he can do it here in this top 8.
Very resilient player. I mean, that's one of the things you mentioned that Batman likes to set up their opponents. I think Unstoppable is the kind of player, reminds me a lot of Clyde, where he reads their opponent a lot. He might lose that game 1 to see his opponent's play patterns, learn what he's going to do, and then come back and really punish him in games 2 and 3. But you're not playing on the ladder. You're not playing grand challenges against these 10 and 11 win scrubs. You are playing Batman, one of the best players on Earth.
Yeah, and now let's talk about what they might be running. So we saw Unstoppable playing some beatdown decks, being Giant and Lavaloon in his trip here, and we've seen Batman play everything. But in the qualifiers, he was playing a Giant Miner Minion Horde minions. So he was able to keep that double lane pressure. So if the matchup was going to be Giant versus Giant, but Batman was running that double lane pressure deck, who do you think's in favor of that matchup?
I would be really leery of running Giant today because Night Witch is so strong. It's the day of the Night Witch. I mean, we know that Night Witch is going to be brought in line along with a lot of these other cards we're seeing like Goblin Gang and Skeletons. They're all going to be nerfed on Monday, but for today, Night Witch is going to be all over. It wouldn't surprise me if all 8 players ran Night Witch in some form or another. I think Giant is a really sketchy proposition to run against that. It's slow. It lets the Night Witch not only hit him with the staff, but the bats build up very quickly and can gobble up that Giant before it reaches the tower. I would be, as much as I like the Giant Graveyard decks, I think we're going to see a lot of Splash Yard today. It matches up pretty well. You're already running Executioner, Baby Dragon cards like that. Wouldn't surprise me to actually see something like maybe like a balloon deck that has a lot of other tornado targets. So if you can force your opponent to play tornado on something else, then you can come in with a balloon push, and it's much harder to counter that.
Yeah, we've seen Lavaloon decks in the past where they have Minion Horde in the deck as well. So, and before the Night Witch came out and the Graveyard and the meta kind of changed, there was a lot of Lavaloon and Miner in that deck too. So again, that could be leading to a double lane pressure. There are multiple tornado targets being the Miner, the Minion Horde, and then obviously the Lavaloon push. So if that's something players would run, that would be pretty hard to stop.
Do you think that we're going to see that really fast cycle Night Witch deck? The game's getting started right now. The Elixir's pumping into the arena. Batman is on top. It looks like he is running a P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram deck. Haven't seen that in a while. And we've got Night Witch, 3 Musketeers for Unstoppable, on the bottom in blue. I was going to say, do you think we're going to see any of that Night Witch cycle deck today, the one that runs like Ice Golem, Clone Mirror?
No, absolutely not.
Did not? No?
No.
Oh, St. Bellican cries. Okay, we've got split Skeletons followed by split Goblin Gang. These players are trying to size each other up. The early exchanges are very interesting because you're not necessarily trying to get a lot of combat early. I think both players are trying to read their opponent and get that information. Like they want to find out what are you playing, and I can usually tell that if you're playing a few cards that are a tell that give away what you're playing. I think between the Elixir Collector and the Miner, Batman probably has a good read that he's playing a 3 Musketeers deck.
Yeah, and Batman actually got some really good value right there. He was able to lightning the tower, the pump, and the Night Witch, and able to stop the bats pretty well.
Yeah, that you almost want to play the Night Witch either very far from the tower or way off to the side by the walls of the arena, because when you have a center-placed Elixir Collector like that, it's a big lightning target if anything is in the front yard or center of your towers, and the placement was like just in range for the lightning to hit them. Lost all 3. Of course, the bats did a pretty good job, but never know. P.E.K.K.A. comes in invested behind the King Tower for Batman, just as Unstoppable plays an Elixir Pump. P.E.K.K.A. is a dangerous card to play on offense. It's a really great defensive counterattacking card. Kind of unfortunate if it's the only thing you have leading your push.
Yeah, and it is a heavy beatdown stopper.
Yes, it's great against these like battle rams and stuff that we're seeing. He's gonna chop that battle ram right up.
One hit, boom, he's gone.
Skeletons, bats, minion horde, they're all so good against it.
Yeah, but the baby dragon, the P.E.K.K.A. might not live to make it to the tower.
That's the story of every P.E.K.K.A.'s life. I was surprised that Batman played it early, but the Baby Dragon is now the point man on the push, and we've got Spear Goblins chopping up that tower. This could be pretty significant. The Miner comes down, but it's too late. Everything's locked onto the tower.
Yeah, the tower is actually tanking. The Baby Dragon was tanking for the tower, and the Spear Goblins were able to lock on before that Miner came out, and that got in a lot of damage for Batman.
Yeah, I was definitely skeptical about that push, but of course the Baby Dragon sort of provides a second tank, a backup tank. Unstoppable puts his second Elixir Collector down on the healthy tower side. If we see a lightning this time, it's going to take out more than the usual amount of pumps, but it'll be on the high health tower and not the sub-1,000 health right side tower that Unstoppable must defend if he wants to win this match.
Yeah, and I think Batman going into double Elixir knows at this point Unstoppable does have 3 Musketeers, so I think he's saving the lightning for those 3 Musketeers.
Yes, and that's making it really hard because Unstoppable would normally play 3 Musketeers against this push. Like, you can see him kind of struggling trying to play Battle Rams on defense, Baby Dragons, and they're just like not great. That's like not really what you want to be playing. You just want to dump the 3 Musketeers in the middle.
And the Baby Dragon's going to lock onto the tower here, and this could be the tower down, and Batman is going to take this game.
Ram's still going. Boink! Hits that King Tower. We're going to see a 3 crown in the next 10 seconds?
We might. It looks like Unstoppable is not playing anything. He's got 4 seconds, or we're going to see the first 3 crown of the day.
Just short.
Ooh,
oh, 190 health. But we do see another 2-0 sweep as Batman cleans Unstoppable's clock. Unstoppable gets stopped in the very first match of the Crown Championship Global Series.
Yes, and again, Batman being able to control the flow of the battle in that last push. He was making Unstoppable play cards. He didn't want to just stop the P.E.K.K.A., which allowed Batman to just build up a massive push. So Batman's ability to control the battle definitely won him that match.
Yeah, there's 3 Musketeers is a weird tournament deck. It's very powerful. One of the most powerful decks if you get a good matchup, but it's so vulnerable to heavy spells. I mean, Rocket, Lightning, Fireball, Poison, those are all really tough cards to deal with. In 2 games in a row, Unstoppable played a 3 Musketeers deck against Lightning, and you know, it's...
I don't even think he played 3 Musketeers in that last match.
He didn't. No, he didn't cast them at all because the Lightning came out very early against the Elixir Collector and Night Witch, and at that point, Batman just kept setting up situations where it's like, please play the Musketeers in the center. Like, please play your 3 Musketeers in between your 2 towers so they'll defend, and I will immediately lightning them off the board. So Unstoppable was just in between a Batman and a hard place. It was tough.
Yeah, his pressure kept up on Unstoppable. Just, I think it froze Unstoppable.
It's one of those things where if you're used to playing the same time every way, it works out, but didn't quite work for him. Let's go back to the locker room and see how they feel about 3 Musketeers falling to Batman's lightning.
All right, first of all, let's talk about Batman's deck. That was amazing.
So cool.
Yeah.
I was like, P.E.K.K.A.?
Yeah, we knew he was a beatdown player because he played Giant Miner, double minions pretty much for most of the bracket play, but I did not expect to see P.E.K.K.A. Dark.
I was like, what in the world is this? Is he crazy? But my God, it worked. Though I have to say, I was just waiting and waiting for P.E.K.K.A. to swing on Unstoppable's tower.
Oh, he got so close every time.
I know, but she's like a tank for the Baby Dragon and all his other troops.
So, I'm not gonna lie, Batman, you have my heart. Dark Goblin's actually my favorite card.
Yeah.
It punishes so well, and I think it's fantastic. We'll take a look at a quick replay from that. Batman just played that well both times. He was able to punish Three Musketeers, which I know gets just ruthless. Three Musketeers can punish so bad.
Oh yeah. Wow. I couldn't believe, I mean, Batman got his battle ram to hit the tower. Is this the moment? Yes.
Yep.
And then it keeps going to the king tower. He
Just
almost 3-crowned him.
barely missing that 3 crown. That
Yeah,
was insane.
just by
It was like
time.
120 health,
Yeah.
something like that, with
Yeah.
2 baby dragons just assaulting the tower.
Yeah.
That's the king's worst fear.
You really don't see 3 crowns very often.
No, that was so close. He just needed a few more seconds.
Now, I imagine the deck was probably built around the fact that Night Witch exists, which brings us to a fun conversation. Let's talk about Night Witch.
So what are we going to talk about, Pineapple Carpet?
Tell us.
That wasn't a clue at all. So Night Witch, the moment she came out, the meta pretty much had to
Oh,
change.
yeah.
Everyone had to deal with the Night Witch. She's so strong, and she's changing very soon. So I see a lot of these players are relying on her, and I think they're going to have to be careful, because if you rely too much on a card, especially when such a big change is coming, you might face trouble soon.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're all solid players. Obviously, Night Witch hasn't been out that long, and I think they're all just kind of taking advantage of her while she's here. They've proven themselves pretty capable with other decks, but definitely, yeah, if they start to lean too heavily on Night Witch, if she gets nerfed, and which is happening in the next couple of days,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to learn how to deal with that.
I mean, this is going to be interesting for this tournament because today is the only day that she's going to be able to be played with her current stats. And then moving forward, I mean, on the 12th, they're changing her. And a lot of the nerf is going towards the bats. But that's definitely, I'm interested to see how is it going to change the metagame? How is it going to change what decks they're building?
So what are the changes? 1 less bat that she spawns when she dies.
1 less bat when she dies, and then her initial bat spawn is slower.
Yep.
Yep,
The
it
first
went from
wave.
6 seconds to 5 seconds, I believe.
Yeah, well, that's for every wave, right?
I think she's spawning them slower.
Yep.
She spawns them slower, and her
Yeah.
first wave is slower, and there's 1 less bat when she dies. I think those are the changes.
Or maybe their attack speed. I don't remember. There's 3 nerfs and they're all
Yeah.
bat related. I know that off the top of my
It all
head.
just comes down to Night Witch getting nerfed.
Yes.
I mean, she's
pretty
just so
much.
strong. She's a heavy hitter on the ground. She also has air presence, and even if you have a direct answer for her, she just spawns more air units.
Yeah, she's definitely one of the hardest cards to deal with. I mean, you need like an Executioner or something that can deal with ground and air, or you need to throw 2 cards at her, which is just a pain.
I mean, pretty much every deck now we've seen lately has the Executioner and the Tornado because both will handle her. But you know, there's other cards that do well against her as well, like the Princess. As long as you have enough range with that Princess, she'll just sit there and shoot her and she can one-shot the bats, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, in the first match, we saw both players trying to bring out Night Witch, but Lucifer fell just a bit short. But we have Brown Bag here, minus the Brown Bag. He's here to interview Lucifer and see how he feels after his first match.
I'm standing here with the Lord of Darkness himself. Now, what I want to do is sort of start at the end and work our way back. So the first match was really close. The second matchup was, you know, a little bit harder. Can you explain for the people who are not pros why that was such a hard match for you?
The second match was really hard, just because I had a bad rotation at the beginning, and once you get behind against a 3-must deck, you're in trouble.
I totally agree, totally agree. Now, so let's bring that back to the first match, which was extremely close. To me, it just looked like the Ice Golem might have been, you know, helped him get more elixir. What do you think, personally, that you either did wrong or could have done better to, you know, bring that out at the very end?
Yeah, with that matchup, when he has Ice Golem, the Ice Golem just ignores troops and goes straight for the tower. So one of my big mistakes was throwing down the graveyard before I had a tank to actually hit the tower, so I think that's why I lost.
You know what? I think it takes a real man to be that, to actually show up here and compete live, and that's what makes you such a great player. Now, I also heard that you were into regular sports, and now you're into esports. What's the transition of that like?
It was pretty easy. You know, you bring the same competitive spirit, and it's great. Clash Royale is a great platform as an esport and a team sport as well.
Awesome, awesome. Now, other matches aside, you're going to be the featured match today against CMC. I'm very excited for that. I know everyone else is very excited for that. What have you done to prepare?
Well, we are teammates, so I do know some of his strengths and weaknesses, so I think I do have somewhat of an advantage against him.
Awesome, awesome. And with that, let's zap it back to the couch.
Real zappy zap there. Thank you, Brown Bag.
What a transition.
I was hoping he'd be a little more animated. He just wasn't animated enough for me. But Lucifer, me and Will, we got our hearts set on you, man. We predicted you to make it into your featured match, so we hope you can do it. But we've seen Night Witch in every single match so far, although we did just see a fantastic counter deck played by Batman. I'm actually in love right now. That was so cool. I'm actually gonna have to build that myself.
I'm actually gonna go home and play that.
P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram.
That's
That
it.
is just
You've got your punish. You
off
can
the
deal with
wall.
Night Witch.
Yeah.
And there's a Dark Goblin, so I'm sold.
Yeah, your
And
favorite
it's-
card.
Yeah,
That's
it's
probably
unpredictable also, which I think is, when you shy from the meta, it's risky, but when you can be unpredictable, that
Yeah.
can just up your game so much more.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much more Night Witch we're gonna see.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're actually probably gonna see a lot more. Rice and Oxalate, our next match coming up. We haven't seen Oxalate yet, and he qualified on the final day.
He did, and I mean, that was one of those matches where, I mean, it was just kind of an epic ending, but he's a great player, Oxalate, so, and he's got a good team. I know he's done a lot of training, so I think he's prepared for today, for sure.
Yep. I imagine we're going to see the same deck he qualified with. I wouldn't be terribly surprised, which was Night Witch Graveyard, I think, and he just crushed the competition, made it all the way. He played a little bit of Golem Night Witch, I think, which hasn't really been seen much since then. A little bit on the ladder, but not so
But
much.
it's
in tournaments.
nasty.
But yeah,
That's a nasty
no,
push.
It's pretty nasty.
And I'm sure he's super stoked to be here. I listened to his interview in the pre-roll. You know, this is like his first time flying and his first time being this far away from home. So I'm sure he's super stoked to be here. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Oxalate and Rice, Rumham and Full Frontage. How's it gonna go, boys?
All right, thank you so much, Carpet. We are here for match number 3, Rice versus Oxalate. We've seen Rice play already today, and he looked pretty dominant in his first performance.
Yeah, if you like Rice, you're going to see a whole lot of him today. I think he's got 4 matches. And remember, each player over these 3 weeks is going to play round robin. That's 7 total matches. So Rice is actually going to have a majority of his matches here on week 1, which is pretty fortunate for him if he can get off to a pretty strong start. But we're supposed to be unbiased commentators, but I have a feeling you're going to have a hard time, Full Frontage, keeping it together. Tell us about Oxalate. Why do you know Oxalate so well?
So Oxalate is a part of my team. He's such a dedicated player.
Which team is that?
Hammers Esports.
Hammers Esports, okay.
He's such a dedicated player. He's been practicing countless hours with the team, and he was always asking questions. He's like, what does this? What does that? And he's so prepared for today that I can't help but not say, with seeing the preparation he went through, I'm going to have to go with Oxalate.
Plus, he rode a plane, rode a plane, rode a plane. Congratulations. But I want to root for Oxalate. I think that there's a lot of strength behind the Hammers Esports team. So we talk a lot about, it's not just the players, but it's the team they surround themselves with, the play test mode, the practice, and Oxalate has a very good foundation around him with Hammers Esports. Hammers Esports, of course, won the North American Open with Backstab. Surgical Goblin won ESWC when he was a member of Hammers Esports. So this is Oxalate's chance to really show that Hammers is, consistently going to be one of the top teams. Here comes Rice, metaphorically, because of course he's not here locally, but he's going to come back onto the stage very shortly after his last match. What do you think we're going to see out of him? We're going to see a similar kind of decks or something a little different?
I'd like to see something a little different, but I wouldn't be surprised if players, especially in day 1, they're coming out with something they're comfortable playing. So Rice coming out, sweeping Lucifer in match number 1. I think he's going to come back and be able to just play what he's comfortable with, and I feel like that's what most players are doing today.
I'm liking that shirt, buddy. Big P.E.K.K.A. just won the last game, and we might see a P.E.K.K.A. deck out of Oxalate. Oh, he's going to sit down. He's going to sit on him. Hey, I don't blame it. I don't blame him.
I don't play standing up.
I don't play standing up. I play sitting at my computer desk. Now, here we go. Oxalate's getting ready for game number 1 now. If I'm Rice, I'm prepared for a graveyard deck, because Oxalate, we have seen him play a lot of graveyard. So Oxalate qualified the day that Night Witch released, or I'm sorry, the day after Night Witch. The day after Night Witch released. But he did make it very far in the first 6 days of qualifier playing the Splash Yard deck. So if I'm Rice and I've done my scouting reports, I'm expecting a graveyard deck, but that could play into Oxalate's benefit if he switches it up here in game 1.
Yeah, so Oxalate with the graveyard is he likes to control the tempo, similar to what Batman does. He wants to make opponents play something they don't want to, and then he can just go in with the graveyard, and they're like, oh, I don't have the answer to this now because I just played it. So that's what he likes to do. That he likes to control the tempo, and that's what we see from a lot of top players. So this is going to be a fantastic match.
And we've got Giant, Night Witch, Miner, kind of a similar deck to what we saw out of the last match here for Oxalate. Rice is running that P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram deck. So it's funny, I want to call out, the couch was like really shocked by this P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram deck. This has been a rising deck in the metagame. Am I wrong? The CR Worlds tournament, where we've got players from all over the globe, have really been playing this deck. It's come out of, I think, the Latin America meta.
Yeah, so the P.E.K.K.A. is, with the rise in Night Witch, obviously you sometimes need a tank for the Night Witch.
Okay.
And so people have been playing Golems and Giants. Well, there's also some Graveyard Three Musketeer decks, but this deck has the answers to those. So you can play the P.E.K.K.A. and not have to worry about, okay, I'm going to get stomped by a Three Musketeer deck, but you have the answers to that. You have Lightning, you have Baby Dragon Tornado, you can get that splash damage off, you can just take them out with the Lightning immediately. And the P.E.K.K.A. is just there for, okay, in case I play a beatdown, I can just toss the P.E.K.K.A. down, take care of their tank, and clean up their supporting troops with my splash damage.
We saw how effective in the last game 2 small spells are. He's got Zap and Tornado, so we'll see how that does against the Night Witch. Interesting that Rice is not playing Night Witch himself, which I think is a little surprising given how strong she is. Here comes Baby Dragon down the left side lane. They took a while to decide what their first cards were going to be, but they eventually decided neither of them wanted to wait till double elixir to start battle.
Yes, so the Baby Dragon, Rice is just going to let that go, let the Baby Dragon do its thing. The Battle Ram is not going to connect to the tower, but some okay damage from the Barbarians, but here's the P.E.K.K.A. to answer the Giant.
The Baby Dragon's locked onto the Giant, though, and if it doesn't turn around too soon, that could really get in trouble. But no, there he is. Was able to survive. Baby Dragon's going to move a little ahead, though, of the P.E.K.K.A. and take the tower shots. We'll see if that P.E.K.K.A. can get distracted. There is skeletons in the deck. We'll see if Zap hits them. Yes.
Yep, there's
wow, and now the P.E.K.K.A.'s closing in on the tower. Oh, no! Night Witch gets cleaned up in one shot. We got one swing from the P.E.K.K.A. Two swings. Three? That's
Three
a tower!
takes the tower. Wow. The Zap was ready to take down those skeletons. Rice knew Oxalate had skeletons in his deck, and that Zap was ready to go immediately to make sure that P.E.K.K.A. got to the tower, and he got a lot of damage on the King's Tower as well.
The greatest part of the Crown Championship Series is seeing the best decks from metas all across the world. This deck, developed in the Latin American scene initially, has been really picked up in the last few weeks by players as they've just seen how effective it can be at generating these insane, unstoppable counter pushes.
Yeah, and the Battle Ram is actually going to go to the tower right here and connect for some serious damage, and they get distracted by the Miner. And now we have a Lightning coming down. Interesting choice right there.
Lightning, yeah. These bats may fly ahead, though, and let the archers clean them up, but of course the Night Witch right behind it pulls up. Tornado's going to pull all the skeletons and bats away, kills the Night Witch. No, the Night Witch is still surviving behind there.
Yeah, the Night Witch is still alive. All the bats and skeletons spawn in. Let's see if Oxalate can take this tower within 5 seconds.
He does have some time.
Down.
He could do it.
He's going to connect.
Oh, the lightning! Oh, 86 health!
Wow. The Lightning almost secured that tower for Oxalate, and we would have been into overtime, but that King Tower was pretty low on health itself.
To be fair, I think Oxalate might have lost that game kind of no matter what, because even if that tower goes down, the push was almost wrapped up, right? Like, there wasn't a lot of momentum to go towards the 3 crown, and you could have gotten lightninged out of the game. I mean, Rice's deck had 3 spells in it. It had the Zap. Well, Tornado doesn't do damage, right? But he had Zap and Lightning. So I trusted that Rice would be able to finish that game off, but very, very close finish. I mean, 86 health. That's got to be weighing on Oxalate's mind.
Yeah, that was... He had the push to do it. It was just second too late. That Night Witch was on the tower. The Miner was still on the tower. The Baby Dragon would have cleaned up the Night Witch before it made it to the King Tower. And like you said, Rice had that Lightning Zap ready to go and a couple spell cycles, and that would have been it for Oxalate.
How about Rice not playing Night Witch in this Night Witch meta and doing really well? Right? He didn't play Night Witch in that last deck. It was P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram, archers, support cards.
I don't know if you really needed the Night Witch in that kind of deck. You have the Baby Dragon for splash damage, and you have the archers for a little bit of DPS, and they also, like you said, like we saw in the last push, the bats kind of flew ahead of the Giant. If the archers are placed at that time, they'll take care of the bats pretty quickly, and then you have the P.E.K.K.A. to stop the Giant, and then it'll one-shot the Night Witch, and then the archers will just pick off the bats one at a time. So I think the archers are more effective in that deck than the Night Witch itself.
That's a sign of a great player who is not getting hysterical about the current meta. I mean, it's easy to go like, oh no, oh my god, Night Witch is so good, she's going to ruin everything. But a really calm player is able to sort of evaluate the situation and make the right choices. Let's take a look here. We've got Rice coming in with that push. Now here's a great Zap. The Zap takes out the Mega Minion and all 4 skeletons, even hits the tower as well.
Yep, and then we
placement.
see the archers cleaning up the bats from the Night Witch because the P.E.K.K.A. just one-shots it, and then archers are free to clean up the bats and keep that P.E.K.K.A. alive.
And we see the follow-through damage, the ability for those Battle Rams to hit the King Tower over and over again and get that King Tower down to sub-1,000 health gives Rice a bit of, what's it called, like, eventuality, inevitability. He knows that if I can get your tower low enough that it dies to like 2 spells, there will be a situation where I lightning it once, even if that's all I hit, it's just lightning the tower, and then you have like 15 seconds to kill me, or else I'm going to win the game with a second lightning or Zap.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. While Oxalate did apply pressure in those closing seconds of the match, Rice was able to he would have been able to win it in the long run, like we had discussed earlier.
We just saw Oxalate cloaked in shadows, building his second deck. I think if I'm Oxalate, I might really switch back to the graveyard. I mean, we just saw a deck that had Battle Ram, P.E.K.K.A. Archers are good, but archers can get poisoned. So I think there actually is a lot of weakness in the deck that we just saw out of Rice against graveyard that might be worth trying a graveyard deck.
Yeah, and where that is Oxalate's strong deck, that's his comfort zone. I honestly would not be surprised if a graveyard comes out here from Oxalate.
I mean, we have 5 seconds till the games begin. We'll know the decks very shortly, but one of the most interesting parts of the game is what you're about to see, the opening seconds of the game where players decide what the first card they're going to play is in order to read the other opponent, see what the other person's up to.
Yeah, and I feel like the first move is so critical in these kind of matches. You don't want to overcommit to one lane. You don't want to, like, if your Valkyrie is a tank, you don't want to put a Valkyrie in one lane and then have a graveyard come in the opposite lane. Then you have no counter to it.
And both have brought graveyard decks, almost identical splash yard decks, exactly identical splash yard decks.
Exact same decks.
So here we go. Well, Oxalate is more of the graveyard specialist, so he might feel more comfortable in the mirror match. But of course, neither of them know what they're playing. They both cycle skeletons. That doesn't mean anything. That's every deck in the metagame is going to be able to do that. Now, both are sitting at 10, and again, because the one elixir skeleton doesn't really do anything. It helps get a new card in your hand, but it doesn't reveal anything about your deck, or really because it doesn't threaten a tower, it doesn't force your opponent to do anything either.
Yeah, and both players are sitting at the full 10 elixir here. And like the first move is so critical, you don't want to make that overcommitment, and that's what both players are thinking right now.
Yeah. Well, let me give you an example. Let's talk this one out. Let's say that Oxalate played an Executioner behind the King Tower just like that. Rice would have an opportunity to go in the other lane with like a Night Witch, knowing that Executioner is out of hand. Rice is opting to pair them up one-on-one and fight a little bit, but there are situations where if you put too much elixir down on the wrong side, or you leave a vulnerability for your opponent, they can exploit it because you're down to only half your normal elixir bar.
Yeah, and a poison is going to come down, and this is going to be a valuable poison right here. It's going to take down the Executioner completely, and Oxalate's Executioner is still alive, and it will take down that Baby Dragon, and it looks like it's not going to be able to get a hit off on the Crown Tower.
So close, but yeah, Executioner has a very short attack range. It's a little hard. Here we see almost all of Rice's elixir spent on this Night Witch graveyard push. Skeletons, Ice Golem, Baby Dragon come down. That is less elixir than what was spent on the push. It looks like he's largely not going to take that much damage, and the counterattack's coming in, so pretty good defense by Oxalate. A Rice-like defense.
It was very grainy.
Well, the skeletons, though, but here's the thing about Graveyard is it's hard to stop all the damage.
Yeah.
Oxalate did take about 500 damage on the tower, but of course the counterattacking Baby Dragon returned the favor.
Now, how do you feel about the Executioners going in the same lane?
I'm kind of surprised that Rice did that in the opening exchange. I really expected when that Executioner came out that we would see like a really hard Night Witch graveyard push in the other hand, but because we don't see their opening hands, it's possible Rice just didn't have that. Right? Just didn't have the tools to pull off that push.
Yeah, and the positioning of the poison was key right there. It kept the Executioner inside while the Executioner was able to finish it off, so that was a positive change for Oxalate, and now he has a big push coming in on that right-hand side, and he's going to be able to defend the Graveyard Night Witch push coming in the opposite lane with the defensive poison.
Skeleton's so strong against Executioner. Even though Executioner hits them in a splash setup, if you can place them very close, he might swing and hit only 2 of them at a time. And there's even an excellent placement where you can put all 4 skeletons surrounding that Executioner and have him counter the tower. More skeletons have already locked onto that tower. The Baby Dragon is hitting the Ice Golem instead of the skeletons, along with the poison is wearing it down.
Ooh, 312 remains on that right-hand or left-hand tower, but Oxalate has a good push coming in and down on the right-hand side.
Outside of poison range too, so it's not just going to be a poison that's going to do, it's going to have to be a graveyard poison or some other offensive attack. I think Rice has got to be real happy with his defense there. 500 health on that tower is a lot. Here comes Graveyard. Executioner comes down. Here comes the poison. A few skeletons are getting their little punches in, and that might be enough. I think Rice is going to take this game here.
28, there's the game. Rice.
Wow.
4-0 today.
2-0 against Oxalate. A great player. 2-0 in his first match of the day. Like, I think Rice was not considered one of the favorites in this top 8. I mean, he's been around for a while. He's definitely a veteran player who's performed well in a lot of community terms, but I don't think we expected him to start off 4-0 today.
No, definitely not, and he's definitely shown up to play. He's been able to have all the answers to his opponents, and he is playing exceptionally well.
Yeah, I mean, the nerves, I think, are getting to some of these players here who are here for the live event. I think they're getting a little nervous, but that's going to come around for everyone when they all have to show up here eventually. What do you think is really setting apart Rice from the players that he's playing against?
Like you said, nerves of being the live scene. We've seen Rice play against 2 players that are here so they kind of have the spotlight on them, while Rice is in a different environment. I know during some of the other tournaments, a lot of the players were talking about the environment they play in and how that plays a role. So that could be showing here today, but it's not good to say that Rice is performing how he should be. He's performing well, and whether he was here or not, I feel like he would probably be
Still
performing the same.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, his defense is impeccable. All these players are really good, right? Great at offense, great defense. But I feel like it's almost easier to play offense as a good offensive player and a bad defensive player. It's probably much easier to play offense because you say, like, all right, I have my P.E.K.K.A coming in. I'm worried about skeletons, so I've got my zap ready. But it's much harder to play defense when your opponent is throwing an unpredictable series of cards at you and being able to adapt. Instant reaction times. But Rice has been doing that so well in all 4 of the games we saw that is allowing him to win these very, very close games. Let's go back to the locker room. Carpet, was that the closest game you've ever seen?
Ooh-wee, Rice. You're 4-0, buddy.
Oh,
You're doing well.
Rice is crushing it, man. 2 sweeps.
How could Rumham forget that first match that we saw, where we had like 7 HP on the tower and I think 80? Gotta remember, that was the closest.
That was probably closer.
This one was definitely close, though. And I think that last match, Rice was playing aggressive. I feel like he was just cycling through to that graveyard push using the Ice Golem or the Night Witch as a tank there to throw it down.
And especially since they said Oxalate was probably more comfortable with that graveyard deck. The fact that Rice was able to push him out. And there was a devastating time where the dragon actually locked onto the Ice Giant, or Ice Golem, before the graveyard started to come out. So you didn't get any of that splash damage, and that's when Rice got a lot of his damage.
Yeah, you saw that at the end. Rice just dropped down the graveyard, hoping that 2 skeletons, I think, would get a hit off, and the poison would finish the tower off. Just barely cranked that win out.
It is such a difficult card to counter, trying to place as spread out as you can around the big death area. You're terrified they're going to come out all over the place.
You just kind of like drop it in the middle there. You kind of just hope that you get lucky because there's a little bit of RNG in the graveyard deck.
Can I say also that I love that Oxalate sat down
Oh,
to play? I feel like I would want to do the same thing because we were just talking about that.
Yeah, he just kind of like sat down, collected himself. I was kind of thinking of like a master chess player or something whenever he sat down and just like sat there hunched over his little tablet.
Playing strategically.
Yeah. So we've got some matches now. We have 3 matches down, and it seems that Rice is doing really well for himself. 2 points on the board for him. He's putting everyone with down arrows, although now some people haven't moved. But Batman now, he's got a single win. Just underneath Rice, they are now sitting pretty, but Oxalate and Unstoppable have lost their first matches.
Lucifer moved up by not winning any more matches.
All right.
Good for him. He's out of the red.
Proud for himself.
Tied for 6th, though. We have a lot down there. A lot is going at stake, and I'll explain a little bit more when we get more points on the board as to how that works. You see a color-coded system. I promise that'll make more sense later.
I'm sure
in the
they're
broadcast.
piecing it together as we go along. They're probably getting a good idea of what it means.
So you know what comes after match number 3?
Match number 4.
He's figured me out.
Let me check my watch.
He's figured me out. So Tin 2 and Unstoppable. We saw Unstoppable. He didn't do so well earlier today. Tin 2, though, first time today? First time today for Tin 2.
Yep. He played in the qualifiers. He was actually the first qualifying match after Night Witch's release, and played, I think, Giant Night Witch, just some kind of beatdown deck, and played that the entire day and just stomped the competition. I think he went like 20-3 or something ridiculous like that. Obviously, nobody could handle Night Witch. Now everybody's had a little bit more practice with it, so we'll see what he brings to the table today. Probably still Night Witch, but I imagine he's going to switch it up and not stomp the competition as much as he did in bracket play.
I mean, he had one of the few 3 crowns that we saw in the bracket play with that giant Night Witch deck that you just mentioned.
Actually gross.
Yeah.
Gross,
It was
right?
within like a minute. He put it down and it went through both towers. It stayed, that one Night Witch stayed alive through the crown and the king.
One and only.
I mean, that was kind of a testament to how strong she was and how everybody was not used to defending against her. I mean, you saw the Night Witch go down and it was about to die, so Ahsoka is who he was playing against. Just put another pump down, probably expecting the Night Witch to die because he hadn't played it a whole lot. He's just like, it's just bats. Surely the towers will take care of it. But they just swarmed the tower.
What do you guys think? 2 Night Witches again? You think we're going to see double Night Witch?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. I hope they switch it up, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I just want a Dark Goblin.
Oh yeah, well you have had one at least. You had one.
I've gotten my 1 quota for the day. I'm
From
just so
Batman.
happy we were able to. But Tin 2 and Unstoppable, we've got full frontage and Rumham still on standby. Boys, take it away.
Match number 4 involves one player we've seen already Unstoppable,
Yes.
and one player making their Crown Championship Global Series round robin spring season top 8 North American debut.
Tin 2.
That's a lot of words. So Tin 2, member of Reddit Alpha, or had been for a long time. All these top players are moving around so quick I can't keep track of them anymore. But a member of Reddit Alpha for a very long time. He's someone who actually won a Clash Royale North American Open tournament last fall, so not shy at all in these big bracket events. Cuts through 1,000 players on the first day of Night Witch's release. Goes up against another North American Open contender and regular in the community, Ahsopa. Ahsopa and Tin 2 both quickly jumped onto the Night Witch train on day 1, got very, very far into the tournament, both playing Night Witch. But ultimately, it was Night Witch that was Ahsopa's downfall, as in the very memorable Game 2 of their series, memorialized on my YouTube channel. Go check it out. No, but seriously, Ahsopa basically was not ready for an early Night Witch. Giant Night Witch plowed through his tower, 3-crowned him in about 63 seconds, and I think that was the moment that everyone around the world went, oh, Night Witch is super for real.
Yeah, that 63-second 3-crown, I think stunned everybody.
Yes.
I don't think it was just Ahsopa that was sitting there like,
are you serious?
what just happened?
Yeah.
I think everybody watching the qualifiers were sitting there like Ahsopa.
Like, what happened?
Wow.
Yeah.
that was quite the play. So here we go. Unstoppable on top and Tin 2 along the bottom.
Huge fan of Unstoppable, switching up from the Three Musketeers deck that he was scouted out in the first match. Like, if he brought a Three Musketeers deck here, I think he'd be in trouble. Three Musketeers is actually very weak to Expo, so I think Tin 2, besides being a big Expo player, sort of knew what he was doing, right? Was trying to play for that. Great placement there. If you guys don't know that, if you place Mortar or Expos in that spot you just saw for Tin 2, they will shoot center-placed Elixir Collectors. Very good play out of there. I think Unstoppable, though, has a good chance against Tin 2 because he's got a Rocket. Rocket counters Expo very well because it does almost all of the Expo's health worth of damage. Expo's only going to get a couple shots off.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see a Rocket in this deck versus Lightning because he does have that Golem. Usually for the Lightning is for Inferno Towers, but obviously Tin 2 doesn't have Inferno Tower in this deck. But usually you can pair with Lightning or even Zap, and he doesn't have either of those.
What I would expect to see here is a Tornado Rocket. So if there's things like Executioner and stuff on defense against the Golem, you're going to see everything tornadoed together and rocketed. Although it's got to happen soon because we have a huge counter push here. The Night Witch and the Executioner are blocking for the always deadly Expo that is just lighting up Unstoppable's tower. He just now is getting 6 Elixir to rocket it, and I think he might have to do that. No, he's going to go for
He's going to pump and just take the tower down.
Let the tower go.
He's going to let it go.
It's much harder to get your Expo to take a second tower. It's like easy to get the first tower because you can catch people off guard, but it's much harder when there's only really one tower to shoot at.
Especially when that tower is the tower you have to lock on with the Expo.
Yeah.
So if Unstoppable goes for Tin 2's left lane tower, Tin 2 is going to have a hard time taking care of Unstoppable's second tower.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Unstoppable is doing. He's going for that left-hand tower.
Especially once they hit double Elixir time here in 10 seconds, the Golem deck has a huge advantage because you're gaining Elixir so quickly that even if an Expo comes down, you can usually get a Golem on the board and let the Golem absorb all of that. On the other hand, Tin 2, no slouch here because he's got the Tornado Executioner plan. He's got the Tornado's really tough to deal with if you're a tank deck.
Is that the Tornado just pull the tanks back, and especially with an Executioner on the field, it stops the tank and the support units behind it, and a beautiful double Tornado right there. Unstoppable tried to pull the Executioner into the other lane, but then Tin 2 reacted and pulled the bats into the other lane.
That was a very weird reaction. Did that Executioner just cross back left from the right side of the board all the way to the left? I felt like the Executioner was far enough that he was on the other side of the board.
I think it was because the Executioner locked on when he was on the left-hand side of the board.
Got it. So he's coming back for
it. And there's a Tornado Executioner pair right there. The Tornado sweeping everything up, and Unstoppable trying to react, but 10 seconds with all these troops going down, this is not looking good.
And that's, you know what, we talk about like rock, paper, scissors matchups, or oh, it's so hard to win this matchup, et cetera, et cetera. Tin 2, great Expo player. Like, no joke, one of the best, like top 10 Expo players in the world.
Yep.
And even though Golem is a bad matchup for him, these masters, these experts at these deck archetypes know how to outplay that matchup. You might say, oh, the Golem player wins 4 out of 5 times. Well, Tin 2's the 1 out of 5. Like, he knows what he has to do to overcome these bad matchups and takes game 1 of their series.
I would also like to point out that Tin 2 did not take a single hit on his ground towers.
No. Was it 25-34 on both
Yep.
towers? Gross. That's gross, buddy.
That is a fantastic defense from Tin 2.
Yeah.
It's the first time we've seen that all day, and to be honest, I don't think I would have expected that.
No, especially not against Golem decks. Again, like Golem's great at blocking the Expo, but even just as a tank deck, it's hard, even with Tornado, to keep those pushes from getting anything. I mean, the Golem might explode on it or something. Like, something's got to happen.
Yeah, the tornadoes were so perfectly timed that when the Golem exploded, wasn't even near the tower, it was at the bridge.
And so that's really tough. If you're playing a Golem deck, I mean, it's my favorite deck archetype is Golem. Executioner Tornado is such a hard thing to deal with. I believe he's playing the Rocket, and we saw him use it a few times there. Just rock the Executioner. It's a 6 for 5. It's a negative elixir trade, but if you don't make that -1 elixir trade, you're just not going to get through. It's not happening.
Yeah, because the Executioner is going to, like I said, when it'll hit the tank, and it'll damage the support units behind it. It just provides so much value for that 5 elixir, and if you don't stop it, you're in trouble.
Because think about it, Golem, Baby Dragon, Nightwitch. Talking about 16 elixir right there. And there might be, skeletons, goblin gangs, minions, whatever other goof stuff's just in that push. But just those 3 cards, we're talking 16 elixir for 9 elixir. Or 8 even, I'm sorry, 8 elixir, half the cost. You pull it away from the tower and do just an absurd amount of damage.
And we see right here the Expo that took the game right here. Unstoppable had no answers to the Expo.
What it all came from, I almost wish you could rewind this like another 10, 15 seconds, was what really started it was that a Golem of Unstoppable started in the back. The Golem's coming down. That's 8 elixir on the board. On the other side, we see Executioner and the Nightwitch, 9 elixir. So they're about even. When they met, the Golem was just getting wrecked. It doesn't fight back. It's defenseless. So those 2 cards were just wrecking it. 9 elixir completely aces 8 elixir and survives. And then when you put the Expo down, it's just too much. You're looking at 15 elixir at the river. What am I going to do? I only got 10 to spend.
And the Golem is so healthy that it allowed Tin 2 to build up enough elixir to just throw that Expo down and be like, good luck stopping this Unstoppable.
It wasn't a fragile one. There was a good 10 seconds where they're just like, yep, gobbling it up. Just taking it down. Game 2 starting soon. Tin 2, I would expect to keep playing Expo. He's so good with it, and I don't feel
such a good Siege player.
Yeah, like I wouldn't shock me to see him switch, but I think if I'm Tin 2, probably stick with Expo. I just beat a Golem deck. Like, how confident am I? Like, what are you going to play?
Yeah.
Golem Rocket.
Yes. It's the epitome of Expo damaging.
And we do. Tin 2 is still playing his Expo deck. We've seen Unstoppable switch to Lava Loon Rocket. Now, this is weird because I thought Lava Loon was worse against Expo than Golem was. What do you think made him make this change?
He might. I honestly don't know.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know.
Maybe he just didn't expect him to play another one.
What's also interesting is knowing that Tin 2 played Expo in the first game, that he even chooses to run Lava Loon in the first place because Expo has a favorable matchup against Lava Loon.
We talked about that in tournament talk. Like we said, Expo didn't win a CCGS tournament, but it was one of the highest performing decks when people played it. I'm really surprised that I mean, whatever. I guess I could be wrong here. Here's where the advantages are for Unstoppable. Let's talk about how he can win this matchup, because we did just see someone win an unfavorable matchup, so I'm not writing Unstoppable off yet. Same time, he opened up with the Elixir Collector. This time, instead of the Expo shooting it, it went on the tower and got countered pretty quickly, so that did give Unstoppable a bit of an Elixir advantage. He's going to maybe take down... Oh, no! Another Tornado!
And there's a balloon going on the left-hand lane. Tin 2 doesn't have anything to stop it. He just used the Tornado.
He just used Tornado. I was actually worried about the lava push, but you're right. That little stealthy balloon on the side is going to get at least 2 drops.
There it is, the 2 drops, and the Expo's gonna fall, and now there's the tower's locked onto the Lava Hound. Oh, the Baby Dragon does come down.
Yeah, the Baby Dragons, I wonder how many of these lava pups are gonna get damage on the tower. Of course, some will be distracted by the skeleton, but some of them are getting that damage on there. We may see this go to a 1 tower down on each side sort of game, and I don't really know who that's gonna favor. Probably favors the Lava Loon player at that point.
Yeah, I would definitely think so, because again, they're on opposite lanes. Once the Expo is placed, you can just drop the balloon right on top.
And Unstoppable is looking unstoppable right now. Look at that Elixir bar. He just played his Lava Hound, and Tin 2 is only now having enough for the Expo. He's going to try to build up a big defense here, but I think Unstoppable might have an overwhelming Elixir advantage.
Yeah, let's see if Unstoppable goes with that split lane push again, where he puts the balloon in the left-hand lane to finish it off. The Executioner is going to go down in the right-hand lane right there. Baby Dragon, is he going to put down the balloon to fall, or is he going to let them... Ooh, the Tornado. The Tornado missed the Baby Dragon.
That was a very odd... I think he was trying to hit both, right? Like he was trying to grab both lanes, but it just missed by 1. 1 health! 1!
Oh,
and Tornado doesn't work!
No, so he has to either rocket or get to the tower.
1! What? What? Oh my God, if he loses this game, it's going to be the biggest, saddest. Oh, this is a rocket. But here's the thing. Just put him in a bad position here. You got to rocket this. You're going to take out so much stuff with that rocket, but at the same time, if you rocket, will you be able to get back to it in time? And he's just going to let it go.
The Expo's going to take, he has to
So
rocket the
mad.
one health tower.
Oh,
yeah, unstoppable. Oh man, but Unstoppable does have the tower advantage right now.
It's a good point.
Especially against an Expo deck.
Yeah, he's got the damage lead. Of course, the balloon can be played in the middle. You can always see another. Not the Expo.
Yeah, there's a balloon on top
It's
of the
going to
Expo.
drop right on. Oh, it's getting tornadoed off, but it already got a huge drop on it. Will it get another one here nearby? And a downside of the Night Witch doesn't hit those minions.
Yeah. So the minions are going to live, take out the bats, and move to the King Tower if they want to. But oh, the Night Witch does still get a hit on tower. There's 2 Executioners, now a Night Witch in the center of the base. Let's see if Unstoppable can stop this. Night Witch is moving to the left-hand tower.
Oh, he's got a rocket.
But
Makes
the
the
bats! The bats are doing so much damage.
What a turnaround!
The Fireball's going to come in. 110 remains on that top 5, and the Expo's going to lock on.
Insane! What can you do to stop 10-2? Unstoppable had a 4 or 5 elixir advantage. Had that tower dead to rights. 1 health left on the tower.
1 health.
I've always been saying the only hit point that matters is the last one, but I didn't mean it like that. That was absurd. He had to spend 6 elixir to deal 1 damage, and I think that elixir disadvantage, I mean, I think it's fair to say that cost him the game.
Yeah.
If that tower was already down, he could have rocketed the Executioner and the Expo that were right next to each other for a ton of value. Didn't feel like he could rocket it and cycle back in time, so he just shot the rocket at the tower and lost anyways.
I believe at that point there was about 30 seconds or just under 30 seconds left, and Unstoppable's deck was too expensive to cycle, like you were saying. And
so many 5 and 7 cards. I mean, you got Lava Hound, Balloon, Elixir Collector. Like, you can have a hand of all 5 cost cards. There's no way to just get through it quickly.
I think the only cycle card he had in there was Skeletons and Minions. But that's
not good enough. Yeah,
it's not good enough.
Not if you're trying to. You got to spend 20 elixir in the last 20 seconds or whatever.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. But so 10-2, like we said, the Expo is in the favorable matchup, but Unstoppable almost had it. That was very well played by Unstoppable. I think he played that as well as he could, but that was just so unfortunate to see 1 health remain.
And he got it off of one of the few mistakes that we saw come out of 10-2 that whole game, that missed Tornado.
Yeah.
Tornado completely missed the Baby Dragon. If it had grabbed it, I think it wouldn't have been close there, but that might have actually played in his favor because the Baby Dragon only gets like 2 shots, then it's like a fair rocket. It's like, oh, okay, I don't feel so bad rocketing it. Yeah. But it's possible he went on tilt having to rocket that 1 health tower.
Yeah.
And that's where Tornado really comes to bite you. Tornado doesn't damage buildings.
Yeah.
Zaps, logs.
Zaps, logs, arrows even.
Yeah, anything.
Maybe even a fireball.
An Ice Spirit could have taken that thing down.
Yeah, if it got there. Kobe.
Fire Spirit. But yeah, Kobe. But yeah, not today.
No.
Kobe's retired, and so is Unstoppable in this matchup. He lost his first 2 games, but he's not out of it yet. He's got 5 more matches. We could see him theoretically finish 5-2, which I think would be good enough for the top 2 spots. Let's go back to the locker room and have a little bit of post-mortem on that match.
Unstoppable struggling a bit early on right now in the tournament, but as Rumham said, he has plenty of time to make up for it. He has these next few weeks and a lot of games to play ahead of him, but 10-2 with the Expo.
Expo, and he's kept Expo, which, I mean, I feel like the risk you run in this when there's no rules and you can change decks is you don't know, is your opponent going to keep the same one? Is he going to switch? So I feel like it was a little bit of a risk for Unstoppable to go to Lava.
I mean, that was a bold move to stay with Expo. Even
True.
bolder move to play Lava right after playing Expo. But he almost brought it home. I mean, did anybody else die a little when you saw that 1 health tower and the rocket had to take it out? That's an expensive 1 health.
It really is. Yeah. That right there had to be the priciest hit point of all I've ever seen here, like in Clash Royale. Like the most expensive hit point. 1 hit point for
what else can you do? Yeah, that's too bad.
Do it though. When you have no choice.
Yeah, I mean, really, really well played there at the end, though. We're actually seeing it here. The Expo goes down. Balloon almost takes it out, but the Tornado drags it just far enough away.
Both of those were smart plays. Balloon against it, and then the Tornado pulling back. I know the moment you're talking about, and then it pulled back the Balloon. Both of those, I feel like, were very smart plays. You got to work with what you got.
Yeah, we saw a whiff Tornado, too. It looks like he wanted to pull in both the Lava Hound and the Dragon. It didn't get either.
Yeah, I thought once that went down to a 1-tower game that the Lava Balloon was actually going to take control, because, I mean, playing down a tower with Expo is really, really difficult. So, I mean, job well done, 10-2.
Especially when they're opposite towers like that, because you drop the Expo and it's vulnerable when that tower
Just
behind
drop a balloon
down.
on top of it.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah, it's that easy.
So we're halfway through. We have 4 matches down, but plenty more to go. And I promised you guys that I would explain a little bit more about the scoreboard once we had some points on the board. So now, as you can see, we've got a little bit more going. This makes a little bit more sense. Rice in the lead and Batman following right behind. Something to note, there's some color coded here. This is the round robin stage, and as they move on, they'll be moving into our finals. Essentially, every time you win a match, which is these best of 3 per game, you're gonna earn a point and you're gonna get to move up the leaderboard. And if you don't win, you're probably going to move down. If you end in the green, so if you're top 2 by the end of round robin, you get preferential seeding moving into our finals, which means you get a bye, you're essentially immediately into the semis, you get a boost in front of everybody else. But if you're in the bottom 2, you're done for. You don't even actually make it to the finals. Your dreams are crushed. You're pretty much done here. And as far as the Blues concerned, they're fighting for the best seed. So obviously, as you move on to bracket further on, the higher seed you are, the more opportunity you get to play someone that's a lower seed and maybe didn't perform as well. And now that we're halfway through the day, we've also got a lot of top plays for you guys. We've had some interesting moments, some really close calls. So the top 5 plays so far today of the Clash Royale Crown Championship.
I'm excited to see these.
Yeah, me too.
Moving into number 5 is Batman and Unstoppable earlier in the day. What's happening here? Log taking on pretty much everything, but Miner is down. Bats almost taking out the tower. Tornado taking everything away.
Tornado's been so effective. It's gonna get a little bit of a change.
Tornado's a great, I mean, it's just too strong, maybe, which is, I guess, why it's getting a nerf.
P.E.K.K.A. We've seen P.E.K.K.A. make some good appearances today as well. This one wasn't the Dark Oven deck, but it was still well played by Rice, pushing through, and it just kept
I can't
going.
believe she hit the tower. That's
Guys,
such a
this is
good
my favorite
moment.
one. This is my favorite one of the day.
Oh man, with our slow motion.
They're always watching. They're always watching.
Yeah, we can't hide from the cameras. That's pretty funny.
The rocket,
Oh,
lava
boy.
balloon push.
Is this the one that we just saw? It's
Yes,
got to be with the
this is
rocket
it.
on it.
The 1 hit point.
Oh no!
You saw him. He was so angry.
1 HP.
The rocket, 1 hit point rocket.
Number 1.
And
I wish those
Lucifer
guys
and
were
Rice.
here in
woke
the
up the
studio
King
for that
Tower.
moment.
Sad moment when you see that with a graveyard.
That had to be so close.
I wonder if
see
that,
oh,
I wonder
so
if the King
close.
Tower is what got it. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
you saw the King Tower take out one skeleton that was like rushing at the tower. I wonder if that
67 HP.
sealed the deal.
Full Frontage brought it up. He was like,
He
he was
did.
curious if that activated, and there is
Yeah.
that little bit of cooldown time.
I think I only saw it shoot that one skeleton, which was a little far away, but he was running pretty fast.
Yeah, he
He was a
was.
fast little skeleton.
He really wanted to make it there as best as he could.
We will never know.
Yeah.
No, if only we could go back.
So we're actually in the midst of pretty much watching metas change here, and I know that the moment the Night Witch changes, we're probably going to see a big switch in the kind of decks we play and the kind of decks we see. But with the Night Witch coming out, we saw a card get a lot of popularity. Some cards kind of dropped a little bit as well. We saw the Executioner has come out to be such a strong card, especially paired with Tornado, which we see very often.
And it's interesting that a lot of these players, we asked them, what is your least favorite card to play against? A lot of them said that combination of Executioner and Tornado, and I could see why. I mean, he's such a strong counter to so many cards.
Yeah, Tornado and always paired with Executioner, but Tornado's kind of one of those cards that is just like anti-fun, doesn't let you play the game the way you want to play it. But Executioner just takes care of everything, and everybody pretty much has a pocket Lava Loon. I mean, if somebody loses with their main deck, odds are pretty good that they're going to be able to play Lava Loon really well and maybe surprise their opponent.
Yeah.
Executioner takes care of Lava Loon pretty well, so pretty much everybody puts it in their deck.
Generally, if a card raises in popularity, another one's going to tank. Ice Golem, the sacrificial master, who always does everything he can to just take as much damage as possible before he explodes in a puff of snow.
Our slushy little friend, as he said yesterday.
Yep, he's one of my favorite cards, and I'm really sad to see him losing popularity. But that makes him more special to me. I'm gonna keep running
Yeah.
him. I'm not gonna be one of those guys that gives up on
You're
him.
not going to give up on him?
No.
I think, Knight is such a better option right now because he actually deals significant damage back and he actually hits troops, whereas the Ice Golem, he just goes straight for the tower and he ignores all troops in between. So I think that's for 1 elixir more, you have a better choice with the Knight.
I think it's kind of endearing how hard the Ice Golem tries.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The Knight just has so much more health too. It's like 1,000 more health. He
One
can
more
tank for so
elixir.
much longer.
And
So
he has a
much more health.
mustache. You guys feel biased towards the Knight's mustache?
I do respect that about him. That's how you know he's a great guy. But it's just not enough. I think the Ice Golem might have a little bit of a mustache.
Grow a mustache,
It's a
Ice
snow
Golem.
Snow stash.
And then we have cards raise and decrease in popularity, and a couple just kind of They've always had good use, the Princess being one of those. Her damage is great, her AoE is great, and she can always put damage onto the tower. You think we're going to see her raise in popularity at all?
I wouldn't be surprised to see her go up in popularity. Well, I thought that she'd see a little bit more play with Night Witch in play now, because she does hit the bat, she does hit the Night Witch as well, and that's kind of rare to hit air and ground. But we haven't really seen her today, so I might have been completely wrong about
I like
that.
her though. I mean, you have to address her because she will never cross the bridge unless you have a tornado or something like that. But otherwise, she's going to stay put right there at the bridge. You have to do something against her.
She's really only popular in log bait, though, and we haven't seen, I don't think we've seen any log bait.
Not today, not yet.
Things have been changing quite a bit. So earlier today, we asked you guys on, I know it wasn't today, earlier, let's be a little vaguer. Earlier, we asked you guys to send us in some decks you needed some help with. We got some troll decks, I'm not gonna lie. We got some real fun ones. But we have our Masters of Knowledge on standby, Rum, Ham, and Full Frontage. They're gonna take a deck that we got and they're gonna try to fix it up. They're the deck doctors. Boys, show me what you got.
The deck doctors are in session, and let me tell you, our first patient is Terminal. This deck is pretty brutal. We're gonna try to do what we can to punch this deck up. Mind reading these cards off for me here, Nick?
All right, so we have the Clone Spell, the Freeze Spell, the Bomb Tower, the Rage Spell, Elite Barbarians, Royal Giant, Heal Spell, and Spear Goblins.
This guy is a level 12 in Frozen Peak, and I think I know why. This deck doesn't do a whole lot of anything. So let's talk about what makes this deck. Let's try to punch it up. We're going to replace the cards. I think we're going to replace upwards of like 3/4 of the deck to make this playable. Here's what I think. I think we keep the Elite Barbarians and the Royal Giant. Those are the only two cards that I can see in the deck that do things and hit towers. So let's try to keep those.
Seems good.
Now, when people say that you want to play spells in your deck, they're usually referring to spells that deal damage because you want to remove enemy troops from the board.
Yeah.
Royal Giant is the kind of card that it puts a challenge on your opponent. Deal a lot of damage to the Royal Giant or take a lot of damage on your tower. So what you want is instant spells to remove whatever they're defending with. Instead, you have Clone, Freeze, Rage, and Heal, which are magically spells that don't actually do anything to troops that are already on the field.
Freeze, but it's arguable in a Royal Giant deck.
Very true.
Works in a Hog, but not Royal Giant.
We also got a Bomb Tower in here. What would you take out that Bomb Tower and replace?
I would take out the Bomb Tower and toss in a Furnace. So the Furnace is going to add some versatility to the deck. When you have that Royal Giant rolling up, the Fire Spirits can hit air and ground. And you can also have it trickling down one lane while the Royal Giant is pushing the other lane. And if you need to, you can switch lanes. Or if your opponent takes a tower and you take a tower, then you already have more damage going down the opposite lane.
Yeah, and I like that you can play the Royal Giant and the Fire Spirits will kind of back it up and blow up on stuff there. Let's take out all 4 of those spells and let's replace 3 of them with, what I think are more traditional spells to put in a Royal Giant deck. Generally, you'd like to have 2 small spells, a Zap and a Log, or arrows if you don't have Log. That will give you a lot of versatility against spell bait decks that run Goblin Gang, Skeleton Army, and of course, if those are played against your Royal Giant, just blink them off the board. But you're also going to need a big spell because Inferno Tower can give you a lot of trouble. So I'd recommend Lightning.
Lightning.
Yeah.
For sure.
With Zap, Log, and Lightning, you can actually you're not forced to play your Royal Giant that often. You can get the valuable spells when you want, and when your opponent falls behind an elixir, hit them with the Royal Giant. And I think, what do you think? We got one more. We got a Spear Goblins. We got 1 spell spot to improve this deck with.
All right, so let's take out the Clone, Freeze, and Rage and put in Lightning, Log, and Zap. If you don't have Log, toss in arrows. For the Spear Goblins, I would say Minions, Archers, Musketeer, or Electro Wizard if you have it. Electro Wizard is a great support unit for the Royal Giant.
Let's upgrade them to Archers. Everyone's got Archers. Arena 1 card. What's nice about that is that unlike Spear Goblins, they're not going to die to arrows or Zap or Log. So they provide you a little bit of a spell-resistant support troop that it's not easy to get to in behind. And for the last card change, let's take out with that 4th spell. What do we have left? We still got Clone in the deck. Or Rage, I'm sorry. We'll take Rage out of the deck, and let's give you 1 more support troop. I like that suggestion of Minions.
Minions,
Let's put Minions in there, and the reason why is they're another 3-cost cycle troop. They're good at attacking ground, good at attacking air. But what they're really cool with is for 9 elixir, you can drop the Royal Giant and the Minions. Minions fly ahead, get in the way of any Inferno Towers that might be waiting for you, and can lock onto the tower and do a ton of damage if not answered.
Yeah, if they don't have that Inferno Tower down and the minions just go right to the tower while the tower is locked onto the Royal Giant, those minions will go through that tower pretty fast.
Well, that's the Deck Doctor. Remember to send your decks in for social media, and it could be featured at halftime of next week's Crown Championship Global Series. Back to the guys in the locker room.
I don't know what kind of doctor that is. 80% of that deck is gone. That's like a butcher.
He's just,
That's true.
The deck is now an amputee. All of the legs are gone. Everything's just gone except for the head.
It's just barely
The royal
exists.
giant head.
Yeah, which is actually not the head you really want to keep.
Probably not.
No.
Definitely
He's
not.
a little
All right.
goofy looking.
So, now, for those of you who are watching live, we've got something special for you. We have an exciting giveaway for fans from North America. We have a 20% off code and a $500 coupon for the Supercell store. Anyone can use the 20% off code, but only one person can snag that $500 code, and it's first come, first serve. You can use these codes all at shop.supercell.com. I'd ask if you're all ready, but you're online, so it doesn't really work. So put it on. This is it, boys and girls, and anyone out there watching. This is the code for $500. Whoever gets there first gets to snag it.
That's not fair. I don't have my phone on me.
I know.
There's a lot of merch in that store that I want. No.
And if you're slow, your internet's not great, and you can't do it, don't worry. Here's the 20% code as well. Everyone can use this. Anyone watching live right now can take and check this code out, and you can go get discounts in the store. The codes expire in 24 hours, so be sure to go use them as soon as you can. It's not you guys, though. Oh, I guess you guys can do the 20%.
I have 24 hours. I'm definitely using that.
20%
I
off.
just
We
can't
got
get the
that
500.
I forgot to tell you, this show's 36 hours long.
Oh, man.
Dang.
No merch for us.
No merch.
All right, so we just give you guys some really good advice on decks. Now we're here to give you some probably bad advice on some decks.
All right.
We were tasked by some people on Twitter to make a deck with one particular card at hand, Sparky. But the challenge is we have to now do this in a minute and a half. Right?
Easy.
A minute and a half.
It's somewhere around there.
We have 90 seconds to build a deck around Sparky. You guys are gonna help me for it. The way it works is I'm gonna shout out a card, it's gonna lock in, and then by the end of it, we're gonna force ourselves, mostly because I think it's fun, to play this deck. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
All right,
Okay.
let's start the clock.
Sparky.
So we have Sparky.
Okay.
Yeah, number one, Sparky.
So,
We got Sparky at
all
least.
right, we got her. So the biggest thing to counter her is E-Wiz. We need something to take out E-Wiz.
Or
Fireball
something just
and
tank the
rocket?
2 bolts. So.
Okay.
Well, okay, yeah. Let's
Fireball
deal
and
with it
rocket?
first.
Fireball and
Fire-
rocket?
Let's go rocket.
Let's go
Let's
rocket.
go, like
Fireball
mechanic.
won't
Let's
kill
go
him,
risky.
so-
We're
Okay.
gonna stick with a theme. It's gonna
Card
be
number
like
2,
mechanics.
rocket.
Rocket.
All right,
Okay.
rocket.
What if we make E-Barbs the tank? Like we put E-Barbs in front of it by the time it gets
That's
to the river.
a horrible idea.
That's
Let's
expensive.
Let's not. Let's put a cyclone or a tornado.
Tornado?
Yeah. Different
Okay.
thing.
Tornado?
Pull
Tornado on the
everything
deck.
away
Pull
from
everything either
Sparky?
away from the tower so that Sparky
Okay.
can get a clean shot on the tower,
Or
or
in
group
the-
everything
Every-
up.
Okay,
Oh.
that's
So that
great.
everything explodes.
Good combo. So
Yes.
tornado, card
Everything
number 3.
together? Okay, tornado.
All right.
I like it.
what
Maybe I liked your idea of maybe something too small to tank in case they have an E-Wiz, so
Or
maybe
something
a
big to
horde. Okay. I was thinking maybe
Or maybe
Skarmy.
both.
Maybe both.
Yeah. I'm thinking. Okay, you want
Skarmy?
Skarmy?
Yeah, I
All
kind
right, I
of
want
want
Skarmy.
I
Skarmy.
mean,
What do you
Skarmy still
think?
works really well for
Yeah?
defense, so I think it's a safe bet. So Skarmy in, and I
Okay.
think we need a tank. So we
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
giant?
I'm thinking giant.
Giant.
I'm thinking giant. Giant's a good
Okay.
safe bet. It just kind of brumbles its way down the lane,
Yeah.
and it's annoying
Yeah.
to deal with.
I've seen in chat and do it, so obviously
Yeah.
it works.
Hey.
I'm cheating a little bit here.
And I think with the Sparky behind it should help with Inferno Towers against that giant as well, hopefully.
Yeah.
True.
So giant for card number
Definitely.
5.
Okay. I feel like we need something small.
That's,
Something
oh crap,
tiny.
we have 7 seconds.
Okay, skeletons.
Wow,
Skeletons.
What the heck? Skeletons.
Ice Spirit and Fire Spirit.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, cycle. We'll just cycle this. I didn't even realize.
Just cycle Sparky.
That was
All right, Skeletons, Ice Spirit, and Fire Spirit are our final 3.
Oh my goodness. We have no
I thought we
chance
had
against
so much
air.
more time.
We are
Oh,
screwed
no.
against
to look.
air.
We're gonna play
Oh,
this
no.
very shortly.
Please no
let you
lava
know.
loons.
All right, I
Probably
forgot to
not
look.
like that. Honestly, we made it. I
Wow.
think it's great.
We have Tornado and Rocket for Lava Loon.
That's
and
Fire Spirits for the pups.
Tornado alone just beats Lava Loon. We're good.
Tornado
Oh,
deals
boy.
with pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we win because we have Tornado in the deck. No
So,
problem.
all right, please don't take that advice as well as the deck doctor.
try this at
Rumham, help.
You should definitely let us know if you play with that deck and you win. You need to let us know because I'm curious to know how it actually does.
Good
I want to
luck.
know your trophy count. I want to know what arena it's working well in. If you're just maybe doing well against people that are struggling with certain cards. But all right,
Whoops.
let's stop ruining everyone's experiences. Let's get right into match number 5. Oxalate and God Slayer. How do you guys
Okay.
think it's gonna go?
Wow, Oxalate versus Godslayer. So we haven't seen Godslayer play yet today, and he's kind of our unknown. He's our wild card a little bit.
So we do know that Godslayer is really proud of his Lava Loon Rocket deck. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. I mean, he played it pretty much the entire bracket play, really proud of it. And I mean, everybody sees you playing Lava Loon. When you're in those clans, you can see what people are playing. So obviously people that are about to play him go back and see, well, he played a lot of Lava Loon. So they're ready for that. They're gonna try to counter it, but it didn't work. I mean, he beat everybody, obviously, with that one deck.
Yeah.
So probably gonna see it again.
I'm a little scared to give it to Rumham because I don't want to hear what he has to say about our deck. Hopefully he'll deck doctor that out. But
Oh no.
Oxalate and Godslayer. 5th match of the day. Rumham and full frontage. Take it away, boys.
I will definitely admit that was an interesting deck. We'll take a look at that later, guys. But match number 5, we have Oxalate versus Godslayer. This matchup is going to be a great one coming out of the half.
The first matchup where both players are going to be here in studio, so we'll get to see a little bit of showmanship.
Yeah, we'll see what the players have to say to each other on stage. And so here we have Oxalate. We've seen him play today. We know he's known for the graveyard, and we can see him about to walk out on stage. Member of Hammers Esports, so he's excited to be here, and I think he's gonna bounce back in the second game. I think he's been on the stage already. I think he's like, okay, this is what I did wrong. Like, nerves are getting to me, but you know what? I'm good now. I'm ready to play.
With his opponent actually on the other stand, I wonder if he's gonna sit or stand for this match. We'll see. But coming out on the other side is Godslayer. Now, Godslayer is an unknown tournament player, somebody who defeated so many top players that his clan kept saying, hey, man, you're slaying all these gods. Here he comes. Oh, buddy. For those of us who have met Godslayer already, he is a real character. This guy is hilarious. Off camera, I hope he's as funny on camera as he is off. Coming out with the cowboy hat and the swagger. He told me earlier, everyone's rooting for Godslayer.
Yeah, and he also told me, I met up with him before we came over here, and he said his first deck is not going to have Nightwitch.
Really?
He said he wasn't going to play Nightwitch.
Why would you give away that info, buddy? You got to let him know. All 73 cards are at your disposal. And here we go. Looks like Oxalate's going to go ahead and sit, ignore his opponent, and Godslayer standing, lording over him. Cowboy hat ready. I mean, I swear, if he takes that hat off and, like, runs it around in his head, like swings it in the air when he wins, he'll be my new favorite player. He lied to you, sir, because we've got a Nightwitch in both decks.
He's using the P.E.K.K.A. Battle Rim, as we were discussing earlier.
Yeah. It looks like it's a deck that matches up pretty well against Nightwitch, and of course Oxalate is playing a deck that looks like primarily Nightwitch and Execution are really the only things going on aside from Miner. So it looks like he's going to be playing a little bit of a spell cycle with these support troops. We'll see what Godslayer pulls out, who has, I think, a little bit more of a traditional coming for your tower, beat you down deck.
Yeah, and Oxalate, you can see here, he just cycled the log and the tower. I think he wanted the Miner to tank for the Executioner.
Yeah, definitely.
And that did not happen. The Miner just got there a little too late, but here comes a pretty decent-sized counter push from Godslayer.
Yeah, you saw the oops, and that's kind of what he was going for. He was like, oh, oops, I didn't really need to play those archers because the tower was already locked on. That said, this Baby Dragon hasn't taken a shot yet. Might get a decent, no, it's not going to get damage on the tower, it'll go for the Executioner, but killing that Executioner is still pretty good. Oxalate's defense, nuts, or should I say Nightwitch's defense. That Baby Dragon spent like 4 attacks on the random Garbo that was hanging around on the field.
Yeah, and Oxalate also split the bats in the center, so the Baby Dragon was focused on the skeletons and then the bats from the Nightwitch, so that as they were coming out one at a time, the Baby Dragon had a lot to go through, and he was just chucking them down one at a time.
And nothing gets by Big Mama's house, so P.E.K.K.A. comes in, chops up that Executioner in 2 swings, walks back a little bit, decides to give the Miner a piece of her mind. And it looks like that was a tornado, but was that really the best tornado we could have seen? The tower wasn't getting shot that much. Now it doesn't have it for the Executioner, but maybe doesn't need it.
I think what Oxalate... Oh, the P.E.K.K.A. got a hit on the Executioner, but I think what Oxalate was trying to do was he didn't want the P.E.K.K.A. to take down the Nightwitch just yet. He wanted the Nightwitch to get a little bit more damage, so he tornadoed it back so the Nightwitch could hit a couple more times before the P.E.K.K.A. took it down.
Godslayer has a significant elixir advantage, 4 to 5 elixir advantage. Even though his tower is down a little bit of damage, I think he's really happy with his status having more elixir. And as we get into double elixir time, that generally favors the bigger, more expensive deck. In this case, of course, P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram, Baby Dragon, Nightwitch.
Yeah, and while that was a great lightning, the timing of the Executioner from Oxalate, the lightning was not able to hit the Executioner. So there's a pretty healthy Executioner going down that left-hand lane.
And that's why we see the Baby Dragon coming back. The Baby Dragon, along with the tanking of the tower, should be pretty good work here. Trying to, oh no, uses that tornado. Is pulling it back a little bit, letting the Baby Dragon take some significant hits. Here's another Executioner already, and we just count the cards until Tornado comes back. 1 card, 2 card. He needs to play 3 cards, there's that, and a 4th card, and he'll have Tornado back in hand.
There's lightning, and the P.E.K.K.A. does fall to the tower before it can get a strike, and Oxalate is looking good for a counter push.
And you see how dominant Tornado can be against these beatdown decks. That's part of the reason why I think we're going to see that card get changed on Monday to have a slightly lower duration. It's just so good at stopping these big tank pushes.
Yeah, and that log is going to help knock the Nightwitch back and take her down, so the bats will die to the poison, so there's no bats on the field now.
I wonder if against these sort of plays where you know your opponent's going to put 8 elixir on defense down, if you don't start to split push a little bit. You know, like put the Battle Ram in the other lane, let the Baby Dragon archers eat the tornado. It's unfortunate, but that's what you got to deal with. And then on the other side, you can put pressure with the Battle Ram.
Yeah, and that miner is getting some good chip damage on the right-hand corner of that tower. Now we have, great tornado right there from Oxalate. The Executioner is going to clip it. Expect to see a lightning here from Godslayer to take down the, no.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why not. He's obviously super worried about incoming miners trying to block him as much as possible.
Yeah, and that miner got quite a bit of damage on that top left-hand side, and Godslayer tried to switch it up, but it looks like Oxalate will be able to take this. And with a miner log, there's the miner, there's the log. If that miner doesn't finish it off, there's the poison. Oxalate takes game 1 against Godslayer.
And that was just methodical defense and counterattacking. I mean, we saw, Godslayer was building up these big pushes, but Oxalate just stuck to what was working. Executioner, Tornado, was willing to eat a lightning if it meant stopping that whole big push. And slowly but surely, the counterattack of miner, poison, log, just chipped away at the tower over the course of 4 minutes, took the game.
Yeah, and one thing Oxalate did very well was he was able to split his bats that were spawning from the Night Witch in the skeletons to really distract that baby dragon, so the baby dragon really didn't get a lot of value.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where baby dragon, even though it's not a huge threat to a tower, in these really close games, it has enough hit points and enough damage that it'll survive these skirmishes, fly over with half health and spit like 2 to 3 times. Well, that's like 300 to 400 damage that can really be the difference if you can make that happen 2 to 3 times throughout the course of a game. None of those baby dragons are hit.
Yeah, Oxalate, he kept the baby dragon off the tower, and like you were saying, there's 300 to 400 damage. That's like what the miner essentially does. So it's like you're getting that constant chip damage, and the P.E.K.K.A. was just not able to get through and give it that final oomph.
What I was kind of surprised about, but I think this is how Oxalate was structuring his pushes, is that those miners were almost never intercepted. I don't think a single one was actually blocked at the tower for Godslayer. Sometimes he had the archers in the back, and the archers would shoot at it, but I think there's only one time that I can recall where the miner actually turned and hit the archers or anything that was intercepting it as opposed to locking onto the tower.
Yeah, it did hit one. It would hit one archer and then it turned back to the tower, and still got a couple 100 hits on the tower. So that's the definite game changer, especially when you're playing a miner control deck. If you can't get those chip damage hits in, then you're set up for failure. But Oxalate was able to control the flow of the battle, control the tempo that Godslayer was playing at, and he was able to get those chip hits in, and that won him the game.
Well, that 10-gallon hat tells me that Godslayer is not afraid of this next matchup. He's got to recover. Now, remember, he got his name from defeating all these gods of Clash Royale. I think it's fair to say that Oxalate, a member of Hammer's esports and part of the pro scene, is, on that level of a god he's supposed to be slaying. So if he wants to live up to his name, he's got to turn it around this second game. Still playing the P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram Night Witch deck here in game 2. Oxalate has switched to Giant Night Witch Lightning.
Yeah, and he also has a miner in there, which is interesting because there's no support. I guess when the Night Witch dies and the bats spawn in, then the miner can tank for those, kind of like a minion horde, miner minion horde push. So we'll see what Oxalate is going to have in mind for this. Oxalate running 2 spells, lightning and zap. Godslayer running 3 spells, lightning, zap, and log.
Great reactive play there by Oxalate. He saw the P.E.K.K.A. in the very far back, and that means, hey, that's the card. P.E.K.K.A. would counter Giant. Time to play my Giant on the other lane, and the Giant Night Witch we've heard so much about is in here. Lightning comes down, takes out some of it, zap cleans up the bats, but that's just a half-health Giant now, and that's nothing to sneeze at either.
No, I don't think it'll take the tower. Actually, it might. It's going to be very close. 32. It didn't take the tower. And it was very close, and a great defense on the P.E.K.K.A. by Oxalate.
And we mentioned P.E.K.K.A. is just not a great offensive card. It's at its best when it gets some value on defense. Like, for example, if P.E.K.K.A. kills Giant, that's a 7 elixir card killing a 5 elixir card. If on the counterattack it just gets stopped by Skeleton Army, you're like, well, whatever, I spent 7, they spent 8. That's not the end of the world. But here we saw 7 spent by P.E.K.K.A. His opponent defended with only Mega Minion and Miner, which is 6 elixir, not even like a real strong defense. P.E.K.K.A. didn't get close.
Not even.
P.E.K.K.A. on its own on offense is pretty unimpressive, and of course, by playing it and getting out of his hand, he left himself open to Oxalate's Giant counterattack.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a miner comes in here from Oxalate, but it looks like the Baby Dragon is going to change that decision from Oxalate.
Yeah, I think he realized that even with the miner, he's not looking at a ton of damage, and he might eat a big counterattack if he does. Especially if you're worried about that P.E.K.K.A. You throw a miner in, if the P.E.K.K.A. intercepts it, that is a way for P.E.K.K.A. to get a lot of value on defense.
Yep, because
some of your damage.
Then it'll take down the miner and finish off anything else he has going. And Oxalate played the Giant on the right-hand side, so Godslayer will react with the P.E.K.K.A. A great counter to the Giant.
This is a much better situation. Now, Oxalate kind of has to go for that tower, because, yeah, he's going to take this one down right here, but this could go to a 2-tower setup. He does have the damage lead there, but this is Godslayer's chance. He's got his tank, he's got his defense. If he wants to win this game, this is the time to do it.
Oh, great lightning there. The zap doesn't quite finish off the Baby Dragon, but the archers will come in and finish it off. Ooh. Giant coming down to distract the P.E.K.K.A. And one archer is actually focused onto the Mega Minion.
And that was good to clean up the Mega Minion, which could really cause trouble. And we see this P.E.K.K.A, like, the P.E.K.K.A is tanking the tower, but it's also taking just an absurd amount of damage after a while.
Yeah, a zap comes down to reset the battle ram, and the miner's gonna come finish off the battle ram. And the Baby Dragon was still alive, doing loads of damage to the barbarians.
Oh, but it was splashing on the tower for a hot second there. Good games coming out of Godslayer. I think he knows that at this point, there's just nothing he can really do. Cards like the Giant come down, and even if they don't fight back, they absorb so much damage that it's just not possible for Godslayer to do 1,600 damage to the tower in the next 3 seconds. Oxalate is going to take that game 2-0 and move to 1-1 in his matches so far today.
Yeah, I don't think we've gone to a game 3 today. Have
You're
we?
right. I don't think so. You're right. I think it's all been 2-0 matches.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I would expect there to be a little closer matchups.
But well, we might see that as well as some of these players who've picked up wins.
Yep.
You know, Rice is now 2-0, Batman's 1-0, 10-2 is 1-0. If those players start fighting each other, we might be seeing a lot of Game 3 close matches. But you're right. It seems like so far, the players who have been winning have been doing a much better job of predicting their opponent's deck, having the counter deck ready, outplaying them, and really not falling into the trap of what their opponent's trying to make them do.
Yeah, and like referring back to Batman, again, controlling the tempo of the battle, that he's just one player that stands out to me that does that so well. And I think players are starting to do that throughout the day, and that's why they're just dominating they're dominating so well. They know what their opponent plays in game 1. If they beat that, then they say, okay, I kind of have a feel for my opponent's playstyle, and they can just adapt so quickly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I feel makes these 2-0 series or matches happen, is because they just adapt to it so fast, and they can just, okay, here's how my opponent plays, so I know I need to play like this. When I get a big push going, they're going to try to react like this, so I need to be able to be ready to stop that.
Yeah, I'd say there's 4 skills of an incredible Clash Royale player, and you pick them up sort of one at a time.
Yep.
The first one is mechanical skill, the second is deck building, the third is adaptability, and the fourth is game vision, and you pick them up sort of one at a time. We can talk about that more later. That match was an incredible 2-0 victory. Back to the locker room.
So yeah.
That wasn't as close as I was hoping it would be. We see P.E.K.K.A with some more play, but it just couldn't push through.
Yeah, he just could not get that P.E.K.K.A to punch through the Giant. Just kept stopping at the bridge, swinging. 2 Giants actually took down, still not able to get through.
I know. I feel like both games, Oxalate played such smart defense, and he was patient, and then once he had that counter push, he went for it. He went for that counter attack. But yeah, I mean, Godslayer just could not connect to Oxalate's tower.
Yep. Godslayer might have lost, but in my book, he's a winner with that cowboy hat on. Yeah, I really like that a lot.
agree.
Trying to bring out the Texan in me.
I'm loving it. Oxalate sitting down. We have Namaste and the cowboy up there together. Some
Already.
good sportsmanship.
We've only got a few guys here, but we've apparently got a couple of personalities.
Yeah, some characters. I mean, every time that Godslayer got his P.E.K.K.A across the tower, there were so many times where I was holding my breath, like, oh my gosh, is she actually going to hit Oxalate's tower? But I mean, he even threw out that defensive miner one time, and I'm like,
The
smart.
defensive miner was really smart.
You gotta do it.
You usually, especially when you have a miner, you don't want to lose the utility of being able to place it. You know, since it's kind of like a spell card, you can put it wherever you want. And on the fly, you're just like, can I get away with not using miner? You always think like, I want to save it for the chip damage.
He's only 3 elixir. He's kind of like a just cheap, well, not a cheap knight, because he's the same cost as knight, but he's kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for here?
I don't know. What? I actually don't know.
A ghetto knight, maybe? I don't know. You just kind of throw him in. He's not quite as strong, not as tanky, but he gets the job done.
This shovel, it sounds super
he's like a miner. Yeah.
But it works really well. So we have a lot more matches under our belts now. We've had a lot more action. We have some more points going out. Oxalate now 1 up and 1 down, so he's in a pretty place going into next week, sitting perfectly in the middle there, underneath C McHugh, who hasn't played it yet. 10-2 and Batman tied up 1-1 apiece, and right now Rice going 4-0 with his matches. He hasn't lost a single one so far, doing well.
Yep, Rice is crushing it. Hopefully he can keep that up going into the next week and the week after that. But I mean, obviously a lot of these things are going to change because we do have quite a few matches to go through before we get to the finals. So if you're worried about Lucifer and Unstoppable, don't be.
Don't you worry.
Yeah. They've got plenty of time to pull themselves out of that. But we have our top 2 right now, Batman and Rice.
Oh yeah.
They have the top wins right now. Not a whole lot has happened so far, but we have a pretty good amount. 2 wins for Rice. Can he get a 3rd out? What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, I think so. At this rate, I mean he's ahead.
He had some pretty convincing victories. I fully believe that he can get a couple more under his belt.
Yeah. I have to agree. Yeah.
I wanted to try and think. 10-2 also. I mean, he's tied with Batman for 1 win now.
That is true. I really want to give it to Batman though. He gave me my Dart Golem, and you know, I honestly think his deck creativity could still do really well for him. I think he was bringing out some cool stuff and playing really well against some really heavy metas. But Rice,
definitely.
I mean, playing really strong.
Don't get me wrong, I'm rooting for Batman, but I think Rice is definitely going to take it.
All right, well, almost flat across the board here on one-sided predictions, but I know we have them to prove us wrong, hopefully. Let's see if Rumham and Full Frontage, let's see what they think, guys.
Two players combined 6-0 in their game victories already today. Rice versus Batman.
This is going to be quite the matchup. Again, going back to Batman's ability to control how his opponent plays, but Rice has been showing he's been asserting his dominance today.
Yeah! I mean, none of these players have really shown any weakness. Batman is coming out first here, of course, as we mentioned, not on site, so coming up. But here, member of Nova Esports, performed very well, including running that P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram Dart Goblin deck in the last match that we saw him in, the first match of the day that he participated in. This is Rice's 3rd out of 4th match today. He's actually got one more after this, and if he can secure a win, if Rice can maybe get another 2-0 victory and go to 3 match wins, I think he's pretty much punched his ticket to the playoffs. The top 6 players, you don't want to be one of the bottom 2 who gets eliminated. If you have 3 wins, even if you lose all the rest of them, you're probably in the top 6.
Yeah, and if Rice gets this win, he will be a threat for the rest of the season.
Oh, 100%.
Because he's, in day 1, he's shown, like, I'm here to play, I'm here to win, bow down to me. And if he wins this game, that's just going to be a huge momentum shift into Rice's favor.
And with 4 of his 7 matches on the first day, if he can go 3-1, 4-0, he actually has a much easier time in the future week because he can just focus on the 1 or 2 opponents that he's going to play that week. This has really been the hardest week for him, and I feel like he's doing really well.
Yeah, he's coming out, he's ready to play, and I'm very excited to see how these players go head-to-head against each other, being 2 of the top players in the community.
And we've seen a little bit of deck variety between the 2. Rice is going to show up with a Golem Night Witch deck. Batman and Blue along the bottom with that P.E.K.K.A. Dart Goblin deck we saw earlier. I think P.E.K.K.A. against Golem's a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, P.E.K.K.A., again, we were talking earlier, it pretty much slays anything beat down Giant and Golem. So I would say this matchup is in favor of Batman.
I think that would be my first impression, but of course Rice has surprised us before, so I am not writing that one off. Both of them are doing exactly what we talked about. They're kind of feeling each other out. They're both trying to do what they can, playing their cheap cards, getting some damage without really committing anything big to the board. And now we see our first real attack here. The Battle Ram on the left, that log comes through, cleans out a Dart Goblin and the Battle Ram.
Yeah, and the Baby Dragon's going to come down. The Barbarians will still get a few hits in, dealing a few hundred damage. But
yeah, I would say that's a successful Battle Ram, really.
Yeah, it didn't connect to the tower, but the Barbarians got in because there was no ground units to distract them. Baby Dragon cleaned it up, but not fast enough before it dealt 700 damage.
And this is exactly what we were talking about in the after the last match. Sometimes that Baby Dragon just survives and counterattacks for like a reasonable amount of damage. Now, if I'm Batman, I think he went for that lightning there because I think at this point he can tell it's not a Three Musketeers deck. Yeah, there's been too many cards that just aren't in Three Musketeers decks like Baby Dragon and Mega Minion and stuff that he's like, all right, I bet you this is a Lava Loon deck, a Golem deck, a Giant deck, some sort of big tanky deck. So make sure that they cannot pump up because if they get 2 to 3 Elixir Collectors out, you're done.
Yeah, and Batman's only Elixir Collector target is that lightning.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting play by the Skeletons. We see these Skeletons just do so much. They're so versatile for 1 Elixir. He's pulling that Mega Minion, taking it for a walk across the front yard, and ends up putting them all down. Here's where we see Dart Goblin really shine. It's really good against Night Witch.
Yeah, it just picks off the bats so fast, and then if it can take down the Night Witch, then it'll just be a support unit to P.E.K.K.A., a Battle Ram, a Baby Dragon. So I think it fits very well into this deck.
Yeah, we've seen just a lot of situations. Now, the log had just come out. Because the log just came out, we're seeing the Battle Ram in the other lane because he knows his opponent doesn't have a counter to it, and he zaps the Skeletons that were waiting, and the Battle Ram connects.
What a fantastic play right there by Batman. He anticipated the Skeletons coming down, and he was ready to zap for it, but a massive counter push coming in from Rice.
Rice making a little bit of a greedy play there, putting the Golem at the river. That can sometimes backfire, but he has so much of a strong counterattack already there. The bats are coming out. The log is going to pick off some, but not the Dart Goblin.
And that Dart Goblin is going to sit back, chill, and take care of everything.
No, I thought this P.E.K.K.A. was going to do more to stop the Golem, but dang if that Golem didn't get a good amount of damage on the tower. Batman's bottom left tower is about out half health, give or take, as the P.E.K.K.A. is nearly dead.
And the Battle Ram was placed. Oh, the log comes down just to stop the Battle Ram. A lightning comes out from Batman, and this is looking pretty grim.
Incredible mechanical play there. I mean, these guys are just on it. They're getting the exact counters right when they need it. P.E.K.K.A meets the Golem, and this is, I think, a shot where Batman can really turn around. He's already got the damage lead on Rice, but right now, I mean, the Golem doesn't even make it to the tower as the P.E.K.K.A is still at nearly full health, chopping it up. Log comes through, cleans out a lot of it.
But this counter push, this could end the game. If a Battle Ram comes down, we could see a lightning zap come out from Batman to make sure that Battle Ram is going to connect to the tower. Dark Goblin getting some good damage. And Batman decides to reset.
I'm surprised he's not going for the lightning because I feel like Rice's deck can't be that fast. Like, there's nothing Rice's deck can do that quickly that's going to really threaten you. So if you lightning and he just has to start putting golems in the river, like, he might be all right.
Yeah, and Rice doesn't have an elixir collector down, so I feel like Batman could outcycle Rice in this situation.
And he's kind of leaving the door open now for Rice to turn this around because Rice is getting a little bit of damage in the tower. Ah, there's the lightning he's looking for. And he might, oh, the zap's not going to do it. That's why he didn't do it. That's why Batman's so much smarter than we are, is because he did the math already and knew that he would be about 10 damage short if he decided to go for that lightning zap.
Yep, the zap does 64 in tournament standard, so 64 minus 78 is not 0.
And that is a bad lightning right there. He got the lightning off, but I think Rice knows he is done for.
Lightning comes down. Batman secures the victory. I wouldn't say very convincing. Rice almost...
That was back and forth. I mean, really, I think the real downside there was, of course, Rice... the P.E.K.K.A matches up so well against your Golem, and he didn't really have anything to take the P.E.K.K.A out of the battle. Sometimes we see those Golem decks, and they use things like Tornado. You can Tornado the P.E.K.K.A like behind the King Tower, or if it's played in the behind the King Tower, you can Tornado it to the other lane and make it just walk down an empty lane. But none of those tools are really in Rice's Golem deck, so the P.E.K.K.A and the defensive Night Witch just kind of did the job.
Yeah, and the first Golem push that Rice had almost tied the game back up, because the P.E.K.K.A wasn't doing as much damage. I think it was distracted. I think a skeleton came in, and I think it was hung up on the skeletons, and then it turned to the Golem, and the Golem was able to get to the tower, get a punch in, and then explode. I think the Baby Dragon might have been doing a little splash damage.
Yeah. It's tough because it just becomes a jungle down there.
Yeah.
There's so many troops, and they both know that these pushes are crucial. It's like win or lose on these pushes. So they are, as soon as the elixir comes up, they're throwing things down.
Especially in a beatdown deck.
Yeah. One big difference I noticed between Godslayer's P.E.K.K.A Battle Ram deck and the P.E.K.K.A Battle Ram deck that's been so successful so far for Batman is the Dark Goblin.
Yeah.
The Dark Goblin's super long range, a Royal Giant-esque range, allows them to be played in the far lane, outside the range of lightnings, outside the range of most of the troops that are sitting there fighting. So while cards like Archers and Baby Dragon are getting caught up in the fray and wiped off the board, that Dark Goblin's just non-stop.
And I think also Batman did a fantastic job of splitting the Goblin Gang and the Dark Goblin. Like you said, he was playing the Dark Goblin on that left-hand side, and then he was playing the Goblin Gang on the top right-hand side near the bridge, and that didn't give any log value to Rice at all.
I mean, those are both must-log targets, and they're just not getting hit, right? Like if you put one on the far side of the tower and one in the middle, you got to pick which one, and I guess you go for the one on the far side of the tower. Let's check this replay out.
Yes, and this is where the zap comes down perfectly, and the Battle Ram is able to connect to the tower, and one Barbarian is swinging away at the tower and gets 3 hits in. And that's what really gave Batman a dominant lead.
An underrated part of that push was not just the zap taking out, of course, the skeletons, but it stunned the Mega Minion for a half second. And that half second reset of the attack animation allowed the Battle Ram to connect. I think if that Mega Minion would have gotten one more swing, it would have broken the Battle Ram.
Yeah, I think it would have been one shot from the tower, and the tower would have gotten that shot off.
Yeah.
So it perfectly timed zap, not only for the skeletons, but like you said,
tower, Mega Minion, all those things just get froze for a half second. And that's why zap is still a very, very powerful spell, even though a lot of people might prefer log.
Yeah, I think it's the increased usage rate of the Goblin Barrel we've seen in the Spellbait deck and the Goblin Gang. While it does take out Spear Goblins and the Goblin Gang, those 3 Stab Goblins still stay alive, and if you get anything in front of those Stab Goblins, they can provide a lot of value.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen any Goblin Barrels today. It seems like a lot of players have really avoided the Spellbait style of play, but if you'd like to see that style of play, make sure to tune in tomorrow to the European broadcast, because Adam Royale is known for playing that probably better than anyone else in the world.
Yeah, and Surgical Goblin in that bracket as well. He is such a versatile player. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some log bait from him, as he's playing that quite a bit, so that wouldn't surprise me if we see it from him as well.
And you can see, of course, we had the times on during Tournament Talk. I believe it starts tomorrow, local time, I want to say 3 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and 5 p.m. Brazil time for the Latin America broadcasts. Those are both tomorrow on Sunday. But we are getting into Game 2 very shortly here. What do you think is going to change? Well, I guess we can see it. Rice is sticking with the same deck, opted to bring the Executioner Tornado Graveyard combo this time with his Golem deck. No Elixir Collector.
Interesting. And Batman seems to be going with a classic Splash Yard deck, but Night Witch in for Night.
I wonder, okay, so we might have a deck list error here because Rice just played the Ice Golem. Of course, whatever the players play is accurate. They're fine. Yep. There's no deck building restrictions. We'll see what is actually in the deck. It looks like the other cards are accurate. Maybe it's Skeletons are out for Ice Golem or something. Sure.
Yeah, so the Executioner is going down the right-hand lane here, and that's going to shut down the Night Witch completely.
Just the thing is, the Executioner's axe is such a wide radius that you can see it just cleans up the bats. Like even the death bats aren't relevant because they just die on the boomerang. But Bowler matches up very well against Executioner. The Bowler has more health, does more damage, and of course knocks back the medium-sized Executioner. So you might see a pretty healthy Bowler on the counterattack.
Yeah, and the Bowler took the aggro of the Baby Dragon, allowing Batman's Baby Dragon to do some pretty good damage, and it's still alive, and the bats are going to chop it away, but a Mega Minion Graveyard push going down the left-hand lane for Batman's
Executioner. He uses Tornado to pull it back. It's a 3 for 3, so it's not even like a bad idea. You're spending 3 Elixir to kill the Mega Minion. On Tornado, you're not falling behind there. A little bit of damage done to Rice's Tower. 1998, a good year.
So that Executioner is going to be rolling down that left-hand lane, full health. It will come over and take out one bat. Let's see if Rice goes in with anything else, or is he just going to let that Executioner go?
Great surrounds. We've talked about this Executioner, like P.E.K.K.A, great on defense, kind of miserable on offense for that exact reason. That is a 5 Elixir ranged attacking splash damage hitter that can't beat 4 skeletons that surround it along with the tower.
It'll be 3 on Monday.
It'll be 3 on Monday, but if you notice that Executioner only took 2 swings, so it's not even like it hit all 4. It only needed 2 shots for the tower to clean it up. Executioner doesn't have that much health.
Yep, and here comes the Graveyard from Rice. Baby Dragon coming down to defend, and this looks like it'll be a pretty successful defense for Batman.
He's using the Tornado to pull not just the skeletons, everything. Oh, the King Tower gets activated!
Oh, wow. That could be a game changer right there.
Very big game changer, because now if you're new to Clash Royale, let's get you caught up. The King Tower does not shoot unless it is damaged or a tower goes down first. Because it got damaged by one of those skeletons, it now shoots its own cannon. You'll see it shooting right here on that Baby Dragon. The King Tower does a pretty significant amount of damage, and it makes it very hard for graveyards to get through, because now there are 2 towers shooting those skeletons as they spawn instead of just 1.
Yeah, and this Bowler is going to clean up the Night Witch, no problem. And the Crown Towers will clean up the... Oh, 2 bats are just out of range.
Where are those things placed? They're just out of range. Yeah, it's odd.
I think if it's 2 tiles from the river, the right-hand tower can't shoot it.
Got it. So there comes the Mega Minion. Oh, it's going to turn around. Look at that. The Executioner doesn't see him.
Oh, but the Executioner is going to come through and swipe the Mega Minion, but not before the Mega Minion gets off some good damage. And that was a pretty successful defense on Rice's part. The Graveyard didn't do too much damage. So we'll have to see if Rice can win this, even with the King Tower activated.
We just see how deadly those tornadoes are. They just feel like unbeatable if you're trying to get just a normal, honest push across the river. I think this Poison plus Baby Dragon will finish off this Executioner and keep the counterattack from attacking. Now here's the thing, Batman's not doing anything overly impressive. None of these pushes are crushing the tower, but he's keeping up the pressure in every push. Well,
the
take that back.
are about to
This
build
one's
up.
about to take it over.
And the
Tower goes
is
down in
fall.
overtime. I was going to say he's building up these counterattacks that are eventually going to kind of overwhelm it, but apparently that was it. That was the one right there.
Well, Rice played the Ice Golem in the opposite lane, and I don't think he had enough Elixir to play that Baby Dragon to defend against Graveyard, and the Skeleton just built up too fast, and the Skeletons just took it down. Baby Dragon wasn't quick enough.
Another 2-0 victory. Can anyone stop these guys? It's like whoever gets the first game win is like in the brain of their opponent, and they have a hard time recovering.
That was Rice's first loss today. He's now
right.
2-1.
2-1 on the scoreboard as Batman moves up to 2-0. Both of these players, though, still occupy the number 1 and 2 spots. They are on pace to get the preferential seeding into the spring finals, but you gotta hate taking a loss like that.
Oh yeah.
Batman moves up to 2-0. There are still some undefeated players. We got 10-2 in there. How do you think Batman's going to match up against 10-2 when they eventually play?
That is going to be an interesting matchup because Batman has been playing beatdown decks, but as we just saw right there, he's very good with a Graveyard pressure deck. And if 10-2 is sticking to that Siege style kind of play, the Graveyard might overrun the Siege deck, but 10-2 is probably prone to being able to take those big losses to a Graveyard deck, and I think 10-2, if he decides to go with Siege, he'll be able to adapt to it pretty well.
Well, Rice is down to 2-1, but he's got one more game today. Could finish 3-1, or he could finish a disappointing 2-2 after a 2-0 start. Got to be feeling the pressure after that loss. Obviously, going 3-0, you are sitting pretty. You are on vacation.
Yeah.
that's going to do it for our 6th match of the day. Back to the locker room before we get into the final stretch of this first day.
Batman.
Wow.
The Dart Goblin King right now.
I can't believe that he just took down Rice in a 2-0.
Yeah, he showed us how wrong we were. I'm so surprised by that. I mean, I expected at least like a 3-match or 3-game series, but no.
Yeah.
Rice is a good player. I think
Yeah.
that's a testament to how good Batman is himself.
Yeah, he definitely just crushed it. I mean, the pressure that he was
Yeah.
putting on with that graveyard deck was just too much for Rice to handle.
So has Batman had any losses? No, he hasn't had any losses.
No, they're
has
both
he?
2-0 now, right now.
Yeah.
They want to do the
Rice is
Wow.
no longer 2-0.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
They both have 2 wins. My bad.
Oh, okay.
But this
so
is the
here's
final
finish.
push. It dealt so much damage by the end there.
Yeah, graveyard doing what it does best and just putting out so much damage on the tower.
Even with no poison.
We've seen a variety of decks from Batman today. I mean, he just played Graveyard. We saw him with that P.E.K.K.A. Battle Ram with the Dart Goblin, which I feel like is just a shocking play, but it's working for him.
I made the wrong assumption in that these players that like made it through bracket play with pretty much only one deck would be playing something at least really similar to those decks, but I mean, Batman especially has shown up with things that are completely unlike the minor giant that he was playing.
I imagine once they qualified, they knew that this is it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
I
going
mean,
to
I gotta
bring
switch
everything
it
to
up, obviously.
Yeah. I'm going to switch up as much as possible. So now we have a battle for the top spot. 2 players, 2 wins. One of them has a loss. So I'm curious to know how things are going to move on from here. We see Rice now with a single loss. He's just underneath Batman with that record, and Tin2 with a single win. Following short, we have a lot of matches though. Remember, everyone gets to play each other once, so it's going to be even no matter what. Some weeks might get lopsided as other players play a lot more matches. But as we move on, you'll see things balance out a little bit more.
Yep, so far, Tin2 and Batman, the only players that haven't lost any matches. I'm really curious to see how far they can take that without dropping any games to any of the other players here. 'Cause, I mean, you stay on top of that leaderboard, you are sitting pretty for the finals.
You really are, and you really want those top 2. You want that preferred seeding. You want to make sure you
Oh,
can get
yeah.
the top seed.
If you can
I mean,
skip that first round,
it's
that's
huge. I mean, it's huge. Not having to play that first round, just getting to go straight to the semis is an insane advantage over the other players, which are 4, 2, 3 through 6 numbers.
So I have to apologize. I put you guys on the spot, and we built that beautiful deck earlier.
our Sparky.
But I think now's our chance to put everyone else on the spot.
Let's
We
do
are
it.
going to give you guys a challenge every now and then here on this show. But this week, it's the Charge Challenge. So you have to get the last hit on any tower that you kill with a Prince. All right, so this needs to be a charged Prince too. This can't be like he gets zapped and
Yeah,
then just
and then
gets
he
one more
just
joust.
stabs. No, that doesn't count.
He needs to be in full charge mode, and on top of that, you have to win that game. So you can't just do the sacrificial like they're trying to 3-count me and they're ignoring their tower. Let's send the Prince down the lane. You have to win the game and get the final blow.
I personally think that sounds a little too easy. Because,
Mhm.
I mean, my first deck was playing with the Prince, and also a lot of the decks that I lost to whenever I first started learning the game was just Princes that I didn't know how to stop and then get that charge.
But neither of them are really meta right now. So I feel like, so Prince is our normal level, right? And then Dark Prince is our kind of challenge. If you can do it with the Dark Prince,
think,
and that's
if you
your
want to take it to
challenge,
hard mode,
the next level.
Dark Prince. If
Dark
you want to press
Prince.
low 5,
Yeah.
do it with Dark Prince.
I think Dark Prince will be a lot harder, just not as much of a hit.
Yeah.
And he gets attracted just as easily. They're probably about the same speed. I actually haven't ever lined them up next to each other. I know it used to be meta way back in the day.
With P.E.K.K.A.
Yeah,
Double
I guess
Prince
you'd have to
P.E.K.K.A.
see what kind of horses they're actually riding to figure it out. Maybe look at one's on a Palomino, one's on a quarter horse. You got to figure out which is faster.
Yeah. So we have another match coming up for you guys soon. It's CMQ. No, sorry. Apologies. My bad. Lucifer and Godslayer. We were going to have this earlier. We made a joke about the name. We didn't really know exactly who it was going to be. But Lucifer, Godslayer. We saw Lucifer go down earlier today. Godslayer as well, though, so I think they're on even playing grounds going into the next match.
And I think it's even as well because both of those players are here in person. So they are both at the same nerve level of being kind of on stage because I feel like that plays into it as well.
Yeah, I mean, they both lost their first matches today, so they've got something to prove now.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever wins this is going to feel a lot better about themselves going home today.
It's true.
But I mean, Godslayer obviously has so much confidence bringing that hat onto the stage.
love it. I love
I'm not so sure the Lucifer. I think he might feel a little intimidated.
By
I
the
think
hat?
so. I know Godslayer had a lot of confidence, and we mentioned it earlier when we did a lot of analysis on the qualifiers. Lucifer brought out the most variety in decks, right? So in his final 3 games, or matches, I should say, it was his quarters, semis, and finals. He brought out 5 decks within, I believe it was only 8 games.
8 games. And
So
only
8
lost
games,
one
he
of
brought out
those.
5 different decks, and only 2 of them were similar. I think 2 of them were splash yard alterations.
Yeah, the semis was like Expo, and the finals was Lava Loon, and everything else was completely different.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
So, Rumham, I know you got a joke for us. Lucifer and Godslayer. Rumham at full frontage. Guys, show us the action.
He might slay gods, but I'd like to remind you, Lucifer, not a god, a fallen angel.
almost a perfect joke.
Yeah. Oh, the other one I was thinking was that like Lucifer's not going to be intimidated by that cowboy hat. Lucifer grew up in Tampa, Florida, and as a resident of Tampa, Florida, let me tell you, cowboy hats not an unusual sight.
No, not at all. So, Lucifer versus Godslayer, both players are here. So we will see again another.
These two characters, too, these are both players who are a lot of fun. They're very jovial in real life, good jokers. Lucifer, known as Lucy to his friends, coming out here first. Now, he's someone we already had a little struggle earlier today, dropped a game, so did Godslayer. What we're going to see in this match is how can Lucifer bounce back from that loss? How can he recollect? Probably got on the phone with his buddies and was like, what did you see? What could I do better? And he's ready for this next match.
Yeah, and Godslayer also taking a loss earlier today. So we'll see how he's going to bounce back from this. So 2 players that took losses, they're going to be going head-to-head here and see who comes out with a win for today.
If I'm Godslayer, I'm going to play what I'm familiar with. He got here on the back of Lava Loon. We didn't really see it in his first match, tried to play some other decks. I'd really like to see him play that Lava Loon rocket deck that got him this far. Even if Lucifer has researched and sort of prepared for it, you can't replace the ability of someone like, I know this deck, so I know this deck inside, and I'm never going to make the wrong play with it.
Yeah, and here we see Lucifer sitting down. So both times Godslayer has played, his opponents have sat down.
It's because he's such an imposing figure. His name's Godslayer, come on.
You gotta sit down to him.
Yeah, look up, you know. So here he is. He seems very comfortable on the stage. We've got, I kind of love that cowboy hat. I can't tell you how much. I'm supposed to be unbiased, but I've got to root for Godslayer, because come on. You've got to see him too off camera. I can't tell you. I hope we get an interview with him at some point in one of these broadcasts. He is a funny dude.
Yeah, and I think Lucifer is going to be able to bounce back from this pretty strong. While Godslayer was known for his Lava Hound rocket coming through to the top 8, I think Lucifer is going to be able to adapt to that and no problem.
And he heard me. He heard me from the top of the Royal Arena here. Godslayer is playing the Lava Loon rocket deck with a Night Witch that he didn't actually have Night Witch when he first qualified, but he's got him in there now. Lucifer is playing actually a pretty good deck against Lava Loon. He's got his Executioner Tornado Splash Yard deck. This is a Splash Yard deck that is a little bit better against Lava Loon than most because you have the Executioner instead of the board.
Yeah, and one thing that stands out is Godslayer does have the rocket, so that could take down the Executioner, which only leaves Tornado Baby Dragon to defend against the Lava Loon.
That's the whole reason he played the rocket. So Executioner doesn't die to lightning, and that makes it really tough. Like, you can lightning it, but if it's still sitting there killing your tower, who cares? So instead, boom, that is a rocket on the tower and on the Executioner. Got to be happy with that. That tower is down to 1707 as Lucifer is trying to figure out, all right, I took the rocket. I know what my opponent's playing. You know very well what he's got at this point. It's time to recover.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Godslayer decides to pump up anytime soon. He might have it in rotation. Now, there it is. There's the pump coming down.
And you got to do it because, well, there's no rocket on Lucifer's side, so what does he recover with? So it looks like we've already seen the Night Witch out the other side. That Knight was a tell. The Knight was a giveaway that he's about to go graveyard the opposite lane of the Elixir Collector. So the Night Witch came out on that side preemptively to help defend.
Yeah, and the Poison actually did a pretty decent job. The Skeletons were able to take down the Night Witch faster, so the Bats did die to the Poison. And he got off a decent amount of damage on that left-hand tower, pretty much evening up the game. Lucifer is a little bit in favor, though.
I'd say it's Godslayer's turn, though, to really make an impact. He took some damage, but he got the Elixir Collector on the board, and now he has a slight 1 Elixir advantage. It's got the Lava Hound out. If he can deal with this Executioner, maybe give it a little rocket on top of the head, I think he's got a pretty good shot. Now, here comes the Tornado. Yep, pull it all back. That's why you got to rocket that thing. You almost can't even let them pull off the Executioner Tornado because it's just so valuable.
Yeah, and Godslayer opts to pump rather than playing behind that Lava Hound, and he rockets Executioner. The Lava Pups will get a few hits in here.
That just seemed really late.
Yeah, it was a late rocket, but here comes a Graveyard push. Goblin Gang to stop the Knight at the bridge. Tornado pulling everything together. That Baby Dragon Tower and Log will clean up that Graveyard pretty well.
The poison's coming down to weaken that Elixir Collector in the middle. The bats are closing in as the Baby Dragon's turned around.
Oh, the Baby Dragon was focused on one skeleton that was left behind the tower, and the bats were able to sweep in and do a lot more damage than it could have been done if the Baby Dragon was focused onto the bats instead.
There's the rocket, not even playing it with this time. Yeah, see you later, Executioner. Now, can the balloon get through now? There's still a Baby Dragon, there's still Tornado. It's not like just because the Executioner is gone, there's no splash damage or no tornado targets. Yeah, but, oh, he's got the poison now too.
This is the poison, but I think the balloon is going to live here. Nothing is focused onto the balloon. The balloon's going to get through. The Executioner is going to get a hit.
And he just needs a rocket.
Is the bomb going to do enough? No. 37 health remains. A Knight Graveyard. There's the rocket. And God Slayer coming out on top with the Lava Loon rocket.
Wow, I'm really glad, though, that he went back to playing a deck that he's familiar with, that people know him for. If you've been watching the qualifier tournaments, you probably have an opinion on some of these cards built up from watching these matches. Yep. Godslayer really made the Twitch chat go crazy with this wacky Lava Loon rocket deck, so I'm glad we got to see it here in the Crown Championship spring season play.
Yeah, and I've seen that deck played before. It's very interesting to see because against a Lava Loon, because Lava Loon was very popular before the Night Witch came into the meta, bringing back the Executioner, Rocket was able to take down the Elixir Collectors and say, okay, now I have an Elixir advantage and you don't, so I can steamroll you. So the Rocket was more used for pumps, but bringing back the Executioner, people were like, okay, now I don't want to play Lava Loon. But we can see right here, Godslayer made it very effective. He was able to rocket the Executioner at the right times and be able to push with that Lava Loon.
Yeah, we've seen so many Executioner Tornado plays in the first couple matches. Yep. Godslayer's like, I am not playing that game with you. So here we go. We see the Tornado pulling it all together and the poison that is so much splash damage. Yet you're right, nothing actually locked onto the Baby Dragon, or the balloon. It dives between the Baby Dragon and the Executioner, gets to the tower, and even though it only gets one drop, the additional explosion of the death damage gets it low enough that all it takes is any of those spells. You had a log and a rocket, opts to rocket it.
Yep, now if I was Lucifer in that situation, the Executioner was actually focused onto the Night Witch, which allowed the balloon to get through. I might have played the Executioner right in front of the Crown Tower and just have it sweep forward.
Yeah.
That might have hit the balloon because like we had said, the Baby Dragon was focused onto the Lava Hound, so the balloon kind of went around the Lava Hound and got out of that splash radius of the Baby Dragon. So if the Executioner was in front, it might have been able to still hit all three of those units.
I assume the reason why I was there is afraid of the rocket.
Yeah.
You put it right in front of the tower, you're giving him the rocket that you're trying to avoid, but the downside of being off to the side like that is that you already used Tornado. Tornado's out of your hand. So if it's off to the side, he's throwing sort of a weird crossfire that may not hit all of the bunched up units. He needs another Tornado to kind of pull them all together.
Yeah, the Lava Hound and the balloon flew a bit forward of the Night Witch, so the Executioner saw the Night Witch and he was like, I'm gonna hit you and absolutely nothing else.
That is game one. Lucifer's getting a little frustrated. He's lost 3 games in a row now after winning day 1 of the North American Championship. So arguably the most, the most momentum, the strongest player wins on day 1. And here against these other top players really kind of struggling here on day 1.
Yep.
All right,
so
same deck.
Game number 2. Yeah, looking like the same deck.
I think Lucifer might have just been like, you know what, I played that wrong, or I had a bad cycle or a bad opening hand. I agree with Lucifer's thought process that this deck should like absurdly beat Lava Loon.
Yep.
Like you have the Tornado, Baby Dragon, Executioner. You've also got Night Witch. You've got the poison for your... I mean, I don't know. This deck should just really beat Graveyard, but Godslayer really knew what he was doing. Didn't fall for it.
And that first push was absolutely unreal. The Goblin Gang from Godslayer came out a little bit too late as the Knight took aggro from the Crown Tower, and the Skeletons were able to build up quite a bit. The Night Witch was placed in front, which only allowed to hit one skeleton at a time, while a pile of skeletons came in from the back, and the poison helped take down that pump earlier than it would have fallen.
And of course, the Elixir Collector getting caught up in that poison really hurts because it's like if you took that much damage, but your Elixir Collector was full health on the other side, you're like, no, I got an Elixir advantage, I took some damage. But unfortunately, he took a lot of damage and lost whatever Elixir advantage he was trying to build up.
Yeah, Lucifer has a slight Elixir lead right now, and let's see if he's going to keep that. Executioner is going to come down along with the Night Witch. Let's see if a Tornado is going to be used here.
He's trying to get back to his claim. The Skeleton's trying to cycle to it.
Yeah.
Oh no! But Lucifer has the 3 Elixir now, but I guess opted, thought it was too late, and it looks like we're going to take this tower.
Yeah, the balloon death damage will take that tower, and Lucifer's going to have to take that left-hand tower and then get a really strong push going down the right-hand lane.
He must have spent way too much on that first attack. Now here's the... Oh no! The Tornado doesn't hit the Night Witch!
Oh, the Night Witch would have been huge value if that was pulled in, but I think the King Tower will finish it off, and Lucifer was still able to take that top left-hand tower.
Yeah, I was thinking is that basically if he had pulled that tornado off a little more effective, I guess it didn't really matter, right? Because he still did take the tower. But you're right, he would have stopped the counterattack and got a little bit more of an elixir advantage. Great job by both players taking down a tower. We are entering double elixir time. This is interesting because both of these decks are strong in double elixir time. They're definitely more, they're not like Hog Rider decks or Miner decks where you don't really want to play in double elixir time too much. These decks thrive.
Oh, that is huge rocket value, taking down both splash damage units. And the tornado's gonna pull everything back into the poison, and the balloon's gonna die.
It was locked on. The balloon went a little too fast and got locked on. So we're gonna see some damage here, but not as much. I don't think this is gonna be like a tower threatening push particularly. Might get a couple 500 or so damage on the tower.
If the balloon stayed behind the lava hound, that would have been a different story.
Yes, absolutely.
So I do like the matchup in favor of Godslayer. Graveyard is very tough to use when two towers are locked onto it. So this is gonna be. This is gonna be, but
why'd you play the
he played the Goblin Gang right into the poison.
That's gotta hurt. He took so much damage after all that. That was an incredible play by Lucifer. He's gotta be happy. He's got the tornado in hand, I believe, so he can just pull this away. If he ever sees like anything that's actually threatening here, the baby dragon's gonna tank for those lava pups. Looks like the one more executioner
The executioner swing, yep, the executioner swing was able to damage some of those pups, and a beautiful tornado right there, pulling the balloon into the opposite lane, making it go towards the King Tower.
Both towers sub 1,000 health, though. This is really going to favor. Here comes the poison. Really, if any of these skeletons get damage on the tower, the poison might be enough.
Poison might have come down a little too late, but obviously Lucifer didn't have the elixir for it at the time, so he's going to have to cycle another graveyard poison here if he wants to win this game.
Really, maybe two, because that last graveyard didn't do any damage.
Yeah, the Goblin Gang perfectly shut it down, and I think a couple bats from the Night Witch. He's going aggressively.
Cycle back to it. He's going to take it right here. He wasn't ready for it. The balloon came down, and Lucifer takes the game. We've got our first game 3 coming up.
Match number 7, the first game 3 of the day. We saw both players sticking with the same decks, and like you had said earlier, Lucifer going into this game, he was thinking, all right, I played that first game, kind of iffy. I know this deck can win. I know I can beat this deck, so I'm going to play it again.
Yeah. And that was a really smart move. What I really liked about that was Lucifer, again, we talked about game vision. Lucifer saw, like, okay, we're back, we both have low health, but my opponent is only going to be able to beat me by casting multiple cards that cost like 7, 5, and 4, right? So what he waited for was as soon as that balloon came down, go for it. Graveyard up there, Knight to tank. Even though you're running the risk of losing if this graveyard's not successful, your opponent is really caught flat-footed and can't defend it quickly enough before taking that 400 damage.
Yeah, we saw the log coming down. It was a great log. It got a lot of value, but didn't stop it fast enough.
Yeah, that was, I mean, the poison was going to bring it down, if nothing else, to like 100 and so damage, so he really only could take like one skeleton shot, and very quickly took more than one.
Yeah.
That was,
and Lucifer had the tornado to pull the balloon away from the tower.
That was really
So even
smart.
if he did defend it, the Knight could have walked up and still finished off the tower, but the tornado would have swept the balloon away, and that Lava Hound is definitely not doing enough damage.
And that does give him an elixir advantage, because you can ignore that balloon. That balloon's not going to take your 3, it's not going to 3-crown you or anything like that. So
Not in that short amount of time.
we got our first game 3 coming up. Let's go back to the locker room and see what they think before we move into game number 3.
The final push, all in on the pot, cards up on the table. They both had to go full for that last push, and it went in favor of Lucifer.
Had me on the edge of my seat. That was so scary. I was like, oh no, he's going for it.
I know. I mean, Lucifer had dropped that graveyard, and then Godslayer knew I gotta do something, so he drops that balloon on Lucifer's side, and I just sat there like holding my breath.
Yeah. And we saw some massive graveyard poison damage right here.
This moment scared me so much. Oh, this wasn't it. Never mind.
No, this is the Goblin Gang got dropped directly into the poison.
Right into it. And
really well played.
Goblin Gang is definitely Godslayer's best defense against Lucifer's graveyard, so it stinks that for him that the poison will just eat it up.
Yeah, he has to be really careful with that placement, and honestly, if Lucifer plays his cards right, there really shouldn't be a placement for those Goblin Gangs if you make sure the poison is in the perfect spot. It's a very difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah, but I want to bring up the fact that Godslayer is still playing that Lava Loon. I mentioned this earlier. He just keeps playing Lava Loon in the bracket play, not caring what anybody else was going to play, if they're going to try to counter him. You heard Rumham there. Obviously, Lucifer played it better this time and got the win, but first game, Godslayer was able to take the win against what might be a soft counter deck. Just because he's so good at playing Lava Loon. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it for game 3 too.
Same, I think he knows that's his strength, and so he knows that he's got to go for it with Lava Loon.
Our first game 3 of the day. Who's going to get their first victory? Both these guys vying for it. Rumham at full front to just bring us right back into it, guys.
Beautiful, beautiful. First game 3 of the day. I'm super excited for this. This is what we've been waiting for. This is literally anybody's game.
Yeah, and it's worthwhile that Godslayer versus Lucifer is the one that goes to the epic conclusion. The fate of humanity might ride on this game. We'll see. No, I think this is where we talked about in tournament talk and the pre-show that Lucifer played a lot of different decks in the qualifier tournament, and that can really help him. We know Godslayer's a little bit more of a Lavaloon specialist. He might be able to mix it up, but I would say that even if he played a different deck, he's playing that at like 8 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10. Lucifer might be a 10 out of 10 with more deck archetypes.
Yep, and it looks like
same deck 3 times in a row?
Same deck, yeah.
So looking at the decks, again, I think this favors Lucifer, but we did see a lot of situations where Godslayer was able to set up that Lavaloon rocket, rocketing the Executioner for a lot of value. Both players are waiting. Neither wants to make a real big commitment. Again, like, we can talk this one out. If you're watching, you're like, why are these guys not playing anything? This is pretty smart. We saw this a lot in the North American Open. Like, let's say Godslayer spends 7 Elixir and drops a Lava Hound in the back, like you and I might do if we're just playing a Lavaloon deck.
Yep.
Well, with 10 Elixir, Lucifer can really put the hurt on the opposite lane, and you only have 3 Elixir to defend with. So early on, you try to move through your cheap cycle cards. You try to just get a little ticky-tacky trades out there before committing to anything big.
Yeah, and the pump is going to come down right here for Godslayer. So let's see if Lucifer opts to... There's the poison. I was curious to see if he was going to go for an aggressive push and go with the graveyard in as well. But he decided not to. He decided to play it safe. Let's get the poison, let's take some of that pump away, and let's get ready to defend this next push.
Lavaloon's in that lane because it expects that the Executioner is going to die to the tower, but it's going to be a lot harder when there's a graveyard coming down.
Tornado's going to pull everything together besides one Spear Goblin, but the skeletons were in the back, and a log coming down, cleaning up the skeletons, taking a little bit of damage, but not as bad as it could have been.
Here's the thing, I think he's almost back to the Executioner, and he is. He had spent the skeletons and the Golem, etc. So I think he's trying to rocket right now. He already played the balloon, but the balloon's going to get by the Executioner.
Yeah, Lucifer does not have his Tornado in cycle, so this balloon is going to get a lot of damage because
that a third
nothing
drop?
is hitting it. That is going to be the tower right there. And Lucifer falls right before double Elixir. Let's see if he can bring this back.
Game is not over yet, though, because the Lavaloon deck works so well on offense. It's not a great defensive deck. There's a lot of real stinky defensive cards in this deck. So if Lucifer can start to build up these big pushes, get a lot of tanks on the field, get a lot of units, his counterattack can be absolutely lethal. With an Elixir Collector down, Godslayer doesn't have much to defend with. If a poison comes down or a tornado like this, we might see this tower go down.
Yeah, this tower is going to fall with the support of the Baby Dragon. That tower is down, and the skeletons are marching toward the King Tower. They get a few hits in, but nothing too crazy. A Lava Hound getting played in the back top left from Godslayer.
And I think Godslayer's got to be happy with this. He's a much better deck in the one tower down situation than a graveyard deck could be. He's got the double Elixir for the rocket. Fire that rocket. There it is.
And he's not going to let that Executioner live for more than 5 seconds. He's like, no value today.
2 things are locked onto the Lava Hound. The balloon comes in the middle. The Tornado's going to pull them all together, but that breaks the aggro, I believe, on the balloon. It's locked onto again by the Baby Dragon. It looks like it's close enough to explode, get some damage, but not a ton.
That was a fantastic defense from Lucifer. That was literally as well as it could have gone.
And here's what we talked about the last time. We did that Knight in the center with the follow-up. The poison is hitting 3 units and the Elixir Collector. I mean, the poison values he's getting are insane. If we go deep into overtime, those poisons might be the difference in this game.
Yeah, the poison was not enough to take down the Night Witch. I don't think any skeletons locked on. Again, we see the rocket going down right on top of the Executioner. Now Goblin Gang is going to come in and help deal some damage, but the Tornado is going to pull everything together, take down the Night Witch, the Baby Dragon. And is the balloon going to get a hit? It might want. Oh, it gets a hit!
He gives the fist pump because he knows he's got the game. All he has to do now is no log's not enough. He's got to get back to that lightning or the rocket.
Elixir Collector.
Was that a mistake? He's saying oops. He's saying oops. The poison comes
poison
down
on Lucifer.
Oh my goodness! I think what he was trying to do there was, of course, just cycle, and he was like, give me anything on defense, give me just anything I can put down there. I don't know if that was an accident to play it, or if he thought the building would buy him enough time and elixir to get back to the rocket. But yeah, he needed to play the rocket, use the log. The log could have been good on defense against that graveyard. I think he was a little antsy to get back.
Yeah, I think
lost the game for it.
He started to cycle, and he needed to realize that that log would have been very crucial to use to defend against the graveyard, and then tossing down the elixir pump. I don't know if that was a misclick, or if like you were saying, he was like, just give me anything I can. I need to play something right now. But if it was a misclick, I think a Goblin Gang would have been better in the situation because Lucifer's poison was just directly on top of the tower. It wasn't focused on, okay, if he plays Baby Dragon or Night Witch or Goblin Gang, I need to put it off to the left or back in the right-hand corner or whatever. He just kind of dropped it on the tower to get the damage. And I I honestly think that was a misclick from Godslayer.
It's possible. I mean, we talked about the nerves and being under the big lights.
Yep.
Here's the thing. You know, you watch sports. A lot of times there's a young, hungry upstart team. They make it kind of deep into the playoffs, but they lose to a more salty veteran team, and then they come back the next year and do it. That could be the situation here for Lucifer and Godslayer.
Yeah.
Lucifer's about one big tournament ahead of Godslayer here. Qualified in the North American Open. Struggled at the arena battles, fell there, but now he's back with a little bit more poise, a little bit more veteran confidence in himself. Bounces back from his round 1 loss to pick up a win and go to 1-1 today. Godslayer under the big lights, kind of a bit of a rookie, maybe feeling it, falls to 0-2, but there are 5 more rounds for each of these players to play. Lots of opportunities to turn this around.
Yeah, and I definitely think Godslayer is going to get a few wins under his belt, and we could possibly see him in the finals. And next up, we have the featured match, Lucifer versus CMQ. Let's see what the guys in the locker room and gal have to say about that.
Always remembering last second.
Don't you forget me.
As close as you can get. Both those last games with like just all cards on the table.
Crazy.
That hurt me.
I know. I can't believe that. I mean, what an epic end, and it happens to be a 3rd match. That's what we came to see today.
Godslayer just kind of jumped the gun a little bit there at the end, but hopefully
Elixir
he can pull himself
Collector.
up by the bootstraps. And
I mean, they brought it up though. Godslayer's deck doesn't bode well to defend against those graveyard pushes. So you figure like, I got to do this probably before this next graveyard starts to get in full force.
I think he totally had it. He just like prematurely threw that log down when he really didn't have to. Save that for the defense, but it is what it is.
Wow. I'm just shocked.
And Lucifer got his first win though. Now. He lost earlier in the day. He now has his first win against Godslayer. Godslayer wants that win. He definitely has some time to figure it out. Because remember, like I said, we have a lot of games still going in these next few weeks. Every single player plays 7 games, or matches I should say. 7 full matches because they play against every other player. Now we know we're supposed to have our featured match coming up next.
Yep.
But there's been a small issue. Apparently CMQ, he has a soccer match or something, so he actually is going to get disqualified from this match, which means Lucifer now gets 2 wins back to back.
Yep. Kid's got things to do.
I do love soccer though, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Luckily, I mean, Lucifer is just one step closer to $30,000 now. So
Hey.
I mean, Lucifer better thank
Go
CMQ
Lucy,
for giving me that second
Yeah,
win.
and that's huge for CMQ because getting in those top 2 slots are so big, and giving up a free loss isn't a good way to start it off, especially because he may have had the advantage of being home for that. But we can actually see how everyone's faring now so far today. Now Lucifer with his 2 wins, he's going to be up top with those guys with Batman and Rice. Now puts him just above Rice. Probably tied. They're tied for second.
Just like that, he's in the green.
All
Just
right.
like that, Lucifer, after losing the first game, he's able to get 2 back-to-back.
Really well played by him. I mean, I can't believe how stressful this might have been for Lucifer. You could see whenever he won that match, he was just like wringing his hands back and forth, trying to wipe all the sweat off, get all the sweat off of his palms so he could play.
I don't envy them right now. I'd rather be sitting here on the couch than playing like that.
Yeah, no, especially with mobile games because the
Yeah.
screen actually gets slippery. I think
Your
with a lot
finger
of
just like
Sweat.
slips down the screen.
you get a bad rocket placement.
Maybe that's how the Elixir Collector happened.
Yeah, that's when you drop Elixir Collectors in front of your tower on accident.
You get full panic mode.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so I hope you guys remember I told you also earlier that the 9th match of the day, Twitter's followers got to vote on it. So our 9th match, you guys picked it Rice versus Godslayer. So he still has a chance to get that win on his first week here. How do you guys think it's going to fare against Rice?
Wow, I mean, this is true rookie versus veteran again, and I mean, it's going to be crazy.
They're both coming off of losses, but I think after that match, he's probably going to be able to collect himself, get back in there, pull his boots up.
Well, I mean, let's
kick
just ask
some
him.
butt.
Yeah.
We might as well just ask him. We've got a bagless brown bags on standby to interview Godslayer. I'm curious to know how he thinks he's been doing so far today.
It's your boy Bag with my man Godslayer here for a post-match interview. Unfortunately, had a little bit of trouble with one of his angels. Luckily, Godslayer, I'm glad that you did play your signature deck the whole time. Now, I would argue that your deck is a variation of Lavaloon that takes a lot more timing to get right. Can you sort of explain how it works for someone that's new that wants to try your deck that watched it?
You gotta be really keen with your timing because you can't just rocket random things. That's the whole purpose I put in the rocket is like I just played. You need to get rid of that Executioner. Executioner is the biggest threat to Lava Hound right now as we talk. You need to have that perfect rocket. You can't just rocket nothing. You have to save it for your Executioner.
Totally agree. Now, the second match was so close. We all thought that you had it. What happened there at the very end?
At the very end, I just needed to defend and shoot a rocket, and then I had the W, but I misclicked and I dropped my pump down, and all I needed to do was defend, and I could have just rocketed, but I guess I wasn't even paying attention, so I accidentally put a pump down, and that's what cost me the game.
Fair enough. Now, I noticed that you played the same deck for all 3 matches. Was that like part of your strategy to not change? Like, I'm going to stick to this no matter what because I'm comfortable?
Like some of the times I like to stay the same because my opponents, if I win or lose, they think I'm going to switch up. So they're probably like, oh, I'm going to try to counter it. But if I stay the same, matchups can be better in my favor.
And just for the fans at home, that beautiful, beautiful hat, was that also part of the strategy?
I just wanted to dress like, because I'm from Texas, I wanted to rep Texas and dress like a cowboy.
Awesome, awesome. With that, let's go find ourselves some carpet back in the locker room.
I suppose I earned that one. I earned that callback.
Yeah. I think Godslayer might have just given away his strategy. He was like, I'm just going to stick with this and mind game everybody else because I'm going to be playing the same thing no matter what. I think he's planting a seed so that everybody has that in their brain. Next time, he's just going to play a different deck every time.
I thought you were going to say his strategy of his hat. I totally thought that's what
No,
you were
that
going
could
with
be
that.
it.
And I was like, yeah.
No, that's just a confidence thing. Just bring out that Southern charm.
So he's struggling to get a win, but he still has one more shot. The viewers voted, and they want Godslayer versus Rice.
Now, Rice has only lost 1 of these matches against Batman.
Yep, he lost that last match against
This will
Batman.
be hard.
Took the 4 games before that.
Mhm.
We'll see if he can figure out what went wrong in that game because he was crushing it for the first 2 matches.
Yeah.
All right, well, do we just want to hop right into it? We just want to do it?
I'm okay
I'm
with
ready.
that.
All right, I
Can
think
we
we
do
should do
that?
it.
Yeah, I think
Godslayer and Rice.
I don't know. Yeah.
Godslayer and Rice.
Yeah.
Rumham and Full Frontage. Stay excited for me, guys. Show me the action.
Ah, I'm so excited! We have Rice at a 2-1 victory or 2-1 matches so far. His 4th match of the day against Godslayer, who is 0-2. We've got, I guess, a clear underdog versus an overdog at this point.
Yeah, Rice has been dominant throughout today. We saw him fall to Batman earlier in the day, and we've seen Godslayer take a couple losses, but I think Godslayer can bounce back from this.
We haven't actually seen. Have we seen Rice play against a Lava Loon deck? Because we don't really know how strong his matchups are against that. I think obviously a lot of pressure for both players. Rice does not want to go 2-2 after starting off 2-0. Really wants that 3-1 end for the first day. Of course, Godslayer going 0-3 is the worst. The only thing worse than 0-3 is 0-4 and 0-7. So he's got to win one of these matches against some of these players, or else it's going to be a real disappointing trip out to Los Angeles for him.
Yeah, he won't be living up to his name, like some people say.
God strike back.
God strike back.
But I really, that interview with him was obviously great. I really like the style of deck that he's playing, and I think that he can turn this around. But we saw this in the qualifier tournaments a lot, that if you just play one deck, if you're just a master of one deck, these more versatile, more experienced players are going to take advantage of that. We saw Lucifer play the exact same deck 3 times and dominate in games 2 and 3 because he had a deck that was just really tooled to beat Lava Loon.
Yeah, he knew exactly the mistakes he made in game 1, and he took that into consideration. He's like, if Godslayer continues to play this deck, then I know exactly what I need to do to beat this, and that's exactly what he did.
Here we go. We have Rice coming out first, of course, metaphorically, sitting at home, comfortable. But this is his 4th match of the day. I mean, I don't care where you are, you have got to be exhausted after playing this number of high-stress matchups. And he's got to be maybe feeling bad after that loss to Batman.
Yeah, both of these players coming off of a loss. We'll see Godslayer coming out any second right now. So both players are on a low, and they need to bring that momentum up. Rice has played, like you said, he's played one more match than Godslayer, so we'll see how Godslayer bounces back from his last loss and how Rice bounces back from his last loss, and see if one of these players is going to come out on top. And I expect it to be a game 3 again.
I'm calling it out. Rice is going to be playing Rocket, I think, because whether you see an Elixir Collector, whether you see a Balloon, Rocket's a pretty good answer. Let's see. Rice has a Lava Loon deck tooled to beat other Lava Loon decks, if I had to guess.
With that Inferno Dragon.
That is the debut of the Inferno Dragon, but Inferno Dragon's really strong here. It's like an Inferno Tower, obviously. It has a single beam that if it stays on the same target, heats up, does an insane amount of damage. It's really good against Lava Hound, really good against Balloon. The worst card in both of these decks is probably Log.
Yeah.
Like, Log is not going to hit anything.
Whoa.
Goblin Gang.
Log is valuable for skeletons and Goblin Gang,
Sure.
which is the only targets. So don't expect to see very many logs unless those units come out.
I really like Godslayer's rocket in this matchup because he can rocket the Inferno Dragon, he can rocket Balloon, the Lava Hound Balloon pushes. We'll see how this goes. The Lava Pups and the Bats of the Night Witch actually do a pretty good number there on the...
on that Inferno Dragon.
Yeah, that thing doesn't have too much health. But of course on Monday it'll have 7% more health.
Yeah, it'll have more health than a Baby Dragon.
These poor Baby Dragons are unarmored. Gotta get that Armored Dragon in there.
They're just spitting out at each other.
Baby Dragons have so much health and do so little damage that whenever they like meet each other, it just takes a while. There's a lot to go. Wow, no log coming out there for Rice. He had the elixir.
Yeah, he's just gonna take the damage.
I wonder why.
Godslayer opts to pump right here. The only lightning target from Rice is...
I'd say thanks too. I mean, I just cast 3 elixir and got over 1,000 damage. Thank you is only the polite thing to say at that point.
Yeah. So Lava Hound's coming out from both players. They will cross at the bridge. Let's see which player is going to support their Lava Hound better.
I think this favors Rice. In these big, pushy tank decks, when they fight each other, you don't want your tank to be the one crossing second. Like, you don't want to get caught up like that. The Inferno Dragon, it just blows up the Lava Hound before it ever gets close.
And a fantastic lightning there from Rice. That's why he didn't play it on the pump. But
there's the log.
There's the log coming out, and the bats should fall to the tower, definitely with the assistance of the Mega Minion. But Godslayer has the second pump down now.
And I think he's got to be happy with that because that Mega Minion took so much damage that's not going to hit the tower. You can totally ignore it. You don't have to react to it. You just let it go down. No big deal. Unless a miner comes out or something and you're in trouble. The thing that I have not seen Godslayer have come up with a good answer for yet is what are you going to do about this Inferno Dragon?
I think if anything is played next to, like the Baby Dragon's going to come up, it might be ideal to rock it, but the Baby Dragon was not quick enough. But
lightning comes down, but that's a lot. 6 elixir out of Rice that only took out like a mostly dead pump. Now you got this huge amount of stuff being built up, and he's kind of low on elixir. We see another Rice. Oh, the log comes down, and the Goblin Gang has no answer. Thumbs up comes for Godslayers. He's trying to pull that tower down.
Both of these towers might fall right here, and this could be our first 3 crown of the day.
You're right, we haven't seen one yet. We got 11 seconds left. That balloon is locked on with a bat. A couple more bats following up. We're definitely going to see this second tower go down. Oh, I didn't mean he said oops. Gave him the oops. I don't know if that's a BM or if it's a compliment, but he did say thanks earlier. He's a polite guy.
Yep.
First 3 crown of the day for Godslayer, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Rice goes down 1 game. He played a Lavaloon deck that I believe was built to defeat other Lavaloon decks, so what went wrong for him there?
I think that lightning, like we had said, he was lightning. I have that pump. I don't think that lightning was very much called for in that situation. I think that's what really cost him the game. That lightning probably would have been better off on defense, hitting the Hound, the Baby Dragon, and then the Balloon, because the Night Witch is already at half health, so it wouldn't have targeted the Night Witch, and all those units have more health than the Night Witch anyways.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got to regret not logging that first Goblin Gang, but it ended up not really mattering because it wasn't like that other tower was almost going down.
Right.
But what really jumped out, I mean, we can take a look at that lightning moment here in a second where you see the lightning come down on the elixir collector, and then right after, there comes the Baby Dragon, there comes the Balloon, there's like a Night Witch in the middle. You'd love to lightning all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of that wants to be lightninged, and he just didn't have it in hand at that point.
Yeah, and the log on the Night Witch too was an interesting play with the Goblin Gang coming down the right-hand side. I think Rice was in full panic mode at that point where he's just like, I'm just gonna log.
I think log is kind of bad in both these. If you know that your opponent's going to play Lava Hound, I feel like you'd be better off taking out log and putting in something like arrows. Because what you saw is there's this big mass of just stuff. Just bats and lava pups and just stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
that if you have
especially with
arrows,
the Night Witch.
Yeah, just hit it. Just knock it all out. And then it's just down to, what, a Baby Dragon and a Balloon? You can fight that.
Yeah, and if he had the lightning for it, there's the answer to that.
Yeah. So I think, if I'm Godslayer, I'm probably sticking with the same deck. He said he's just going to stick with it. I think he's having a good time.
Yeah.
He's having a blast, just happy to be here. So he's going to keep playing that Lava Hound deck, I would assume. Now, if I'm Rice, I might be considering doing what Lucifer did, switch to an Executioner Tornado deck of some variety.
Yeah, what we were saying before before that match happened was, how is Rice going to deal with a Lavaloon? You said we haven't seen him deal with a Lavaloon, and now we saw it. And
Not very well.
It wasn't too well. I don't know if it was panic or if he just didn't have the right matchup for it. Like you said, it seemed like it was built to counter another Lavaloon deck with that Inferno Dragon, but
some odd choices. Like, why not a rocket? Like, you know that he's going to be playing this this Elixir Collector Lavaloon deck.
Yep.
You have a rocket, you can take out those Elixir Collectors, and if he plays a Balloon, you can always rocket the Balloon. Now, maybe it's tough to have both, but it's not like Lightning was significantly better in that situation. Like, I didn't see a lot of situations where I was like, oh, Lightning was so much better than a Rocket there. Like, whoa, what a great choice.
And especially in this meta, I feel like Rocket is better than Lightning in most situations. Three Musketeers aren't as prevalent anymore. They're still around, but they're not dominating like they were before. Executioners everywhere. And if you're playing a Lava Loon deck, then having that Rocket like Godslayer did, you can rocket that Executioner down. Like obviously in the past match, we saw Lucifer be able to still win with the Executioner against the Rocket, but I feel like the Rocket is still a little bit more versatile because you can hit the pumps with it as well. Lightning, it still allows you to get one pump off, which that one elixir continuously adds up.
You know what'd be a crazy deck that Rice could probably pull out is either something with Executioner and Inferno Dragon and Elixir Collector, like way too many rocket targets, right, for any one person to deal with, or he could play, as we mentioned in the Tournament Talk pre-show, could play Expo.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Expo is going to drag... If you have an Expo deck, especially one with Elixir Collector in it, you can put the Elixir Collectors down. He plays Elixir Collector. You're rocketing it. He's trying to rocket yours. But then when you put the Expo down, he's got nothing to put in front. He doesn't have a rocket to take it out either.
Yeah, and a few months ago, the Elixir Collector was actually in a lot of Expo decks. And then when Beatdown started to come back in, Inferno Dragon started to see a little more play in that. So, like you were saying, having Inferno Dragon, it's for one less elixir than the Inferno Tower, and it moves. It can be used on offense too, so it'll be interesting to see if Rice does something along those lines, bring out the Expo where he knows Godslayer will most likely be playing Lava Loon.
That was an exciting game one. We're going to check in the locker room real quick before getting into game number 2.
Our first 3 crown of the day. Godslayer's one step closer to getting that first win of the week.
Oh yeah, but I feel like now, I mean, we're starting to see a trend that Lava Loon's coming back as you kind of predicted.
Godslayer just can't put it down.
No.
I mean, it doesn't matter though. He just keeps crushing people with it. He's just so good at it.
And interesting that Rice brought his own version of Lava Loon, and he had the Inferno Dragon in there, which he's getting a buff soon, but not yet.
Yeah, I don't think he knows that it hasn't been buffed yet. I actually thought that was a pretty
Check your
clever
dates,
pick.
kids.
Yeah, that's on the 12th, not the 10th. I thought that was a pretty clever pick though, because I mean, it functions as an Inferno Tower, which obviously helps a lot in the Lava Loon matchup, but also affords a little bit of a counter push. Never really saw that because it kept dying at the bridge. But I mean, it was a smart pick.
Yeah, I mean, he was definitely he wanted to use it defensively, and he knew what he was going up against. He knows Godslayer loves to put those fat air units out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really run Zap that often anymore, so I think it's not going to get interrupted most likely on defense, but Godslayer made it so difficult for him to place well once.
Have we seen any E-Wizzes today?
I don't think we have.
That surprises me.
I
No,
feel like
did we earlier on? No.
I don't know.
We've seen a lot of cards today.
I don't think we've seen Eva's though. But my prediction for this game 2 is that I feel like Godslayer is going to stick with Lava Loon, and I feel like Rice is going to switch.
Yep, that's probably what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if, I think Rumham was the one that said that he might switch to Expo. Full Frontage said that. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Although, I mean, Godslayer did play Expo earlier and still beat it, right? Didn't he? Yeah. No. Did he?
Seen a lot of matches.
Did you ask it over and over until I remember?
Was there an E-Wiz in that match?
Maybe Sparky?
Yeah, I think our players are ready, so Rumham and Full Frontage, bring us right back in. How's the rest of this series going to go?
It's tough to say. Here's the thing. I was really impressed by Godslayer on that, but I think Rice probably misfired on his deck choice.
Yeah.
But hey, before we get into game 2, we're starting any second, but I bet you that Rice had a hard time choosing decks because he just saw the new sneak peek that was just announced literally like less than 15 minutes ago. 5 deck slots in the next update. Players are going to have the ability to have more than just 3 decks, up to 5 decks now.
That's very exciting, and that's very good for tournaments like this.
Probably the most requested feature of the next update. Now here we go. We're back into the game again. Godslayer's loving that Lava Loon deck. Not stopping on that one. Rice, what was that? Oh, no. Oh, no, he missed. He missed the tower. He was so, like, the funny thing is, you don't have to be that quick. It's not like a rocket. So here's the thing. Rocket will full kill an Elixir Collector, but with how long it takes for Rocket to go, you got to fire it real quick. You can't wait on it. Lightning only takes 6 of the 7 pumps off, so you actually have like a 10 to 15 second window to cast it.
Yeah.
It looked like Rice was trying to do it a little quickly there, and missed the tower, and that's really going to hurt. This Rocket's taking out 7 Elixir worth of defense.
And now comes out the Inferno Dragon that will melt the Lava Hound, but the Lava Pups and Bats from the Night Witch will take care of that Lava Pup, or the Inferno Dragon pretty quick.
Once we see that log again, and like, I'm not a big believer in the log, especially not against the Night Witch. The Bats are coming out, taking care of the Inferno Dragon, and that tower is taking huge damage. Little fist pump from Godslayer.
Yeah, he got off some really good value from that Night Witch there. The log being used to just do damage to the Night Witch, and I don't know if that was worth it. I don't know what else he had in his rotation at that point.
I think he does know that log's out of hand, though. Great defense by Baby Dragon there. I think that's probably the most reasonable defense. He did get a little bit of damage, but I think Rice is happy with that defense. Another pump comes out for Godslayer. Let's see if a lightning comes out. This time, might hit the tower.
Yep, there it is. It's going to strike the tower this time. He's not missing it for a second time. If he does, that is just critical for the match.
I'm a huge fan of Godslayer using the emotes. I mean, I like to know these players on a more personal level. I want to see their personality shine through in their gameplay and in their how they approach these tournaments. Godslayer, no matter that he lost the first 2 rounds, not shy about showing off a little bit.
Nah, he's just having a little fun right now, and the balloon is actually going to follow that Lava Hound right there.
Straight. I'm surprised. Oh, but it didn't lock on. Nothing's actually locked onto it yet. Now 2 things have locked onto it. I don't suspect it's going to make it to the tower.
No, it won't.
But the death explosion.
The death damage will finish off the Mega Minion and do some damage to the Baby Dragon.
And because he's having to log defensively, Rice's, those logs aren't hitting the tower. Normally you see logs used at the river because they get that a little bit of splash damage over and over again. I think Godslayer's got to be thrilled. Even though he's eating lightnings on that other side, every time that happens, he's getting 1 elixir ahead, right? So it's not the worst outcome.
Yeah, and we see a lava balloon push coming out from Rice now. The rocket almost missed the balloon right there.
The balloon doesn't make it.
The balloon is going to fall. 1 bat focused onto the balloon and it took it down. That bat could be a game changer.
We are seeing the Inferno Dragon do what it's meant to do, though. It took out a lot of stuff on Rice's side of the board. Until that thing crosses the river, it causes a lot of problems.
Yep, and here comes another Lava Hound push. The Baby Dragon looks like it did get in front of the Lava Hound. The rocket's going to come down. It hits the balloon, but misses the Lava Hound. The bats are going to spawn in from the Night Witch, but they target the Lava Hound. The balloon is going to get against the tower, and we are going to a...
Oh, it didn't get the
Baby Dragon.
It might here. We've got 200 left, 157 left. Lightning,
the lightning
comes down.
Rice.
Wow. That game was a total turnaround from the first game. That Inferno Dragon did its job over and over again. Rockets were actually coming down for Godslayer and taking out stuff, but because he was shooting like a Mega Minion and a Baby Dragon instead of the Inferno Dragon, that's really the problem. It ran away with the game.
Yeah, and the Baby Dragon came down just a little too late, but also a little too early. It did take down the balloon, which kept the game alive, but it was put on the opposite side of the tower, and when the Lava Hound exploded, the pup spawned in on the right side of the tower while the Baby Dragon was stuck on the left-hand side of the tower, and the pups were able to hit the tower.
Yeah, that's so close. And again, like I'm gonna kind of question these players' deck choices. They're played the same deck again. Now here in Game 3, if I'm expecting the same deck out of both opponents, I gotta make some changes. You cannot play Log the 3rd game in a row. It's done like nothing for Rice on defense or really on offense. But if he had an arrows or something, tornadoes, something like that, it would have been so much more effective.
Yeah, I feel like maybe in Rice's deck, not necessarily Tornado, but maybe in Godslayer's deck because he has that rocket.
Yeah.
So Tornado might be more effective in Godslayer's deck, but maybe arrows would be better in Rice's deck.
I mean, I like the Tornado because you still have Baby Dragon, so you got splash options, but being able to pull the balloon away from the tower, or God willing, Godslayer willing, into the other lane, then you can totally throw off these pushes right from the start.
Yeah.
But they've stuck with these decks the first 2 games. They may switch it up for Game 3. I'm excited to see how that goes. Before we get into Game 3, let's check in with the locker room one last time.
Rice seemed to finally get value out of that Inferno Dragon.
Yeah,
it worked out for him.
It was a good pick. After all, it worked that time.
I'm shocked that they both kept, mainly Rice. I'm shocked that he kept the same deck.
Yeah. I mean, Godslayer's not going to change, obviously. He told us that 10 minutes ago. But
shock.
You would think he might at least change the log, like they were saying earlier. It doesn't seem to be doing any good for him.
On this final moment.
Finally,
the rocket hit the balloon. I thought we were safe.
I know.
The balloon just snuck
Nothing
by
was
without
targeted
anything
on it.
targeted. I thought that Baby Dragon locked onto something else. I think it actually hit. Is it hitting the lava balloon there?
I think it is,
It got the lava balloon.
But he got the bomb damage from it. And Rice had that lightning ready, which is that's pretty good to come back because he kind of misfired that lightning right off the bat. And you're like, yikes, because that is 6 elixir.
Rumham was just like, what was that?
Yeah. He was like in the middle of a sentence. He's like, whoa. Oh, that wasn't on purpose. There's no way that was on purpose.
Yep. Slippery fingers. Sometimes, all right, this is a little anecdote. Sometimes whenever I'm playing and I'm trying to land a spell, I pick my finger up, but I drag a little bit on accident. That might have happened there.
Yeah. That's totally possible.
He's better than you.
Shaky finger.
I'd like to hope he wouldn't do that, though.
I'm okay.
Okay, and then really good.
I'm not up there.
Yeah, that's true. But no, that I thought the misplay would have just thrown him off. A lot of times an initial misplay right off the bat, you know you might be down a few elixir here and there, and you're just immediately going to be playing on defensive. And it took Rice forever, which I like that he did it, but it took him a long time to finally get his lava loon push out.
Yeah. Yes,
he
it
was
did.
waiting and playing defensively just to get a few elixir ahead.
It only takes one though.
Yeah.
I mean, it is lava loon. You get that balloon on the tower solidly, it's gonna stick there and do a lot of damage.
Yeah, it only took the one. All right, game 3. Rice and Godslayer. Will Godslayer get his first win of the week? I don't know. Rumham and full frontage. What do you guys think?
Oh man, this is gonna be an intense game 3 of the final match of the day. What do you think? Who's gonna take it?
I mean, it's hard for me because here's the thing. I don't know Rice. I haven't met the guy. He's not here. He's not in the studio. It's hard for me to bond with him as a human.
Yeah.
But Godslayer's cracking me up, buddy. He had that good interview. He's playing one deck. I like players who are really, like specialists in a single deck. So it's fun for that. Plus, come on, buddy. He's got anywhere from 5 to 10 gallons of hat on his head.
Oh man, here we go. The final game of the day. Godslayer versus Rice. And
we had some good ideas because they're listening to us. We've got a tornado in Godslayer's deck and an arrows in Rice's deck. So I think both of them realize that they're going for the lava loon mirror. Let's juice these decks up a little bit.
yeah, and that's exactly what they did. Again, arrows in the deck of Rice, good against the lava pups, the Night Witch bats, and the Goblin Gang.
Didn't really lose anything over the log. On the other hand, Tornado is going to be really good for the rocket. He can pull things like both of those dragons, like the Inferno Dragon and Baby Dragon, pull them onto the tower and then rocket them both. That's 8 elixir for Rice, 9 elixir for Godslayer, so it's kind of an even trade given that you're getting a huge amount of damage.
And even if he can't get that rocket value off, he can tornado the Inferno Dragon off of the Lava Hound and make it reset its charge.
It's a very good point. Yeah, there's a lot of uses for it. Both of these players might even wait all the way till double elixir time. Well played comes out of Godslayer. So again, they're both playing very heavy decks. I would assume that Godslayer does not have an elixir collector in his opening hand because that's one of the few cards where you're happy to play it, even, if it makes you open to an attack.
Yeah, if I had to guess, both players are ready to go in with their game-winning pushes being Lava Hound and Balloon.
Yeah.
That's probably what they have in their hand. That's going to be what they're looking forward to be playing coming in the next 30 seconds.
I play a lot of golems, so sometimes you have the situation where you just wait until double elixir time.
Yep.
The best time to play something is actually 1 minute 2 seconds.
Yes.
1 minute 2 seconds, because what you want is to spend it all, and right as you hit that double elixir time, you don't want to be caught sitting at 10. You want to get the maximum amount of that recovery. So expect to see something hit the board, probably a Lava Hound like you mentioned in the back, right around the 105, 103-ish
Now,
mark.
the interesting thing is, are they going to play the Lava Hound in different lanes?
That's a big point, because then you have to really decide how much do I want to commit on offense versus defense. They've been going heads up against each other this whole time.
Yeah, so a Night Witch actually gets placed in the back right, and a Baby Dragon. So 4-4, and neither player wants to fully commit, but a Lava Hound coming out from Godslayer.
I think he's hoping to hit a rocket here on both of these dragons. But look how they're spread out. Really good job. Ooh, let's see what this hits. It gets one, but not the other.
Baby Dragon, wow.
But the bats are cleaning that thing up pretty quick. It might not be the end of the world there. Arrows comes down.
Arrows come down. No damage done to the tower. And since Rice did play the Lightning, Godslayer knows he can pump safely.
And look at that, no damage on Rice's tower. The arrow's way better than log against flying things. So here comes the Goblin Gang, blocked by the Baby Dragon.
Yep, Baby Dragon will shut that down, no problem. And then tank the Spear Goblins. Lightning finally goes down on the pump. I don't know about that.
It's a little late, I agree, and that's like what happened to him last time, is he used the Lightning, and now you have free reign to kind of throw as much stuff down as you want. Downside is that this Inferno Dragon has locked on. I think we'll see the arrows should come out here for Rice. Now watch this. We're going to see arrows come out, take out the bats and the pups. No! He doesn't have it in cycle!
No, the Baby Dragon's going to come down and do just as well. He could have received a lot more damage than that, but the Baby Dragon cleaned up most of the lava pups and the bats.
Rice goes for the Lightning. That's fine, because he's putting that tower lower on damage, and it had already taken its one pump, so it's fine. You're not really leaving any pumps on the board like we saw in prior Lightnings. The catch here is that Godslayer does... Oh, he goes for the balloon. He doesn't have the rocket. He doesn't have the elixir for the rocket.
Nope, and he's going to be closing in on it. Baby Dragon's going to come down. Let's see if a defensive Lightning is going to come down.
Oh, no!
The rocket goes on, and Godslayer.
Boom! He gives the guns. He throws the hat. Godslayer walks off the stage with his first win of the game. Woo!
The little cowboy action right there from Godslayer.
Yes, buddy, fist pump. There's no opponent to make you feel bad about celebrating. That is Godslayer taking a 2-1 Game 3 victory. He hears it from the crowd. He's loving it.
Baby.
What a character.
What a game. The rocket coming out, and Rice just didn't have the answers for what Godslayer was pushing with.
And we talked about game vision. I think that he really set him up there. He said, like, I'm going to go with the balloon because I know it's going to force my opponent to put a bunch of stuff on defense. He probably had the tornado in hand, too, and was considering tornadoing all that stuff onto the tower and finishing the game with a big old rocket.
Yeah, but I think he saw the balloon. The balloon wasn't targeted at all.
Yeah.
And Godslayer noticed that, so he's like, I don't even need a rocket.
Yeah, Inferno Dragon's already on the board. It's locked onto the Lava Hound. I've got some time to slip this balloon by. Yep. All that stuff came through. A great play by Godslayer, but a crushing defeat for Rice. Started off 2-0. There were probably people thinking like, yo, is this guy going to go 7-0, 6-1?
Yep.
He's crushing people. Drops around to Batman. Drops a very sad Game 3 to Godslayer.
Yep.
Goes to 2-2 after opening 2-0 today.
Yeah, and we were talking about that momentum that Rice could have held.
Yeah.
If he left today 4-0, he puts that terror on his opponents for the rest of the season. But now he's 2-2, so he's on an even playing field just along with everybody else.
He's effectively 0-0 at this point with only 3 matches to play. The benefit for Rice is that he only has to play 1 or 2 players in the 2 following weeks. And if he can go 3-0 in those matches, 5-2 is definitely good enough for one of the upper records. Really, I think you're just looking for a winning record. You're playing against it's the top 8 players in North America. No one's expected to clean everyone else's clocks here. But if you can go 4-3 in your 7 matches, you're at least safe for the spring finals tournament.
Yeah, keeping that winning record is so important. And Rice could have had that advantage, but now he's back. So he's down to earth with everybody else. Godslayer brought him back down.
Yeah, and we're about to write off Godslayer.
Yeah.
Like, if you're 0-3, I think we can assume that you're going to end up in the bottom 2. But now at 1-2, he's not doing much worse than a lot of the players here today.
No, he's on an even field.
Yeah, got 2 matches. I assume 2 matches next week and 2 matches the week after. And if he can pull those off, even just as like win 2-0 one week and 1-1 the next week, he's got a pretty respectable record.
Yeah, you could still be safe. We'll have to see what the rest of the weeks come to play. Let's head back to the locker room and see what they have to say about this last match.
Godslayer, a newcomer, going toe-to-toe with Rice, a player who just earlier today we said would started dominating people that we were a little surprised to see.
I have to say, I love that the fans picked that. I mean, what an epic battle that was.
That was a pretty insane match. I think Godslayer might be my new favorite.
I mean,
after that pop-up
hat
at the
throw.
end, the finger gun and the hat throw, that was incredible.
He went full for it, yeah.
As a Texan boy myself, he's doing us proud.
I mean, that final push right here, the Inferno Dragon locked on to
Here comes the rocket.
Yeah, that dang balloon just snuck in there for just enough damage for the rocket to take it out.
And that was a bit of a gamble. Like, he threw that. He threw that right out. Like,
that was
a little early.
I was worried he didn't have enough elixir, but as soon as he got it, he shot that rocket off, and he probably knew that was it.
I mean, he had to know the balloon was going to make contact. There's no tornado. All he had was arrows. And once the Inferno Dragon locked onto the wrong opponent, like, it didn't get the balloon instead.
Yeah, whoever's in the basket of that balloon just radioed backwards, like, target lock.
Yeah, I've got it, buddy.
That
you
was
can send the rocket in now.
I mean, one of our first, the 3 crown of the day, and we went to 3 matches, and both of them had very similar decks the whole way through. That was amazing to watch.
All right, so the first day we're done. 9 matches in, a lot of points have been dispersed now. 9 points to be a little specific.
That's how math works.
A little specific. Batman and Lucifer right now at the top. Batman, he hasn't lost yet, so he's technically in the lead right now. And we thought it was going to be a little difficult for Godslayer, but he's now tied for 6th place. He's going to be up there following pursuit with some of the other guys.
Shows him in the red, but it's not entirely accurate. Yeah. He is tied with C McHugh.
Should be up a little bit higher there.
Yeah, can we move him up one? He just won. Let's play him back in the blue. He earned it.
Low Five's a pretty big fan of him right now.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's
So
my favorite.
earlier in the broadcast, just in case you missed it, we gave away a little code for you guys to go in the store. So we're posting our 20% code to the Supercell store yet again, in case you missed it. So this code is only available for 24 hours. So this obviously pertains mostly to our live viewers. So be sure to use it as soon as possible. You missed the $500 code. I'm sorry, that was a one-shot deal. And if it hasn't been taken, I promise you, I'm going to take it the moment I step off this set.
Spread the word too. I mean, it shouldn't just be the live viewers, or maybe they can have something special. You know?
So we've had a lot of action here in the second half.
Yes, we have.
We've had 5 matches now, some intense moments. The top 5 plays of our second half. Here they are. The first one.
Let's see.
It's going to be a graveyard win from Batman.
Oh, yeah.
Match number
That
6
man
of the
did
day.
well today.
He really did.
He
I loved his
definitely
decks.
I know.
Plus Dark Goblin.
Dark Goblin you love.
You can see right there as soon as it
Wow,
goes
it
down,
just
that's going to be a
drains
successful
the tower.
graveyard.
Yeah,
When
no
6
kidding.
skeletons get up without being treated to any kind of danger, it's going to be a good graveyard.
He even gets number 4, the Batman Battle Ram. That final push to try and make it through.
I love it.
That Battle Ram just
That's
making it
zap.
through.
A surprising amount of Battle Ram. I mean, I had just started getting used to the Battle Ram with 3M builds, and today it was just pretty much all Battle Ram by itself.
Yep. And coincidentally, number 3 is our only 3 crown of the day. This was the first and only 3 crown we had. Godslayer pushed all the way through with this
Amazing.
balloon push.
Our rookie. Show
Yeah.
him what he's got today.
Yeah,
He
Three
really
crowning
loves-
against Rice, who's a veteran.
I'm so impressed by Godslayer, just wrecking everybody with the lava balloon.
Oh, look at the
He
back.
switched it up for the first match
Yeah.
and lost, and went
Realized
right back to his roots after
Yeah.
that. Played lava balloon the rest of the way. Did so much better.
But earlier in the day, Godslayer did fall to Oxalate. Oxalate played well in his final push.
That push is so strong. The
Yeah.
giant with the Night Witch behind.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it's really, really hard to deal with the Night Witch when it's behind anything.
I did hold my breath right at that moment though for Pekka.
Yeah.
That was interesting, that defensive minor. It worked.
Oxalate popping off a little bit there.
Yeah.
Nice
our
little fist
top-
bump.
Yeah, our top play of the day, Lucifer against Godslayer. Lucifer was
Oh,
able to
yeah.
just sneak this one out.
That bomb just didn't quite do enough with the log even. And he
Oh.
just, oh yeah, the
I
pump.
didn't want to see this again.
What a sad moment.
Oh,
That
so
could
little
not have
help.
been too great.
The panic pump.
Oh, we got the point. That's for you. Maybe he's pointing at you, Will, because you're rooting for him.
I hope so. Well, no, I changed teams. I'm Team
Yeah,
Godslayer.
now he's Team Cowboy Hat.
Yeah, Team Cowboy.
All right, so it's been an amazing day of Clash Royale here today. 9 matches, but we have so many more. I'm sure I emphasized it plenty of times today, but I'll do it one more time. Remember, this is a round robin, so every player that you've seen has to play everybody else at least once to get through it. So every single player has an opportunity to earn 7 points. But that means we'll be back next week. So same time, next week, 7 days from today, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, for those of you on the other side of the coast. But from myself, Final Carpet, BBXH, and Low 5, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.